Our story begins with a lineage of legends. His grandfather was the formidable Purple Thorn Pang, a beast who once shook the world, and his grandmother was the legendary SX rank Divine Beast. As the heir to two of the most elite bloodlines, Bai Ling the Serpent Phoenix should have been the pride of the heavens, destined for greatness. However, in this era where everyone awakens a beast soul, he instead awakens something quite different, a desolate, crumbling tomb that seemed utterly devoid of life. To think the descendant of such a prestigious bloodline would awaken nothing but a piece of illegal architecture. The entire school watched with expressions full of mockery. As the waves of laughter threatened to drown him out, that very tomb, the one dismissed as useless trash, suddenly emitted a sound that changed everything. A chilling wind swept through, making their very souls tremble. Congratulations were in order. He had awakened the only hidden weapon soul, the Temple of the 10 Calamities. By completing 10 trials, he could unlock the 10 ancient beasts and rewrite mythology. And today, as it happens, was a very significant day. It was the awakening ceremony at Shanghai Monster Academy. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, his beautiful girlfriend, Su War, was slowly stepping onto the platform. She stood before the altar and placed her hand upon the shimmering, awakening stone. A second later, a blinding flash of light erupted from the center. The brilliant radiance exploded outward, instantly sweeping across the entire square and forcing everyone to shield their eyes from the glare. After a moment of stunned silence, the crowd erupted in shock. The aura was terrifying, surely a sign of at least an A-rank talent, if not higher. Some even whispered about an S-rank. As the light gradually faded, Su Water's silhouette began to undergo a truly marvelous transformation. She shifted into a creature resembling a deer, covered in shimmering blue-gold feathers, the legendary S-rank Azure Feather Spirit Deer. To make matters even more impressive, she was a rare healing-type monster, the ultimate support. To be honest, such a find is a miracle in itself. The healing capabilities of an Azure Feather Spirit Deer on the battlefield are considered terrifying, boasting incredible recovery and endless endurance. No matter which elite legion she joined, she would be fought over. You see, Monster Awakening ranks range from the lowly D rank all the way up. The ranks go through C, B, A, S, SS, and finally SSS, 7 levels in total. Under normal circumstances, the world works quite simply. Awakening a B-rank monster is enough to be considered a genius, but an S-rank? That makes one a true favorite of the heavens, 1 in 10,000. Those with SS rank souls are the elite powerhouses of the Great Xiao region. As for the legendary SSS rank, well, that is another matter entirely. In the entire Great Xiao region, there are fewer than 10 such individuals. At this moment, Su Water was undoubtedly standing in the spotlight with a limitless future. She walked toward him with light, graceful steps, but the warmth in her eyes had vanished, replaced by a cold and distant indifference. "Good luck, Lung Pe," she said. He clearly sensed the coldness in Su Water's tone, and knowing exactly what it meant, he gave a silent nod. As he turned and walked toward the awakening platform, the moment his palm touched the stone, a faint, gray glimmer quietly flickered to life. High above in the sky, the dim, colorless shadow of a phantom palace began to emerge, and the entire crowd instantly erupted into an uproar. "No way, brother, are you on the wrong set?" they mocked. "Everyone else awakens fierce monsters, and here you are awakening a house." The most ridiculous part was that this house looked like nothing more than a foundation. He was finished, completely useless. "Take him away," they shouted. Despite the mockery and noise filling his ears, there wasn't a hint of distress on Lung Po's face. Instead, he looked slightly puzzled. A second later, a cold, mechanical voice echoed inside his mind, announcing, "Congratulations, host. You have successfully bound the Temple of the 10 Calamities. Complete the 10 trials issued by the temple to awaken the 10 great maiden beasts. The first trial has now been initiated. Please swallow the awakening stone before you within 1 minute. If the stone is crushed, the mission will be considered a failure. The temple will automatically unbind. Success grants the SSS rank power of Tao Dai." Lung Po was startled, his heart racing at the sudden stakes. His gaze fell upon the awakening stone with a complex expression. Meanwhile, below the stage, Principal Wang Daji's face turned a livid shade of green. He turned to the dean beside him and gave a sharp order. "Don't let this trash waste any more of our time. Go and tell him right now. His eligibility for the college entrance exam is revoked. He is to process his withdrawal immediately and move out of the dormitory. He must pay the overdue tuition within a month, or we'll see him in court." "Yes, Principal," the dean replied, obeying the command. The dean nodded and hurried onto the platform. He looked down at Lung Po with a sneer, his voice as cold as ice. "I have a notice for you. Since you have been behind on your tuition for a year, the school has decided to expel you immediately. You have 1 day to move out of the dorms. The debt must be settled within a month, otherwise," he paused for effect, "we will pursue legal action to hold you accountable." With that, he tossed a formal withdrawal notice right in front of the young man. At that very moment, Su War also walked to the edge of the platform, her eyes filled with a chilling disdain. "I've thought it over carefully," she began. "We simply aren't a match," she said coldly. "I've awakened the Qingyu Lin Lu, while you've only managed to manifest a useless foundation. We belong to different worlds now. To be honest, you have no value to me anymore. Let's break up." With those final words, she turned and walked away without a hint of regret. Meanwhile, the mechanical voice in Lung Po's mind echoed again, sounding more urgent. 5-second countdown. "Host, please swallow the awakening stone immediately to complete the trial. Otherwise, the Temple of the 10 Calamities will automatically unbind." 5, 4. Fine, he thought. If he must swallow it, he will. Having a second chance at life, he refused to let anyone look down on him ever again. As he swallowed the stone, the entire platform fell into a stunned silence. Everyone was completely baffled. In the next second, we see Lung Po's consciousness being pulled by a powerful, irresistible force. He entered a grand and magnificent sanctuary, the Temple of the 10 Calamities itself. Deep within the temple's halls, 10 giant, monstrous shadows shrouded in darkness stood tall, their presence overwhelming. Suddenly, the eyes of one of those shadows ignited with a fierce, crimson bloodlight. Immediately after, the beast let out a roar that shook the very heavens, and the stars above seemed to be pulled by an invisible, terrifying force. They were all sucked into its bottomless, gaping maw. Lung Po stood there, completely shaken by the spectacle unfolding before his eyes. "Congratulations, host, on completing the first trial of Tao Dai. You can now freely transform into the Super SSS rank Great Beast, Tao Tai. You have received the Tao Ye's heritage. Talent 1, Infinite Devouring. All things in heaven and earth can be consumed. Once devoured, they are converted into pure energy to nourish your body with zero waste. Talent 2, Infinite Plunder. You may seize the talents of others for your own use. This can be used only once per day. The victim will lose that talent permanently, and the target's strength cannot exceed the host's by more than one major rank. Talent 3, Berserk Tyranny. Upon entering a state of rage, Tao Ye's attack, defense, and recovery abilities all increase tenfold. The battle does not end until the enemy is dead. Warning, this talent places extreme strain on the host's body. Use with caution. After reading the descriptions, Lung Po's eyes widened in shock. To be perfectly honest, these talents were nothing short of absurdly powerful. At that moment, the voice of the Temple of the 10 Calamities spoke again, announcing the second trial of Tao Tai, the Myriad Beast Reagent. To complete this trial, he would need to successfully devour the corpses of 10,000 bronze-level monsters. Once finished, he would receive Tao Ye's exclusive skill heritage, the God-Slaying Spear, the Blood Cage, and the Mingspa Blood Flame. Meanwhile, back on the platform, Wang Daji was absolutely livid that Lung Po had swallowed the awakening stone. "What are you all standing there for? Call the police. This kid destroyed school property. He must go to jail." But just as those words left his mouth, Lung Po's eyes snapped open, a flicker of crimson, predatory light flashing within them. Seeing this, Wang Daji instinctively stepped toward him. He shouted a harsh reprimand, telling the boy that the stone was worth 5 million. However, before he could finish his sentence, a thick, bloody mist enveloped Lung Po's body, and a violent, bloodthirsty aura began to spread wildly from within him. In an instant, the entire awakening platform was shrouded. Everyone held their breath, their faces turning pale as their bodies trembled uncontrollably. This aura was simply too violent, too bloodthirsty. It felt as though they weren't facing a mere teenage boy anymore, but a ferocious beast emerging from ancient ruins, carrying the exact same pressure as the wild monsters found beyond the walls. The class teacher, Li Bo, was stunned. He had awakened a B-rank monster himself and was considered a powerhouse at the academy. Yet, in this moment, he felt suffocated. He realized with a shock that the rank of this boy's monster was definitely far beyond B rank. Li Bo quickly stepped forward to advise Wang Daji. "Principal, look at the situation. The monster he awakened is clearly not simple. There's no need to expel him. We must measure his rank immediately. We can't let such a talent go to waste." But since the stone was already swallowed, a standard test was impossible. Wang Daji's expression soured. With no other choice, the principal took out his phone and made several calls. Lung Po watched all of this with a cold smirk. He had already seen through Wang Daji's opportunistic nature. Since the man had publicly expelled him without hesitation, he had no intention of staying. At the Shanghai Monster Academy, as he was thinking, a piercing, metallic roar suddenly echoed from the sky above. A massive, winged beast broke through the clouds and slowly descended. It was the terrifying Madhorn pterosaur. This was a powerful beast known as an aerial ace. The crowd was filled with confusion, wondering which high-ranking figure had arrived for a mere student's awakening. It was truly rare to see a gold-level powerhouse disturbed by such events. Suddenly, 3 figures leaped down from the pterosaur's back under the moonlight. The pterosaur itself transformed into a middle-aged man and landed. As the onlookers focused their eyes, a collective gasp went up. These 4 men, as it turned out, were the principals of the Jufeng, Zijing, Bihai, and Yinfeng Monster Academies. We see them carrying a massive, shining awakening stone as they walked straight toward Wang Daji. One of the principals spoke with a smirk. "Old Wang, we heard your awakening stone was swallowed, so we specifically brought the largest and purest one from our own academy. Take a look. It's much better than your old one, isn't it?" Wang Daji's face shifted through shades of blue and white. He let out a cold snort. "You old foxes. I can smell your schemes from 1,000 miles away. Just give it here." Taking the awakening stone, Wang Daji immediately swapped his anger for a fawning smile, turning to Lung Pe. Student, I was wrong just now. I shouldn't have been so impulsive. It doesn't matter that you swallowed that stone. I have a new one here. Try it. Let us see your monster's rank. Also, we will withdraw the expulsion notice immediately. You'll stay at the academy, and resources will be prioritized for you. Hearing this, Lung Po's lips curled into a cold, mocking smile as he spoke calmly. Sorry, principal, since you've already expelled me, I have no intention of staying at Shanghai Monster Academy. Wang Daji's face darkened as he replied in disbelief. What? You won't stay? Think carefully. Our Shanghai Academy is the best in the entire Shanghai province. Here, you can get the best education and the most abundant resources. Don't gamble with your future. Lung Pe, however, didn't feel like wasting words. He simply repeated himself coldly, I'm not staying. At those words, Wang Daji's face turned completely black, while the 4 visiting principals immediately swarmed forward, competing to throw olive branches at the boy. Young man, ignore him. Come to our Jufeng Monster Academy. We only have 2 S-rank students. If you come, you can use any resources you want. We won't let you down. Why go to them? Come to our Zijing Academy. We only have 1 S-rank, so all resources will tilt toward you. We're much better than those guys. At our Beihai Monster Academy, we don't even have 1 S-rank. If you're willing to come, the entire school's resources are yours alone to use. The final principal chimed in, insisting the boy join Enfeng Monster Academy. He admitted they already had 1 S-rank student, but pointed out they had the most beautiful girls. Since Lung Pe was newly single, he promised him his pick of the best. A bold strategy, to be sure. We see the 4 principals arguing until they are red in the face, while the students below watch the spectacle in utter disbelief. The difference in treatment was staggering. Wang Daji stood to the side, his expression turning darker by the second. Yet he was completely powerless. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and roared for them to stop. He demanded they test the boy's rank first. After all, it wasn't certain he was an S-rank yet. Lung Po's gaze swept calmly over the crowd, finally landing on Su Er. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. He was quite curious to see what her face would look like once his true rank was revealed. Then, he stepped forward and pressed his palm against the new awakening stone. Suddenly, a light even more blinding than Su Er's erupted with a roar, instantly illuminating the entire Shanghai Academy. But a second later, something truly shocking occurred. With a sharp, crystalline crack, that massive awakening stone was actually shattered by the sheer intensity of the light. It turned into countless fragments that scattered across the ground. The entire field fell into a deathly silence. No one could believe their eyes. We should remember that these stones are built to withstand anything up to an S-rank. For it to shatter so completely meant that his talent far exceeded the S-rank limit. In the entire history of Shanghai Monster Academy, this had only happened once before, 30 years ago. Back then, a student had awakened the SS rank monster, the Heavenly Azure Dragon. That event had shocked the entire province. At the time, a top-tier monster university immediately sent representatives overnight, granting that student special admission. After graduation, he joined the military Holy Corps directly, without needing a single exam. Later, he left to found his own Holy Corps, becoming a legendary leader. The strength of that organization is now considered top tier in the entire Great Xia Empire. As for the man himself, he is now a powerful war king in the military. His name is etched into the memory of everyone in Shanghai. Xiao Tianba, leader of the Heavenly Holy Corps and one of the 36 war kings. At this moment, Su Er stood frozen in the crowd, watching the scene unfold. To be honest, she looked completely lost. The pride and indifference on her face vanished in an instant, replaced by a look of sheer shock and disbelief. The boyfriend she had just dumped moments ago had actually awakened a talent far beyond S rank, likely the legendary SS rank. The massive gap in their fortunes caused her legs to give way, and she collapsed to the ground, filled with sudden regret. Seeing this, the 4 principals began to fight even more fiercely, shouting that their academy absolutely had to have Lin Mo. One even claimed they didn't want their other S-rank students anymore, while another vowed to issue a drastic order immediately. He proposed making the entire school repeat a year just so all resources could be poured into training Lin Mo alone. The principal of Zijing Academy admitted he couldn't be that extreme, but offered his son's entire marriage fund as a dowry for Lin Mo's resources. The head of Enfeng Academy told them not to bother competing on resources, boasting that they had many wealthy female students. He promised that if Lin Mo joined them, these students would provide him with endless funds to buy whatever he desired. Just as the 4 principals were reaching a fever pitch in their arguing, Wang Daji suddenly let out a cold, mocking laugh. He told them not to celebrate too early, reminding them that across the 72 provinces of Great Xia, an SS rank is a national matter. Any awakener above S rank must be reported to the military, who would then send a specialized stone to retest his level. Furthermore, such a genius wouldn't even need the college entrance exams. They would be recruited directly by top-tier universities. He suggested their fighting was all for nothing. Hearing this, the 4 principals finally paused their shouting match. They looked at Wang Daji with utter disdain, arguing that as long as Lin Mo carried their academy's name, it was worth it. Having an SS-rank genius graduate from their school would finally allow their reputation to surpass that of Shanghai Academy. They pointed out that Xinghai had only dominated the other 4 academies because of Xiao Tianba's legacy 30 years ago. They, too, wanted a legend of their own. Wang Daji's lips curled into a sinister smile as he watched them dream. He revealed that he had already notified the military, and their representatives would arrive shortly with a specialized awakening master. If he truly is a legendary SS rank, they couldn't outbid the military or top universities even if they sold their entire academies. At this moment, Wang Daji was feeling a regret so deep it gnawed at his very soul. If only he had known Lin Mo was such a genius. He would have paid 10 years of tuition himself rather than expelling him publicly. Meanwhile, far from the school grounds, at the Xinghai military headquarters, we find Qin Weigua dropping his pen, asking with a heavy expression, "What did you just say?" He couldn't believe a student from Xinghai Academy had prompted all 5 deans to request a specialized military awakening master. His subordinate confirmed the urgent news was no mistake, adding that the deans of Jufeng and Zijing were already on site. To make matters even more public, the entire ceremony was being broadcast live to every corner of Xinghai City. As the subordinate spoke, Qin Weigua immediately opened the stream, his eyes fixing on Lin Mo's figure on the screen. His brow furrowed as he muttered to himself, "Lin Mo, why does that name sound so incredibly familiar?" The subordinate stepped forward, whispering that Lin Mo was actually the son of the 2 fallen heroes, Lin Zhan and Yi Ro. Qin Weigua's face changed instantly as he stood up. He remembered the devastating Xinghai defense battle from 3 years ago. Lin Zhan and Yi Ro had been the military's finest warriors before their heroic sacrifice, especially Lin Zhan. Before the war broke out, he had already passed the trials for the Red Saint Corps, one of Great Xia's 4 legendary elite groups. He had a limitless future, yet he fell on the battlefield, leaving Qin Weigua to mourn their loss for a long time. A spark of recognition lit up Qin Weigua's eyes as he ordered the immediate deployment of the military's exclusive awakening stone. He decided he would go to the academy personally. Just then, a lazy, booming voice echoed from outside the room. The voice suggested that if the chief was going, he should tag along to see just how talented Lin Zhan's son really was. Qin Weigua turned and bowed with deep respect, greeting the newcomer as Battle King Xiao. He confirmed that a genius above S rank had indeed appeared, and it was none other than the son of the martyr Lin Zhan. A flicker of nostalgia passed through Xiao Tianba's eyes as he agreed that this was a sight he simply had to see. And so, the 3 of them boarded an S-rank wyvern, soaring through the sky toward Xinghai Academy at incredible speed. Back at Xinghai Monster Academy, a comfortable lounge chair had been placed on the awakening platform, where Lin Mo was now resting peacefully. With his eyes closed, we see the deans of the 4 academies attending to him with the kind of devotion usually reserved for royalty. One fanned him, another offered herbal tea, while the others massaged his back and legs. Treatment fit for a legendary ancestor, really. The students watched in pure envy, while Wang Daji trembled with rage at the sight. But then, the atmosphere shifted. A sudden, violent gale swept across the sky as a creature far larger than the previous horned wyvern began to descend. This was an S-rank divine horned wyvern, its massive form casting a shadow that seemed to blot out the very sun above the academy. Everyone instinctively looked up, their faces a mix of awe and confusion as they wondered what sort of powerful figure had arrived. To ride an S-rank beast was no small feat. A moment later, 3 figures leaped from the wyvern's back, descending toward the ground. They landed with perfect stability. When the crowd recognized the elegant man in white leading the group, the silence was instantly shattered. The academy erupted in a frenzy of shouts and gasps. Good heavens, someone cried out, "It's Xiao Tianba." It was indeed Battle King Xiao of the Heavenly Prison Saint Corps. As we watch, his calm gaze swept across the entire assembly. His voice wasn't loud, yet it reached every ear with crystalline clarity. He explained he had heard of a young man in Xinghai City, someone with S-rank talent, and had come with Qin Weigua to see for himself. The fact that a Battle King had appeared in person hit the crowd like a thunderclap. Even the live stream's comment section was instantly overwhelmed by a tidal wave of messages. The broadcast, originally meant only for Xinghai, saw its popularity explode across all 72 provinces of Great Xia. Suddenly, millions of people across the nation were tuning in, their eyes fixed on this single awakening ceremony. Xiao Tianba's gaze finally settled on Lin Mo, a faint, perhaps slightly forced smile playing at the corners of his mouth. His tone carried a hint of condescending advice as he noted he'd heard Lin Mo had dropped out of the academy. He remarked that the young shouldn't be so reckless, as being short-sighted would only ruin one's future. Besides, he added, there was blame on both sides. Lin Mo had been behind on tuition, and Dean Wang had simply acted on a moment of impulse. He suggested that since the expulsion was just a misunderstanding, they should simply apologize to each other and move on once Lin Mo graduated. He even offered him a spot in the Heavenly Prison Saint Court alongside his son, Xiao Ao, so the two could learn from one another. It was a growth opportunity, he claimed, as every eye in the crowd remained fixed on Lin Mo, waiting for his inevitable agreement. Su-er sat on the ground watching him, her eyes burning with a bitter jealousy. To her, he had once been nothing more than a loyal follower. Now, he was receiving a personal invitation from Battle King Xiao himself, everything she had ever dreamed of. It hardly seemed fair, did it? But then, Lin Mo slowly opened his eyes and spoke with a calm, unshakable resolve, stating clearly that he refused to return to the academy. He added that he had no intention of joining the heavenly prison Saint Corps either, causing a flash of cold displeasure to cross Xiao Tianba's face. In the 10 years since he had become a battle king of Great Xia, his word had been law. No one had ever dared to refuse him. Lin Mo was the first. Xiao Tianba sneered inwardly, wondering if the boy truly believed an SS rank talent made him invincible in this world. Deep down, the Battle King knew that offending a figure of his stature was a mistake most people found far too costly to make. Even the representatives from the top universities, who had been eager to recruit Lin Mo, suddenly reconsidered their options to avoid any risk. Lin Mo, however, seemed entirely unconcerned. He stood up slowly and began walking toward the exclusive awakening master sent by the military. Xiao Tianba gave him a cold, dismissive glance before turning his attention to Su Er, his tone softening considerably as he addressed the young girl. He noted that her S-rank pure language spirit path talent was quite impressive and invited her to assist his son, Xiao Ao, after graduation. Upon hearing this, Su Er's eyes lit up instantly. All of her previous jealousy and resentment seemed to vanish into thin air. Overwhelmed with joy, she scrambled to her feet and bowed respectfully, thanking the Battle King for his incredible appreciation and favor. She promised to assist young Master Xiao to the best of her ability. In her mind, securing the favor of a Battle King was a golden ticket. She envisioned a future of endless wealth and status, perhaps even becoming the Battle King's daughter-in-law. But just as she finished speaking, a massive pillar of blood-red light, as thick as a water basin, suddenly erupted from within Lin Mo and tore through the clouds. It pierced the very heavens, releasing an ancient, violent, and bloodthirsty aura that instantly swept across the entire Xinghai Monster Academy. The pressure spread to every corner of Xinghai Prefecture, leaving everyone present gasping for air under its crushing weight. One by one, they collapsed to their knees in terror as Lin Mo, at the center of the light, transformed uncontrollably into the Taotai. His 3-meter-tall crimson body was covered in hardened spirit iron, with giant blood-red eyes radiating an endless, predatory light. With tattered wings trembling slightly on his back, he stood facing away from the crowd like a blood god emerging from the depths of hell. His aura was overwhelming. Below the stage, someone shivered and cried out in shock, wondering if this terrifying power was truly just SS rank. But we see that this was far from over. His aura continued to climb, growing stronger as the terrifying pressure blanketed the area. The energy of heaven and earth fluctuated violently across Xinghai, and that blood-red pillar grew even more dazzling as strange visions manifested. The disturbance shook all 72 provinces of Great Xia, causing Xiao Tianba's expression to shift instantly into one of pure shock. He stood up abruptly and exclaimed that something was wrong. This aura was far stronger than what he had felt during his own awakening. A storm of disbelief raged in Xiao Tianba's heart as a terrifying realization began to take root in his mind. This overbearing aura, which forced every monster to feel awe and a desire to submit, could only mean one thing. The young man hadn't awakened an SS rank monster, but rather the legendary SSS rank. To be honest, the difference was astronomical. In the entire history of Great Xia, the number of geniuses who had awakened SSS rank talents could be counted on 10 fingers. Once such a talent is awakened, the individual gains the unconditional right to join any of the 4 Great Saint Corps of Great Xia. Compared to those 4 elite groups, his own heavenly prison Saint Corps was, quite frankly, not even worth mentioning. As the guardians of the nation, the 4 Great Saint Corps report directly to the head of state, bypassing even the 9 Great Kings. The surrounding students found themselves forced to the ground, unable to resist the sheer weight of the terrifying power radiating from the stage. This was the bloodline suppression of the Taotai, an ancient pure-blooded calamity beast. Su Er grit her teeth, struggling against the weight. She used every ounce of her strength to stay upright, refusing to kneel, just as the 4 academy deans and Wang Deji were doing. They all held on with gritted teeth, though their bodies trembled uncontrollably as Su Er's expression grew increasingly pained. Finally, he could no longer endure the pressure and collapsed to the ground with a dull thud, right in front of the boy he once despised. The former bully bowed his head in submission, while at that very moment, Lin Mo felt a mysterious force beginning to stir. We see that this power was attempting to peer into the deepest parts of his body, right as the awakening reached its peak. Knowing that certain factions might target him at any cost, he immediately activated the Taoye's power of devouring. He forcibly swallowed the probing energy into his stomach, completely concealing the aura that had surged beyond its limits. Meanwhile, on the desolate wilderness beyond the human barriers, a colossal beast the size of a mountain crashed to the ground. This was a terrifying king-rank monster that ruled its territory, yet now a man in silver-white armor stood over its corpse. Stepping out from behind the beast, he casually wiped the blood from his spear and told his subordinates to send out a notice. He complained that if they didn't come to collect the body, they shouldn't bother him with such weaklings anymore. It was getting boring. When asked if he was returning to the St. Corps, the man grinned, saying there was no point in going back to such a dull place. He had heard rumors of an SSS-rank genius appearing in Shanghai, and he wanted to go play with someone of his own kind. After all, geniuses are always lonely, or so he claimed as he laughed, hung up the phone, and soared into the sky. He vanished into the horizon like a streak of light, revealed to be the vice commander of the Crimson St. Corps. This was Yi Chang'an, the youngest vice commander in Great Xia and the awakener of the SSS rank 9 Heavens Dragon. Back at the Shanghai Academy, Lin Mo expressionlessly withdrew his power, wondering how much longer he should let everyone kneel. He deactivated his monster transformation and returned to human form, while Xiao Tianba stepped forward, suppressing his lingering shock. With a look of deep curiosity, Xiao Tianba admitted he was dying to know exactly what kind of monster Lin Mo had awakened. He had searched through every record in Great Xia, but had never encountered such an aura or form. Tao Tai, Lin Mo replied simply. Xiao Tianba's eyes instantly lit up with intense interest, and he asked if Lin Mo could describe this creature in more detail. It was, after all, a brand new monster never before recorded in human history, making it a subject of immense research value. But Lin Mo simply narrowed his eyes and remained silent, knowing that only a fool would reveal the secrets of their monster to the public. Doing so would be equivalent to exposing his traits, strengths, and even his weaknesses to everyone. And right at that moment, a clear, resonant voice suddenly echoed through the sky, making everyone's ears ring. If you want someone to reveal their secrets so badly, why don't you bring out your heavenly feather azure dragon and introduce it to us first? Before the voice even faded, a figure descended from the sky. He landed steadily in front of Lin Mo. The moment the crowd saw who it was, the place erupted. It was a leader from one of the 4 great St. Corps. It was Yi Chang'an, the vice commander of the Crimson St. Corps. Good heavens, an influential figure of this caliber had actually come for Lin Mo. We should keep in mind that Yi Chang'an is barely 30 years old, yet his strength is already on par with any top-tier warrior in Great Xia. Furthermore, given his status as vice commander, no one dared to look down on him. Xiao Tianba's expression darkened instantly. He spoke in a cold tone, noting that he had heard the St. Corps assigned Yi Chang'an a mission on the border. He asked if Yi Chang'an wasn't afraid of Commander Ning's wrath for appearing here in Shanghai while on duty. It had taken Xiao Tianba 30 years to reach his current position, but Yi Chang'an had matched his achievements in just 10 short years. Naturally, he had always been full of resentment toward the younger man, and Yi Chang'an felt exactly the same way about him. In his eyes, Xiao Tianba was nothing more than a pretentious hypocrite who had risen through the ranks by playing politics. They were always at odds. There's no need for the Great War King to worry, Yi Chang'an sneered. I finished that St. Corps mission a long time ago. His tone was dripping with disdain as he mentioned it was just a small rank, 3 gold jade monster that he had finished with a single spear thrust. Oh, wait, he added. I recall that War King Xiao was also at rank 3 gold jade last year, wasn't he? My apologies, I wasn't referring to you. He told him not to take it personally, though Xiao Tianba's face had already turned cold as he replied that his rank 3 status was a thing of the past. I see, Yi Chang'an said, drawing out his words with mock realization. Then perhaps I should rephrase that to be more accurate. The little monster I killed with 1 strike was just slightly weaker than War King Xiao. As soon as those words left his mouth, Xiao Tianba's face turned as black as a coal pot. He demanded to know what Yi Chang'an was actually doing here away from his busy duties. Yi Chang'an simply spread his hands and laughed with wild abandon, claiming it was nothing more than one genius recognizing another. He explained that he felt a natural connection, as he loved making friends with geniuses, but absolutely loathed one specific thing: fools who pretend to be geniuses. Hearing this, Xiao Tianba's expression soured to the extreme, but then, something unexpected happened. In a flash, Yi Chang'an appeared right beside Lin Mo, telling him that his aura was exactly to his liking. He offered his friendship, introducing himself and suggesting that since he was 10 years older, Lin Mo could simply call him Brother Chang'an. Lin Mo scratched his head awkwardly, admitting that he wasn't very good with words and hoped his bluntness wouldn't cause offense. Yi Chang'an slapped him on the shoulder, laughing even harder as he told him not to be so polite. Then, he made a proposal. He invited Lin Mo to join the Crimson St. Corps, mentioning he needed a friend to talk to and eventually a sparring partner. Currently, no one in the Corps could beat him, and the commander was too strong to challenge safely. He truly had high hopes for Lin Mo. He predicted that in 10 years, Lin Mo would surely surpass that social climbing son-in-law, leaving Xiao Tianba trembling with pure rage. Xiao Tianba barked out a reminder that he was the superior officer and a great war king of Great Xia, demanding respect for his rank. He claimed the right to personally strike Yi Chang'an down and suspend him for public insult, yet Yi Chang'an looked completely unbothered. He even beckoned him over with a finger, daring him to try and officially challenging him to a rank replacement battle. Xiao Tianba's face turned incredibly pale as he found himself unable to utter a single word. Coward, Yi Chang'an sneered. He openly mocked the fact that Xiao Tianba hated him but couldn't do a thing about it. Suddenly, Xiao Ao stepped forward. The young man angrily asked what the point of humiliating his father was, claiming his father was only being patient with the junior. Yi Chang'an told the boy to shut up, coldly stating that a mere child had no right to interrupt when adults were speaking. With one cold glare, Xiao Ao felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, his body freezing in place as breathing became difficult. Yi Chang'an asked if they were afraid now, noting they didn't seem scared when they were teaming up to bully Lin Mo earlier. His gaze swept across the entire crowd as he told them all that he had watched the live stream and found their behavior utterly disgusting. He lamented that the great figures of Great Xia had become narrow-minded and short-sighted, all because of people like them. It was their influence, he claimed, that made Great Xia what it is today. As for Lin Mo, he had high expectations for the boy. We learned that he personally assessed Lin Mo's parents when they joined the Crimson Saint Corps, remembering his father, Lin Zhan, as a man of iron will. He was certain that a lion doesn't father a cub, and if no one else wanted the boy, the Crimson Saint Corps certainly did. Yi Chang'an made his stance clear. From that moment on, Lin Mo was his sworn brother, and anyone daring to bully him would answer to him. They would have to see if his silver dragon spear was hard enough. With a grand gesture, Yi Chang'an unleashed his power. The silver spear soared like a bolt of light before crashing down, embedding itself deeply into the very floor of the assembly hall. The weapon vibrated with a sound like a dragon's roar, while Xiao Tianba's gaze turned bone-chillingly cold. To be honest, he was humiliated. This was the first time in his life he had been so tormented in public, yet he knew that if they truly fought, he stood no chance. He had no hope of victory. But just then, several more figures suddenly appeared in the sky above Shanghai Prefecture. And here, everyone present was utterly shocked to see the principals of Great Xia's 4 top monster universities appearing all at once. Even when Xiao Tianba awakened his SS-rank talent years ago, he hadn't seen such a turnout. The entire school was in an absolute frenzy. People wondered what kind of monster their year had produced. The principal of Magic City Monster University was the first to speak to Lin Mo. He promised that if Lin Mo joined them, he could have any monster essence, weapons, or cores he desired. All he had to do was ask. The principal of Spirit Monster University pushed him aside, scoffing as if they didn't have the exact same resources to offer. Stepping forward, he told Lin Mo that if he chose Spirit University, he would personally grant him a weapon forged from diamond rank monster parts. He even threw in a complete diamond rank monster essence. Old Deng, the principal of Zhenhai Monster University, accused him of driving up the price. Not to be outdone, he invited Lin Mo to Zhenhai, promising him something even more substantial than just parts. He offered a complete diamond rank monster carcass and full resource support, plus 10 bottles of Origin Energy Potion as an extra incentive. Finally, the principal of Imperial Capital University spoke up, calmly inviting Lin Mo to join the most prestigious school of them all. The principal of Imperial Capital continued, admitting they didn't have as many flashy gimmicks, but they had recently acquired something special. They possessed the complete carcass of a red jade monster and had crafted an exclusive monster soul from it, containing a unique innate skill. He believed it was a perfect fit for Lin Mo and offered it freely. Suddenly, the heads of Great Xia's 4 top universities began arguing fiercely. They were nearly losing their minds competing for the boy, leaving the surrounding students watching the spectacle in utter disbelief. To these students, a red jade monster, or even a diamond rank one, was a distant myth they would never encounter in their entire lives. Everyone's eyes turned red with envy, but Su Air's face was particularly distorted with rage as he trembled uncontrollably. He quickly forced a flattering smile and approached the principal of Magic City Monster University, speaking with extreme caution. He introduced himself as Su Air, an S-rank talent, and mentioned that Principal Wang had already promised him a spot in the Crimson Saint Corps. He asked if the principal thought he was a good candidate, but the man only gave a cold, brief hum in response. Without a second glance, the principal turned back to the heated argument over Lin Mo, leaving Su Air frozen in his tracks like a statue. He stood there, completely stunned. At that moment, Yi Chang'an let out a thunderous shout that silenced the entire hall. He told the 4 old men to shut up, declaring firmly that Lin Mo would not be joining any of their monster universities. He asked rhetorically if Great Xia truly had no place better than their 4 schools. At those words, the atmosphere shifted instantly. The faces of everyone present grew pale, and someone asked in a trembling voice if he intended to send the boy to that purgatory university. Yi Chang'an confirmed it with absolute certainty, believing only that specific school could truly unlock Lin Mo's full potential. While Great Xia has countless monster universities and the Big 4 are famous, there is one school that stands far above them all. It is a truly elite institution, though it is a place that ordinary students would never even dream of considering. This is Great Xia University, a legendary academy built through the joint efforts of the 4 top Saint Corps and the military. Each year, they admit only 100 students, meaning the entire school across all 3 grades has no more than 300 people. And yet, we see that there are 225 teachers, including the 9 great kings of the Great Xia military. The faculty also includes 36 war kings, 72 river guardians, and 108 top-tier generals. But what truly makes people tremble is the school's 70% mortality rate. Yi Chang'an turned toward the boy. He spoke with great solemnity, asking Lin Mo if he was willing to join Great Xia University, though he offered a warning first. Even with an SSS-rank talent, he would still have to pass the formal assessment to earn his place in the academy. They promised no resources or special privileges, but Yi Chang'an guaranteed that if he managed to graduate, he would undoubtedly become a top leader in the military, especially if he claimed the championship during the entrance trials. He would become the future commander of the Crimson Saint Corps, a position where no one could ever suppress him with power or status again. No one would ever be able to force him to do anything against his will, for he would become a clan unto himself. He alone would be a century-old noble family, capable of single-handedly protecting the 72 provinces and 36 regions of Great Xia. Hearing this, Lin Mo suddenly raised his hand and asked Vice Commander Yi a rather specific question. He wanted to know if joining Great Xia University meant he could kill monsters. Yi Chang'an froze for a moment, then laughed heartily. He explained that the school's high mortality rate existed precisely because students were required to go deep into the core of the ruins. They had to hunt monsters to gain combat experience. He asked if Lin Mo enjoyed the hunt, and the boy gave a modest shrug. Deep down, Lin Mo knew the second trial of the Tao Tai, the Myriad Beast Path, required him to devour 10,000 bronze-rank monsters. Yi Chang'an assured him that at Great Xia University, as long as he had the strength, there would be an endless supply of monsters. He declared that he hadn't misjudged the boy. Lin Mo was a natural-born warrior. Yi Chang'an laughed with pure delight. Lin Mo grinned and announced clearly that he was willing to join. He knew better than anyone that the ancient beasts were not easily satisfied. His life was already destined to be spent amidst slaughter and battle. Seeing him agree, Yi Chang'an looked immensely satisfied. He immediately pulled out a token and handed it over, noting that the enrollment assessment would begin in 1 month. He told him to use the token to enter directly, then offered the essence blood of a gold-rank blood wolf as a personal gift. As a personal gift, he mentioned a monster he had hunted outside the barrier, promising to send a bone from its remains. He offered to forge it into a weapon and asked what he preferred, while the Taoye's rain of spears skill flashed through Lin Mo's mind. Lin Mo immediately replied that he favored the spear, causing Yi Chang'an to freeze before laughing and clapping him on the shoulder. He praised the boy's excellent taste and mentioned he knew of a specific spear that would suit him perfectly before the assessment. He promised to deliver it soon, telling Lin Mo to act freely from now on because, with Yi Chang'an backing him, no one would dare use their status to bully him, casting a sharp, sideways glance at the nearby Xiao Tianba. Xiao Tianba's expression turned incredibly sour, yet he didn't dare utter a single word as he stood there with a dark face. He violently threw a hand token to Su Air, coldly stating it was the identification for a member of his Heavenly Feather Saint Corps. With that, he took Xiao Ao and turned to leave without looking back, leaving Su Air staring blankly at the token in her hand. The joy she should have felt was completely gone, replaced by nothing but a hollow sense of endless regret. As Yi Chang'an prepared to depart, he scanned the entire crowd one last time, leaving behind a chilling warning for everyone present. He stated he wouldn't interfere in rivalries between the youth, but if any elder used their higher cultivation to bully the boy, they would have to answer to him personally, before he transformed into a streak of light and vanished into the horizon. The various university principals, seeing the matter was settled, left one by one, leaving only Wang Deji behind. He stood there on the verge of tears, having not only lost a once-in-a-millennium genius, but also having offended him completely. As for Su Air, regret washed over her like a tide, and her legs gave out as she collapsed to the ground once more. Just then, a young man approached her, pretending to help her up while asking if she was all right. He suddenly turned and glared at Lin Mo, shouting fiercely, asking how he could be so cruel and what kind of man he was. He challenged Lin Mo to a life-and-death duel, to which Lin Mo calmly replied he would accept for a wager of 1 million Great Xia coins. Otherwise, there would be no deal, and the man agreed instantly, though the rules of a life-and-death battle were quite severe. It was a simple rule. Once you step onto that stage, life and death are no longer guaranteed, and no one can be held responsible for the outcome. The young man gave a mocking laugh and asked the deans to act as referees, though, to be honest, they wanted no part in this farce. They saw right through his scheme, pointing out that he had awakened his S-rank talent 3 days ago and was far from a beginner. His level was already high, while Lin Mo had only just awakened. There was simply no way for the boy to win this fight. The 4 deans began to curse the man openly, but this individual, a man named Zheng Peng, didn't seem bothered in the slightest. Relying on the fact that his father was Zheng Tao of the Shuyan Saint Corps, he looked at the deans with complete disdain and a cold smirk. He reminded them that Lin Mo had agreed to this himself, so there was really no need for them to worry about someone else's business. Lin Mo spoke up then, calmly stating it was his own decision and asking them to respect it, much to the dean's frustration. One dean glared at Zheng Peng, accusing him of a "if I can't have him, no one can" mentality, before Wang Daji cut ties with him entirely. Refusing to be friends with such a person, Wang Deji turned to the two combatants and somberly agreed to act as the official referee. As soon as the words left his mouth, a powerful aura exploded from Zheng Peng as he initiated his full transformation. He shifted into the S-rank monster known as the Golden Rock, and we see the unmistakable mark of a black iron level 5 rank. The crowd gasped, realizing he had reached level 5 in just 3 days, a feat usually reserved for those with very deep pockets. But then, a thick, bloody aura drew everyone's gaze as Lin Mo transformed into the domineering and terrifying form of the Tao Dai. This time, however, there were no cheers, only a deathly silence as the crowd looked at the level marker above Lin Mo's head. It was clearly marked as Black Iron Level 1, and to the spectators, a 4-level gap seemed like an impossible mountain to climb. Lin Mo, however, remained completely unbothered by the level 5 status. They simply didn't understand the true power of an ancient beast. Zheng Peng turned into a streak of golden light, lunging toward Lin Mo with the force of a collapsing mountain behind his strike. Lin Mo immediately activated his tyrant talent, causing his aura to skyrocket so fast that Zheng Peng couldn't even process the change. By the time he realized the danger, it was far too late, as the Taoyia's massive paw slammed into the golden rock with jaws wide open. As Lin Mo activated his Heavenly Father's infinite plunder, Zheng Peng could clearly feel his own talent, the Sword of Solemnity, being stripped away. The power was being forcibly torn from his soul, and just as he screamed for it to stop, a furious roar echoed through the arena. The newcomer was none other than Zheng Peng's father, Zheng Tao of the Shuyan Saint Corps, who glared at Lin Mo with murderous intent. He threatened to kill the boy for touching his son, but Lin Mo simply looked up coldly, reminding him that in a death match, fate is final. Lin Mo didn't care who the man was. A loss meant death, and he ruthlessly drove his palm straight into the golden rock's chest. He reached in and tore the beast core right out of Zheng Peng's body, crushing it into dust, a sight that left the entire audience speechless. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed over the stadium as a towering rock giant descended from the sky like a falling mountain. The impact shook the very foundations of the earth, revealing the true form of Zheng Tao's awakened monster, the formidable rock giant. He swung a massive palm that seemed to blot out the moon, screaming that Lin Mo would pay for his son's life with his own. Students fled in terror as the deans tried to intervene, but their gold-level cultivation was simply no match for a high-ranking commander. Zheng Tao was a blue jade-level warrior, and Qin Wei was shouted for him to stop, warning him that Lin Mo was a rare genius of the Great Xia. He asked if Zheng Tao understood the consequences of killing such a talent, but the grieving father only roared back in a fit of rage. He demanded to know why his son had to die while Lin Mo got to live, acting like a man possessed by a literal demon. The deans argued that his son had proposed the duel himself, but Zheng Tao didn't care about rules. He only wanted blood for blood. He even threatened to kill Qin Weigua if he didn't move, but right then, a third voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. The voice commanded him to stop, but Zheng Tao, blinded by fury, cursed back, asking who the hell dared to give him orders. The voice challenged him to say that again to his face, and the moment Zheng Tao saw the speaker, his entire body began to tremble. Stuttering in fear, he asked the Saint Commander why he was there, but he still refused to release his transformation or let Lin Mo go. Commander Li Shui of the Shuyan Saint Corps looked down coldly, asking if the man had truly lost his mind over a fair duel. He reminded him that his son died because his skills were inferior, and in a debt of life and death, there is no one else to blame. We learn that Lin Mo is under the protection of Yi Chang'an, the silver dragon of Jiuxiao, who made it clear that anyone bullying the boy would face his wrath. Li Shui asks if Zheng Tao wants the entire Shuyan Saint Corps buried with him, and though the father is unwilling, he truly has no other choice. Li Shui speaks calmly, noting that Zheng Peng was simply too weak, and reminds him that the live broadcast is still running for the world to see. He warns that if Yi Chang'an descends in person, even he couldn't save Zheng Tao, whose eyes remain fixed on Lin Mo with pure hatred. Zheng Tao wants nothing more than to tear the boy apart, but his massive, moon-blotting palm remains frozen above Lin Mo's head, unable to strike. The grieving father asks if he must simply endure this humiliation, but a cold voice suggests that if he can't endure it, he should simply die. Suddenly, a sharp spear of spiritual energy erupts from the void, causing Li Shui's expression to shift instantly as he recognizes the silver dragon's aura. It seems Yi Chang'an has arrived, or rather, a manifestation of his battle intent, leaving everyone to wonder at the sheer power of the man. Li Shui attempts to intercede, asking Vice Commander Yi to spare Zheng Tao for his sake, but before he can even finish his sentence, the spear strikes. The energy crashes down through Zheng Tao's skull, and his massive rock body shatters instantly, as if struck by a bolt of divine lightning. A cold voice echoes through the air, asking Li Shui who he thinks he is to demand favors while defending someone who harmed a genius of Great Xia. The voice declares such actions as treason, then pointedly asks if the Shuyan Saint Corps has any objections or if they were the ones pulling the strings. Li Shui's face turns deathly pale at the accusation, and he quickly opens his mouth to distance himself and his organization from the fallen man. He insists this had nothing to do with the Saint Corps, claiming it was entirely Zheng Tao's fault, and even praising the vice commander's execution. The crowd is left in shock by this display of absolute dominance. This is the raw authority of Yi Chang'an, the man backing Lin Mo. Throughout human history, geniuses have been many, but those who survive to reach their potential are few, often cut down by the shadows of the world. Without power or background, even the most brilliant talent can be snuffed out by those lurking in the dark, waiting for a moment to strike. But now, with Yi Chang'an as his shield, no one would dare use their status to bully Lin Mo again. Zheng Tao's fate served as the ultimate warning. Breaking the heavy silence, Li Shui bows toward Lin Mo with a fawning tone, admitting that the entire situation was a failure of his own leadership. As a personal apology, he offers the core of a gold-level beast, the Meteor Fire Wolf, hoping to settle the matter once and for all. Li Shui begs Lin Mo to accept the gift, leaving the crowd in shock once again as they watch the leader of the Shuyan Saint Corps bow. It was truly a sight to behold, a powerful commander publicly apologizing to a young boy. Meanwhile, at the Qiqing headquarters in the imperial capital, Yi Chang'an is told that his decision to execute a high-ranking officer in front of everyone has caused quite a stir within the military. It seems a formal complaint has been filed against him, likely by someone looking to avenge their brother-in-law. To be honest, that man is always causing trouble. Yi Chang'an lets out a cold laugh, saying he'll go have a chat with him after he finishes his current task. He is quite the character, isn't he? Ing Tianche's mouth twitches as he looks at the man's weapon, hoping that this chat will actually be a peaceful one for once. He notices a small inscription on the spear's handle that reads, "The Weapon of Truth." He understands the irony, convincing people through virtue, or perhaps just force. He warns Yi Chang'an not to send the man to the ICU, as hospital beds in the imperial capital are currently in very short supply. At that moment, Yi Chang'an seems to remember something important and asks if the annual new moon beast tide is approaching. Indeed, it is. Ing Tianche's expression turns grave as he notes that the monsters outside the ruins are becoming increasingly violent. The commanders suspect a new threat. They believe the 14th numbered Monster King is about to be born. Upon hearing this, Yi Chang'an's face changes instantly. Throughout the history of the Blue Planet, the appearance of any numbered monster has required the world's top experts to join forces in battle. No single nation has ever been able to hunt down and kill a numbered class monster entirely on its own. It is a terrifying prospect. The last time such a creature appeared, the 13th numbered monster, was 30 years ago, and the memory of it still lingers. While humanity has grown stronger and a great nation like Great Xia can withstand much, these monsters are on a completely different level. The only thing that truly demands absolute caution is a numbered monster, for they are the true kings capable of wiping a nation off the map. Ing Tianchi shakes his head, noting that once the new moon tide begins, all four Saint Corps will have to mobilize their entire forces. They will have to venture deep into the ruins. With both of them gone, the boy Yi Chang'an is protecting will face a very difficult time. Yi Chang'an snaps back to reality and smiles, saying he still has time. He trusts the boy he chose, believing in his potential. Ing Tianchi reminds him that the young lady from the Xia family is also an SSS rank, yet he rejected her request to be his disciple. Yi Chang'an looks silently at his palm, thinking that he truly cannot tell the boy the whole truth. He remembers the moment he saw Lin Mo awaken Taodai through the screen. His hands had been trembling in that moment. It was as if he had glimpsed the silhouette of a blood-colored being standing tall amidst the starry sky. With the sun, moon, and stars as its history, the so-called Monster Kings and SSS rank beasts were nothing more than the lowliest of prey before that entity. He knows better than anyone that Lin Mo's talent is far more complex than a simple SSS rank. To be honest, it's on a level beyond human comprehension. Meanwhile, back at the ceremony, we see Lin Mo accept the honor handed over by Li Shui before turning to leave the venue without looking back. And so, the awakening ceremony at the Shanghai Monster Academy finally comes to a successful close. However, the expressions of a few certain people, well, they look as though they've swallowed something quite unpleasant. One of them is Principal Wang Deji, who expelled Lin Mo just for awakening a broken house. The others are his ex-girlfriend Su Er and her parents. It isn't hard to imagine that for the rest of their lives, they will regret today's actions. They will likely pay a bitter price for their short-sightedness. Returning to his rented room, Lin Mo realizes that as an SSS rank awakener, money is no longer an issue. He is no longer short on cash, so he contacts the buyer who originally bought his family home. However, the man tells him some unexpected news. It turns out the house has already been resold. After some persistent inquiries, Lin Mo manages to obtain the contact information of the new owner from the buyer. The new owner's name is Xia Qingqing. Lin Mo can't help but chuckle to himself, wondering how much self-confidence it takes to carry such a name. He shakes his head and dials the number. "Hello, is this Miss Xia? My name is Lin Mo," he begins, introducing himself calmly. I'd like to talk to you about the house in the Jingyan district. I was wondering if it would be convenient for us to meet in person. I'm already living in the house and have no intention of selling it. Comes a cold, yet melodious female voice from the other end of the line. And with that, she hangs up immediately. Just as Lin Mo thinks all hope is lost, the phone suddenly rings again. What did you say your name was? Lin Mo. Why, he asks. In half an hour, at the Hideout Bifong Cafe. I'll be waiting for you. Not long after, we see him arrive at the meeting spot. A woman of stunning beauty appears and takes the seat opposite him. On the table, she has already placed a prepared document for him to see. I live there now, so selling is impossible. However, if you're willing, I can rent it to you. This is a cohabitation contract, she says plainly. Lin Mo is left momentarily stunned. This woman is incredibly direct, isn't she? What, are you unwilling? Or is the rent too expensive? She asks. Xia Qingqing raises an eyebrow and asks if a monthly rent of 1,000 would be acceptable. To be honest, the offer leaves Lin Mo speechless. His family home is nearly 150 square meters. If it were actually on the market, the rent would be at least 4,000. It's clear that Xia Qingqiang has another motive for such a price, but he figures if she isn't afraid of sharing a roof, why should he be? And so, he picks up the pen and signs his name. As she looks at the completed contract, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touches her lips. She tells herself that now she can finally observe him up close and see what makes him so special. She wonders why Senior Yi values him so much when they are both SSS rank, and she is determined to uncover every single one of his secrets. That evening, hoping to dig into his background, Xia Qingqing invites him to dinner. Not thinking much of it, Lin Mo simply agrees. But the moment they step into the restaurant, we see that every eye in the room is instantly drawn to Xia Qingqing's presence. People whisper in awe about the eldest daughter of the Imperial Xia clan, noting that she is every bit as beautiful as her reputation suggests. They speak of her as a true peerless genius, an SSS rank monster awakener. Hearing this, Lin Mo can't help but raise an eyebrow in surprise. A cheerful voice nearby chirps, asking if he really didn't know her identity. This is Ning Susu, Xia Qingqing's close friend. She looks him up and down, her eyes full of curiosity as she asks what the relationship between the two of them actually is. Lin Mo calmly explains that she is the landlord and he is merely the tenant, but this only fuels Ning Susu's excitement even further. She teases them about living together, but Xia Qingqing just rolls her eyes and leads the way into a private booth, ignoring the jokes. Once they are settled, Lin Mo finally looks at her and asks the question directly. Why would the lady of the Xia clan seek out a poor student? Xia Qingqing doesn't beat around the bush. She tells him quite plainly that her reasons are actually very simple. She once tried to become a disciple of Yi Chang'an, the Nine-Heaven Silver Dragon, but she was rejected without a second thought. And yet, Senior Yi traveled all the way to Shanghai for Lin Mo, even going so far as to execute a military commander on his behalf. Even for someone of her status, killing a commander is no small matter, and now the third son of the Qin family is using it against her. With Senior Yi's situation becoming increasingly delicate, she looks at him and asks, So, Lin Mo, what is it that makes you so extraordinary? She explains that for Senior Yi to go so far is baffling, especially since she, Xia Qingqing, is also an SSS rank awakener who refuses to be second to anyone. Realizing the root of her curiosity, Lin Mo can't help but chuckle, suggesting that she might just be jealous, a claim she immediately and indignantly denies. Xia Qingqing fires back that Senior Yi surely had his own reasons, but if Lin Mo doesn't know why he was chosen, then perhaps he isn't the one she should ask. Seeing the tension, Ning Susu chimes in with a mischievous suggestion. If they can't agree, they should simply settle it with a fight. She offers to be the referee, thinking a duel might clear things up, and after a moment of quiet reflection, Xia Qingqing slowly nods in agreement. She admits that Susu has a point and they should indeed have a contest, though she feels a direct head-to-head battle might be a bit inappropriate. She worries that once she starts fighting, she might not be able to hold back, and injuring him right before his university entrance exams would be a disaster. Instead, she proposes a different challenge. They will head to the Belay Wilderness, where a specific target awaits on the military hunting list. There is a monster ranked 45th on that list, and she challenges him to see who can hunt it first. If she wins, he must reveal Senior Yi's secret. Lin Mo finds himself suddenly intrigued by the stakes, but when he asks what happens if he wins, she simply tells him that winning is impossible for him. He points out that there's no fun in a bet with no reward. After biting her lip and making a firm decision, Xia Qingqing finally offers a real prize. She declares that if he wins, she will become his follower and obey his every command. With the deal struck, they finish their meal and prepare to depart. The group heads straight to the Shanghai military outpost, but when Qin Weigui hears their request, he reacts with immediate and total disbelief. He shakes his head vigorously, telling them it's absolutely impossible because they are far too important to the future of the Great Xia to take such risks. He acknowledges that they will one day be the guardians of the nation, but insists that day is not today. However, Xia Qingqing is not so easily deterred. She calmly tells Uncle Qin that while she appreciates his concern, there is really no need to worry about a mere bronze rank monster. She remarks that while she doesn't know how Lin Mo feels about it, such a creature is nothing to her. And then, she decides to show him exactly why. Suddenly, a bone-chilling cold erupts from her body as the faint, majestic silhouette of an ice phoenix begins to shimmer behind her. Weigwa is left speechless, realizing she has already reached the Black Iron rank despite having awakened less than a month ago. She coolly notes that for her, the standard Black Iron grading system is essentially irrelevant, a statement that truly captures the essence of the Xia family genius. Ning Susu cheers from the sidelines, begging Uncle Qin to let her join Xia Qingcheng in the wilderness, a request he finds utterly ridiculous. Qin Weiguo looks at her with total disbelief, noting that while Xia Qingcheng has proven her strength, Susu is currently sitting at a mere Black Iron rank 0.5. He is practically speechless, realizing she hasn't even condensed a proper rank mark yet, before turning his gaze toward Lin Mo to ask the same question. He asks Lin Mo what his current strength is, acknowledging that while he defeated a rank 5 opponent during the awakening ceremony, that might not be enough. He makes it clear that if Lin Mo is still only at rank 5, he won't allow him to leave. Lin Mo remains silent for a moment before finally speaking up. When he claims to be only at Black Iron rank 3, even Xia Qingqing can't help but stifle a laugh, teasing him for his apparent lack of progress. She suggests he should just admit defeat now to save the commander the worry over his safety, but Lin Mo simply pauses to think for a moment. He tells them all to stay put and wait for him right there. Then, he turns and walks out of the office, heading straight for the nearby restroom. Once alone, we see him pull out 3 vials of bright red essence and 3 beast cores, the spoils he previously took from Zhengpeng. These are the blood essence and cores of bronze rank 3 monsters, and without hesitation, he prepares to activate his infinite devour talent. Normally, an ordinary person would need to dilute such potent essence with medicinal liquids just to refine their body safely. They would have to absorb it slowly through a medicinal bath, a tedious process where much of the essence's energy is unfortunately lost to the air. A typical person can only absorb about 50% of a single drop of essence, and the same inefficiency applies to beast cores as well. But for someone like Lin Mo, who possesses the infinite devour talent, such limitations are, to be perfectly honest, completely irrelevant. As the skill activates, the Taotai within his sea of consciousness opens its crimson eyes, unleashing a terrifying suction force that acts in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the power of the 3 vials is completely drained, and he follows this by tossing the 3 beast cores directly into his mouth. The small room is suddenly bathed in a thick, red glow as he feels his own physical strength surging at an incredible, visible pace. He hits Black Iron rank 6. It's a success. These items have allowed him to jump 3 minor levels in a matter of seconds. If he were to activate his King of Violence mode now, his combat power would easily rival a Black Iron rank 10, which is quite the leap, really. However, he decides that even this isn't enough for the crushing victory he desires, so he pulls out one final, golden vial of blood essence. This is the essence of the gold rank blood demon wolf given to him by Yi Chang'an. Under normal circumstances, of course. Attempting to absorb gold rank essence with a mere Black Iron cultivation would result in a 99.9% chance of his body simply exploding. But with the infinite devour talent of the Taotai, he has absolutely nothing to fear. As he crushes the golden vial, an incredibly dense aura of murderous intent instantly envelopes the entire military headquarters building. We see the phantom image of a blood demon wolf staring him down hungrily, as if it might pounce at any second and tear him to pieces. Meanwhile, back in the office, Qin Weiguo suddenly stands up, his expression shifting drastically. Sensing this terrifying malice, he wonders if a monster has breached their defenses. Just then, a soldier rushes in to report. The soldier reports sensing a gold rank monster's presence. Qin Weiguo tells him not to panic and asks for the source. The soldier hesitantly replies that it's coming from the restroom. Qin Weiguo is stunned, realizing something is very wrong. Xia Qingqing and Ning Susu quickly follow behind him as they all rush toward the end of the hallway. The source is indeed the restroom at the end of the hall. Qin Weiguo looks utterly bewildered, even in this age of strange monsters. An invasion of the military's bathroom is a bit too ridiculous, even for him. As they reach the door, a wave of scorching air sweeps out from inside. Then, a wolf's howl that seems to shake the very heavens rings out. There is no mistake. It is the aura of a gold rank monster. Qin Weiguo shouts for the others to get back and immediately activates his transformation. In an instant, a wolf's head envelopes his body, and he transforms into a formidable half-man, half-wolf beast. His long blade glows with a faint, heroic flame. This is Qin Weiguo's awakened grade, 1 monster form. The Ninja Blade Silver Wolf, with the strength of a gold rank level 6. Without hesitation, he charges into the restroom. But when he sees the scene inside, he is instantly frozen in shock. It is a blood demon wolf, and we should note, the talent of a blood demon wolf is not at all inferior to his own silver wolf. Both are grade 1 monsters. Thinking of the danger, Qin Weiguo tightens his grip on his blade, preparing to strike the beast down immediately. Suddenly, a clear voice rings out, telling Chief Qin to stay back. Hearing this, Qin Weigwa finally notices that you are standing right there in the restroom, seemingly in a tense standoff with the blood demon wolf. Its target is you, but it is merely a dead beast trying to devour you, a truly foolish endeavor. Following your warning, Qin Weigwa finally realizes that this blood demon wolf floating in the air has no physical body. Linimo, did you use the gold rank essence given to you by Vice Commander Yi? You nod, explaining that you are about to absorb it. Qin Weigwa cries out in shock, asking if you've lost your mind. With your current strength, even a single drop of gold rank essence would be enough to shatter your body. To think you dare absorb the whole thing. Just then, Xia Qingqing and Ning Susu rush in. Seeing the scene before them, they both freeze in utter disbelief. But you simply tell them to watch closely. You look up at the phantom of the blood demon wolf with pure disdain, taunting it. It wants to kill you. It wants to devour you. You tell it to bring it on, because if it hesitates any longer, you'll eat it until there isn't a single scrap left. The massive, blood-colored phantom opens its maw wide and swallows your entire body whole. A dense, crimson light completely obscures you, while violent energy pulses outward like a beating heart. As the bloody light fades, your figure is revealed once more, with the domineering phantom of the Taotai standing tall behind you. Xia Qingqing's pupils contract sharply. Although she had seen your transformation in a video before, seeing it in person is 1,000 times more shocking. Moreover, this aura is so intense that even though she has awakened the SSS rank Ice Phoenix, she feels a deep, instinctive sense of dread. At this moment, you take a massive stride forward. You throw a heavy punch directly at the blood demon wolf's head. Simultaneously, a terrifying devouring force, like a gale, completely envelopes its entire body. Qin Weigwa and the others are utterly stunned by the sight. How is this possible? He is actually going to swallow the blood demon wolf's essence instinct in one gulp. Is this the true power of the Taotai? A second later, the blood demon wolf lets out a final, unwilling cry as its entire body involuntarily transforms into a streak of bloody energy. At this moment, Qin Weigwa finally snaps back to reality and speaks with a heavy, solemn tone. He grants permission for Lin Mo and Xia Qingqing to head out, noting they are the Empire's greatest talents. He insists on following them in the shadows to ensure their safety, which seems like a fair compromise. He promises to do everything in his power to support them, repeating the vow with absolute conviction. His determination is clear. He will do whatever it takes to see this mission through to the end. It is a heavy burden for a commander, but one he accepts without a single moment of hesitation. He asks once more if this arrangement is acceptable, seeking a final confirmation from the group. Naturally, they agree, and soon the entire party arrives at the Zenheizu military headquarters. Standing before the teleportation array, a brilliant blue light flares up, and the four figures vanish instantly. This array leads directly to the frontline garrison, and as they step out, the atmosphere changes completely. A wave of murderous, violent energy washes over them, leaving Ning Susu wide-eyed and visibly shaken. This is the front line, separated from the ruins by only a single wall, a place she visited once before. She remembers coming here with her elders during the outbreak of the Crescent Beast Tide, a truly dark time. Back then, the Great Xia military had gathered at this very garrison to suppress the monsters of the wilderness. That battle was incredibly bloody, with soldiers and monsters locked in a struggle that seemed to dim the sun. The very earth was soaked through with blood, a scene that Xia Qingqing remembers vividly even to this day. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble as massive beasts, weighing dozens of tons, appear in the distance. They march in a disciplined formation toward the group, some of them wielding enormous, jagged blades. Others carry heavy shields, causing Xia Qingqing's expression to grow significantly more serious as she speaks. She identifies them as C-rank insectoids, known for their massive size, immense strength, and terrifying growth potential. We learned that many in Great Xia have awakened as these creatures, and they are stationed here in limited numbers. They maintain their monster forms day and night, patrolling without rest until, eventually, they begin to forget. They lose track of whether they are truly human or beasts, a tragic reality well known throughout Great Xia. While awakeners are countless, these beast types are often treated as mere cannon fodder during every Crescent Beast Tide. Their duty only ends with death, and hearing this, our protagonist's heart grows noticeably heavier. He had been told this was a cruel world, but staying safely within the walls had shielded him from the truth. He had never truly experienced this level of danger until arriving at this frontline garrison today. He realizes his previous thoughts were far too naive. This place is essentially a living purgatory. The air is thick with a permanent scent of blood, while massive, patrolling beasts are visible everywhere we look. Beyond the barrier, the roars of monsters never cease, serving as a constant reminder of the chaos outside. Qin Weigwa suggests they head to the teleportation town to witness just how miserable this world can be. As he speaks, he hands a map to Xia Qingqing, marking the location of their target, the flowing water frog. The creature is hidden in a lake about 3 kilometers outside the city, a distance that feels much longer in this terrain. He warns them that unless their lives are in immediate danger, he will not interfere, and Qingqing nods in understanding. A moment later, the group vanishes once again into the light of the teleportation array, heading toward the ruins. Meanwhile, deep within those ruins by a clear lake, 3 figures are hiding behind the thick trunks of trees. They are mercenaries, men who live only for profit and will do anything if the price is right. They have already set their traps and are staring intently at the lake, waiting for their prey to appear. One asks if the flowing water frog will truly be lured out, and their leader, Lioli, answers with absolute confidence. He explains that the frog's favorite meal is the tender silverbell fish, and it simply won't be able to resist. Once the flowing water frog is lured out of the water, its strength will drop to barely 1/10 of its peak. Then, this monster, ranked 45th on the hunting list, will be ours. Just then, a massive red figure leaps from the lake. It is the flowing water frog, a creature that possesses not only incredible jumping power, but also absolute control over the element of water. Lioli lowers his voice, ordering them to hide immediately. The frog is incredibly alert, and they must not be seen. They hold their breath, but they've underestimated its power. The creature opens its wide maw and lets out a strange cry, instantly condensing water into sharp blades. The water swords shoot toward their hiding spot. Their faces pale as one man's head is instantly pierced. He dies instantly. Seeing the situation turn dire, Lioli takes the remaining survivor and flees into the distance. However, the flowing water frog doesn't seem worried at all. To this beast, these 2 men are nothing more than meat on a chopping block. Its figure vanishes, reappearing a second later right above them. It seems they are doomed. But at the critical moment, a deep blue ice phoenix appears in the sky. It soars through the void, launching countless bone-chilling ice thorns directly at the flowing water frog. Lioli and his companion take the chance to hide, watching the battle between Xia Qingqing and the monster. The frog is furious that its prey escaped, but it soon realizes that it has found something even better. This ice phoenix is a far superior meal. A glint of pure greed flashes in the flowing water frog's eyes. Its tongue lashes out like a whip towards Xia Qingqing, while simultaneously, a highly corrosive venom sprays from its mouth. The moment the ice thorns touch that venom, they are completely melted away. Qingqing's expression shifts instantly. She realizes that this frog's power is far beyond the bronze rank. In this desperate moment, a tall, blood-red shadow descends from the heavens. Our protagonist directly activates the Taoye's tyrant talent, and the entire space is suddenly enveloped in a crimson haze. A massive water column, carrying the force of 10,000 soldiers, is blasted apart by Lin Mo's single punch. The flowing water frog freezes. A flash of shock and alarm crosses the beast's eyes. Immediately after, it opens its wide maw once again. Dozens of water pillars erupt in a chaotic frenzy, shooting toward him. Seeing this, our protagonist directly activates his next power. Using the heavenly speed talent he plundered from Zheng Hong, his movement speed suddenly surges to an entirely new level. He strikes with lightning speed, his blood-red palm prints leaving a trail of afterimages in the air. Every single water column is shattered into mist. Then, with a single step forward, he vanishes from his original position. The shadow of a giant golden eagle flashes as the Taotai phantom seems to sprout a pair of majestic golden wings. Transformed into a lord of the sky, he appears before the flowing water frog in an instant. The creature is paralyzed with fear. It stands frozen to the spot. Lin Mo clenches his fist and delivers a devastating blow, killing the monster where it stands. We see him reach out to extract the beast core and beast jade from within the creature's remains. The blood-red silhouette of the Taotai gradually fades away. Meanwhile, not far off, Xia Qingqing watches him with a complicated expression. He shakes the beast core and jade in his hand, offering her a slight smile as he speaks. He tells her that he won this time and reminds her to keep her word. She admits her defeat quite gracefully. She congratulates Lin Mo deep down. She knows better than anyone that without his timely intervention, things would have ended poorly. Even if she hadn't died, she would have been severely wounded. To be honest, it was a very close call. At that moment, Lioli and his companion emerge from behind the trees, seeing that the flowing water frog is finally dead. Though their eyes are filled with greed for the beast jade, they pretend to be grateful and bow deeply to the pair. They thank them profusely for saving their lives. Lin Mo simply replies that it was no trouble at all. He speaks indifferently. Lioli gives his companion a subtle look, and the man steps forward with a forced smile. He insists the 2 heroes must be tired and offers them water, gesturing toward the fallen flowing water frog as well. He offers to help carry the beast back, presenting 2 small vials of clear liquid about the size of oral medicine bottles. He explains that this liquid is extracted from a creature called a water sac beast, and it is indistinguishable from pure water. The only difference, he claims, is that this water is exceptionally thirst-quenching. He offers it with a polite thank you. Xia Qingqing refuses immediately, stating they aren't thirsty. The man asks if they are afraid of poison, insisting they would never do such a thing. Lioli chimes in with a look of feigned grievance, reminding them that they are, after all, their life-saving benefactors. Seeing this, Lin Mo suddenly snatches the 2 bottles from his hand, tosses one to Xia Qingqing, and speaks up. He tells her not to reject such a kind gesture. Then, right before their eyes, he begins to drink. He drains the bottle in one go. Liuli rubs his hands together, a subtle, sinister smile creeping onto his face as he asks how they feel. Lin Imo smiles and says it's not bad at all, remarking that the water is truly delicious. He adds casually that it even has a distinct taste of poison. Liuli is instantly stunned. If he knew it was toxic, why on earth did he drink it? Lin Imo simply nods. To be perfectly honest, he had realized it was poison from the very first sip. But since he was so thirsty, he decided not to let a little thing like poison bother him. Liuli stands there in complete disbelief. He turns his gaze towards Xia Qingqing, asking if she realized it too. She merely shakes her head and opens her mouth to speak. The two mercenaries are caught off guard, while Lin Imo spreads his arms wide with a mocking grin. He dares them to kill him now, joking that the poison has left him completely defenseless, which, as we can guess, was far from the truth. At that exact moment, the blood chi around his body begins to surge violently, and a tyrannical aura instantly fills the clearing. Sensing that things have gone horribly wrong, the two men turn to flee, but Xia Qingqing waves her hand and summons a barrier. A massive wall of thick ice slams down, blocking their path. With no way out, the energy of the two mercenaries begins to boil. In the next second, they transform into monsters, one a steel-headed beast that slams into the ice wall, and the other a burrowing rat. The rat immediately begins digging into the ground in a desperate attempt to escape. Unfortunately for them, their speed is simply not enough. In front of someone like Lin Imo, they were simply too slow. He closed the distance instantly and stomped his foot onto the burrowing rat's head. Immediately after, he struck out with a palm from a distance, and with just a single move, he forced both of them back into their human forms. Having lost all ability to resist, they watched as Qin Weigua strode over, looking down at the pair with a voice full of righteous fury. He told them they were incredibly bold, revealing that one was Xia Qingqing, the young miss of the imperial capital's prestigious Xia family. The other was Lin Imo, the greatest genius in the history of Zingaizu and an SSS rank awakened, and yet they dared to try and poison them. He warned that no one in the entire Great Xia could save them now, and the two mercenaries exchanged a look, their faces turning ashen. Seeing this, Lin Imo spoke up calmly, suggesting that Chief Qin simply finish them off, and as soon as the words left his mouth, Qin Weigua gave a casual wave of his hand, ending their lives right then and there. Afterward, he loudly announced the final result. He declared that in this competition, Lin Imo was the undisputed winner. Ning Susu looked at Xia Qingqing with an exaggerated expression, exclaiming that from this day forward, Xia Qingqing would officially be Lin Mo's personal maid, which, naturally, was quite a development. Xia Qingqing's cheeks flushed a light red as she told her not to talk nonsense, but Ning Susu insisted the meaning was basically the same. Ning Susu gave a mischievous laugh, imagining the story of a cold, icy goddess falling for a poor boy. To be honest, she found it quite entertaining. She suggested they head back now that the matter was settled, as staying in the wilderness for too long was far too dangerous. Qin Weigua agreed, but as we return to the Zhusha base with them, we find that the atmosphere there has become incredibly lively. We see three young men walking side by side while the people around them whisper and discuss their arrival with great excitement. The crowd pointed them out as geniuses from the imperial capital, wondering aloud why such prestigious figures had come to a place like Zhusha. They wondered if these geniuses were also going beyond the barriers to hunt monsters, having heard they were preparing for the Great Xia University exams. It seemed they had come to the ruins specifically to gain combat experience. Seeing those three, Xia Qingqing's brow immediately furrowed in annoyance. When Lin Imo asked if she knew them, she explained they were the three Wang brothers from the imperial capital, a family backed by the Qin clan. With high-ranking military officials in their lineage, these three had managed to make quite a name for themselves back in the capital. Xia Qingqing's tone grew heavy as she added that, most importantly, these three were incredibly close with Xiao Ao. One could even call them his loyal lackeys. As she spoke, her gaze shifted toward Lin Mo with a hint of concern. She lowered her voice and spoke in a hushed, serious tone. She estimated the Wang brothers were at least bronze rank 3, but before she could finish her warning, things took a turn. The three brothers had already spotted our group and were walking over with arrogant, mocking smiles on their faces. Right at that moment, a sudden notification from the Temple of Ten Sins echoed inside Lin Mo's mind regarding the ancient beast. The system issued the first trial, demanding that he enter the system space within the next 10 minutes. If he failed to comply, he would be forcibly pulled in, a timing that was, to be honest, quite inconvenient. As Lin Mo dealt with this mental distraction, Wang Chong, Wang Ming, and Wang Chen finally came to a halt right in front of them. Wang Chong opened his mouth to sneer, mockingly asking if this wasn't the famous, great genius everyone was talking about. He questioned why someone with such high talent would even bother coming to the ruins for combat experience. He wondered aloud if the genius lacked the confidence to pass the Great Xia University exams on his own merit. However, the moment their eyes landed on Xia Qingqing, their expressions shifted into something far more cautious. They knew her background was not something the Wang family could easily offend, so they asked why she was hanging around with such a loser. Xia Qingcheng replied coldly that it was none of their business, which prompted a dismissive chuckle from Wang Cheng. He agreed her affairs were her own, but claimed that whatever involved Lin Mo was very much their business. He explained that Uncle Xiao had always taken great care of them, yet Lin Mo had publicly disrespected him. While Uncle Xiao was an elder who might overlook such things, the three brothers had no intention of being so forgiving. He challenged Lin Mo to step forward for a one-on-one duel so they could properly train together. They wanted to see for themselves if the top genius of Xingaizu actually lived up to the hype. Upon hearing this, our little friend Ling Susu was so incensed she waved her small fists, cursing that these guys were putting on far too much of a show. She urged Lin Mo to go up and thrash them, while Xia Qingcheng looked over and whispered, asking if he was truly confident. He opened his mouth to reply, but suddenly his vision went dark and his body went limp, causing him to collapse directly towards Xia Qingcheng. At that exact moment, the notification from the Temple of Ten Sins echoed once more within his mind. The time was up, and the system was now forcing its host into the temple to complete the true dragon trial. Following a dragon's roar that seemed to shake the very heavens, a true dragon's shadow slowly opened its golden eyes within the dark space. It welcomed the human to its trial, explaining that by passing it, he would be granted the dragon's own power. We see the dragon slowly lift its golden horn and tap the air, causing a pool of golden spring water to instantly manifest. A thick white mist rose from the spring, carrying with it an aura of heat so extreme it felt as if it could extinguish life itself. The dragon explained this was the essence of its blood, and that Lin Mo must enter the pool to absorb every drop. During this process, the temple would seal away his Taotai powers, leaving him to rely solely on his own physical body. If he endured, the power would be his. If he failed, the only outcome would be death. However, the dragon noted he had the right to refuse, as the master of the temple didn't strictly need the true dragon's strength. Upon hearing this, Lin Mo gave a faint smile. After all, why would anyone turn down such a significant gift? Without a moment's hesitation, he charged directly toward the dragon blood pool, though his body was already struggling. The mere contact with the drifting white mist caused large areas of his skin to burn instantly, which he found quite interesting. He licked his lips, his eyes filled with a certain madness as he challenged the trial to show him its worst. He intended to prove who the real master of this body was, leaping straight into the pool as the dragon watched his every move. The dragon's eyes were filled with a rare sense of approval, noting that he had already passed the first test of courage. But whether he could survive the second trial, the unyielding dragon body, was now entirely up to his own fate. As Lin Mo entered the dragon blood pool, we see him feel as though his entire being was being crushed into dust. The golden dragon blood wandering through the water began to drill frantically into his body, creating a sensation that was hard to describe. It felt as if a massive machine was grinding his bones and flesh to pieces over and over again, only to reassemble them each time. Deep down, he felt a strange sense of exhilaration, telling himself that his body belonged to him alone as he pushed through the pain. He soaked in the pool, absorbing the dragon blood with a madness that suggested he couldn't even feel the soul-piercing agony anymore. The true dragon watched on, completely stunned, wondering if this human possessed some sort of innate battle-hardened constitution. As time passed, the golden light within the pool grew brighter and brighter, until the system finally offered its congratulations. He had completed the first stage of the true dragon trial, gaining the talent of dragon might to suppress same-level monsters. This reduced their combat power by half, while his second talent, Dragon War Body, granted him the physical toughness of the dragon race. Along with these melee gifts, his third talent allowed him to call upon the wind and rain, controlling the very weather itself. The system congratulated him further on completing the second stage, granting him an immortal dragon script to protect his physical form. His heart was filled with pure surprise at the sheer power of the trial, realizing just how much he had changed. He had the distinct feeling that with his physical strength alone, he could now crush a bronze-rank monster with his bare hands. With this undying dragon body, unless someone could turn him to ash in a single blow, he could survive almost anything. Even if half his body were shattered, he could now regenerate in an instant, a terrifying prospect for any future enemies. At that moment, the true dragon's resonant voice echoed again, telling the young man that since the trial was over, he could leave. Lin Mo thanked the elder, who remarked that he was an exceptional youth with a future that knew no bounds. The dragon clearly favored him, and as a parting gift, it even left him its own precious dragon pearl. After he departed, a blood-colored shadow nearby spoke up playfully, asking the old dragon what he thought of the boy. The dragon admitted he was indeed impressive, noting that the boy had, after all, passed every test put before him. The shadow scoffed, telling the dragon his trial was a joke since everyone knew his only talent was eating, as if eating were a crime. The dragon retorted that eating to grow stronger was a divine right, telling the shadow it knew nothing before ending the conversation. As the two shadows faded away, we see Lin Mo finally return to his physical body, opening his eyes to a rude awakening. He was immediately greeted by the mocking voices of the three Wong brothers, who joked that the great genius had a talent for napping. They suggested he go home to sleep instead of wasting their time, just as Lin Imo slowly stood up and stretched his limbs. Beside him, Xia Qingqing was about to speak up, but Lin Imo simply stood his ground with a calm, steady gaze. He called out to the three brothers as they turned to leave, asking what those three in front of him were called again. He corrected himself, calling them the three pests of the Wong family, apologizing for falling asleep after staying up too late. He asked if they wanted to duel, urging them to hurry up since he had things to do, a bold move, to be sure. Wang Chang's face darkened as he roared, asking if Lin Imo even knew who he was talking to. Lin Imo listed off names like rat and cockroach, causing the three brothers to tremble with a fury that was hard to contain. They told him that if he had stayed asleep, they might have forgiven him, but his sharp tongue had sealed his fate. They threatened to break his bones, and the youngest brother, Wang Chun, stepped forward eagerly to start the fight. Lin Imo interrupted him, which made Wang Chung sneer, asking if the boy had finally found his sense of fear. The brothers offered to forgive him if he knelt down and apologized right then and there, which, naturally, was never going to happen. Lin Imo calmly clarified his meaning, telling them that fighting them one by one was simply a massive waste of his time. He suggested they all come at him at once so he could finish them all off in one clean, efficient motion. The three brothers stared in disbelief at his demand to fight a one-on-three battle, wondering if he had lost his mind. They couldn't decide if he was truly brave or just incredibly ignorant, but they agreed to give him the chance to fail. Everyone watching was left in a state of total shock, knowing full well the combined strength of the three Wong brothers. These were no ordinary awakened ones. Each of them had awakened an S-rank monster, and a moment later, the air began to shift. Three distinct monster forms appeared on the spot. The eldest brother, Wang Chong, had awakened the S-rank beast known as the Jade Demon Ox. Its massive frame was like a small mountain, possessing a level of physical strength that was, quite frankly, terrifying to behold. The second brother, Wang Meng, had awakened the Wind Thundercat, a creature that controlled both elements and moved with extreme speed. The youngest, Wang Chun, manifested as the Twin Flame Demon, his entire body wreathed in burning crimson flames. He specialized in devastating long-range fire attacks, and seeing this display, the surrounding crowd couldn't help but gasp in awe. The Wong brothers' monsters each had unique traits. Facing one was difficult enough, but facing all three at once was another matter entirely. Their coordination was practically invincible, with the Jade Demon Ox providing massive area of effect attacks to control the entire battlefield. The Wind Thundercat's high speed allowed it to pin down any target, while the Twin Flame Demon focused purely on heavy range damage. With a combination like this, even an opponent 2 or 3 levels higher than them would struggle to stand their ground. Most importantly, their individual levels were already quite high, one at Bronze Tier 3, one at Tier 4, and the eldest at Tier 5. At that moment, Wang Chun shouted impatiently, demanding that Lin Imo hurry up and transform into his own monster form. He wanted to end this farce quickly, but Lin Imo only let out a small chuckle, asking why on earth he would need to transform. He told them that if he actually transformed, they wouldn't stand a chance, so they should just come at him as he was. The three Wong brothers were left in a state of utter disbelief. To be honest, Lin Mo's confidence was reaching rather absurd levels. The crowd wondered how he expected to fight without transforming. A human body against 3 monsters seemed like a bad joke. One swipe from those beasts could send him spinning like a top, yet Lin Imo simply beckoned Wang Chun forward with a finger. He told them to stop wasting time, specifically calling out Wang Chun for being the loudest and inviting him to be the first to try. Wang Chun snapped instantly, letting out a world-shaking roar as he lunged toward Lin Imo with everything he had. In response, Lin Imo activated the True Dragon's second talent, the Dragon War, meeting the beast with a single, seemingly ordinary punch. With effortless ease, he sent the beast flying backward, before closing the distance in a flash to deliver another crushing blow. Wang Chun was beaten back step by step, completely unable to retaliate, his heart filled with a growing sense of disbelief. He couldn't fathom how he was losing a head-on collision, especially since his opponent was still in a mere human state. Lin Imo spoke calmly, noting that if he actually transformed, Wang Chun wouldn't even have the right to stand before him. The onlookers were stunned by the display. They simply couldn't believe a human body was capable of such raw power. In just 3 moves, Wang Chun had been battered to the point where he could no longer offer any resistance. Having completely lost his fighting spirit, he collapsed, prompting the second brother, Wang Meng, to finally lose his patience. A violent gust of wind swept through as a thick bolt of lightning crashed toward Lin Imo, who merely gave a casual wave. He neutralized the lightning instantly, a feat made possible by the defensive power of his True Dragon's indestructible body. Qin Weigua and the others watched in stunned silence, wondering if a human body was truly meant to withstand such forces. We must remember that every year, countless awakened ones perish because they fail to transform into their monster forms in time. Being caught in a human state is usually a death sentence, yet here was Lin Imo, defying every known rule of combat. If every soldier possessed such physical strength, the casualty rates of the great Xiao warriors would likely drop to almost nothing. At that moment, Wang Meng, the Wind Thundercat, lunged again, just as the eldest brother, Wang Chong, finally made his move. The Jade Demon Ox leapt into the air and slammed into the earth, activating his talent skill, the War Sentry. A violent shockwave erupted from the impact, while Wang Chun, having recovered slightly, let out a roar and dove from above. He descended like a meteor, adding his flames to the coordinated assault that was now closing in from every direction. With lightning strikes in front, fire from above, and the very ground collapsing beneath him, Lin Mo was completely surrounded. The crowd began to whisper, impressed by the brothers' seamless coordination. It was a terrifyingly perfect trap, to be honest. They feared that even if Lin Mo transformed now, he might not survive this flawless, multi-angled execution. It seemed Lin Mo was doomed this time, and Qin Weigua, his brow furrowed in concern, was just about to intervene. But Xia Qingqing suddenly held him back, suggesting that the chief shouldn't be in such a hurry just yet. We see that Lin Mo's face remained entirely calm, and he even allowed himself a small, knowing smirk. He quietly remarked that it was time to end this little farce, just as a pillar of golden light erupted. The light pierced the very heavens as he transformed into an ancient true dragon, leaving Qin Weigua and the others speechless. Their mouths hung open in pure disbelief. They couldn't fathom how he had awakened a second monster form. Judging by the sheer intensity of his aura, it seemed impossible. Wasn't his original awakening supposed to be the Tao Tai? The three Wang brothers were completely stunned, but a moment later, Lin Mo let out a sound that shook the world. With a heaven-shaking dragon roar, an overwhelming pressure exploded in every direction, catching the Wang brothers in its wake. They were instantly blown back by the force of his newly awakened skill, known as the Dragon's Majesty. The three of them felt their combat power being suppressed by a full 30%, a truly terrifying realization. They found they didn't even have the courage to strike as Lin Mo asked who gave them permission to stand before him. He commanded them to kneel, forcing all three brothers back into their human states as they slammed into the ground. They were left unable to move, and for a moment, it felt as though the very air around them had stopped flowing. Everyone watched the scene in shock. Despite being Black Iron rank 10, he stood over them like a supreme ruler. Without even lifting a finger, he had defeated 3 bronze-level experts, which is quite the achievement, to be honest. He told them they needed more practice, and the brothers, trembling with fear, struggled to get back on their feet. They shakily admitted that he was strong and conceded the round, though their admission meant very little now. Lin Mo noted that he didn't exactly need their permission to win, before asking them what they intended to do next. With a slight smile, he got straight to the point. He wanted his payment in essence blood and beast boxes. He casually suggested they throw in some beast orbs and potions as well, or else things might get rather unpleasant. He warned them that he could personally guarantee they wouldn't make it into Daxia University, prompting the brothers to cry out that he was going too far. When Lin Mo asked if they were refusing, they quickly folded as he stepped closer, their faces dark with resentment as they finally agreed. The three of them pulled out the essence blood of 5 bronze-rank monsters along with 5 matching beast boxes and handed them over. Lin Mo accepted the payment with a satisfied smile, planning to spend his remaining days absorbing these resources before the Daxia University entrance exam. After all, that exam was a literal life-and-death struggle where no mistakes were allowed. Meanwhile, we shift our gaze to the Xiao family in the imperial capital. Xiao Tianba looked at his son, Xiao Ao, with a deeply serious expression and asked if he was truly certain about his next move. He asked if the boy really intended to participate in the Daxia University assessment, and Xiao Ao confirmed that he absolutely had to go. Xiao Ao's eyes were filled with a burning resentment as he declared that Lin Mo had publicly humiliated him and must be made to pay, regardless of his SSS rank status. He vowed that he would never be inferior to anyone and would kill Lin Mo regardless, a bold claim, though perhaps a bit ambitious. Xiao Tianba laughed loudly, clearly impressed by his son's spirit, just as a beautiful woman entered the room. This was Qin Rushuang, Xiao Ao's mother, who had come to discuss the upcoming assessment with her son. She informed him that for this particular challenge, his 3 uncles had prepared a very special gift for him. With a gentle clap of her hands, 9 young men radiating a cold, murderous aura suddenly appeared before them. When Xiao Ao asked what this meant, she explained that since his 3 uncles held high positions in the military, they had many talented subordinates. She suggested that during the assessment, he could use their strength to accomplish whatever goals he had in mind. The implication of Qin Rushuang's words was perfectly clear. These 9 men were there to be his personal enforcers. Every single one of them possessed an S-rank talent, and one was even an S-rank awakened, making them a formidable support team indeed. Xiao Ao was visibly shocked by this revelation and bowed deeply, asking his mother to convey his sincere thanks to his 3 uncles. But his mother told him not to be in such a hurry, as this was only the beginning. His grandfather had a gift for him as well. Qin Rushuang produced 2 crimson longswords and handed them to Xiao Ao, explaining they were forged from the bones of a gold rank monster. Specifically, they were crafted from the blazing jade beast, and her father had even managed to incorporate the creature's very essence orb into the blades. Because of this, the twin swords allowed the wielder to channel the blazing jade beast's own innate divine ability. Known as the Blazing Meteor Slash, its full power was enough to heavily wound even a blue jade rank expert, a terrifying prospect, to be sure. However, due to the strict rules of the Daxia University assessment, his grandfather had suppressed their limit to the bronze rank for the time being. With these blades, he would be invincible in any duel during the exam, a fact that left Xiao Ao's eyes sparkling with pure delight. At that moment, Qin Rushuang pulled out a vial of medicine, noting that she had recently commissioned it herself. It was a custom primordial energy serum from Yanhuang Tech, designed to push both his physical body and energy levels to their absolute limits. She reminded him that the Imperial Qin family stood behind him, and as long as they endured, no one would ever dare touch him. She told him to do whatever he wished without fear, just as Xiao Tianba spoke up to add his own contribution. He declared that for the next 2 weeks, Xiao Ao would follow him personally to undergo rigorous combat training and sharpen his skills. Meanwhile, we returned to Lin Mo, who had finished absorbing all the essence blood and beast boxes he had extorted from the Wang brothers. Thanks to those resources, his level had smoothly risen to bronze rank 1, but he wasn't finished quite yet. He then produced a crystal, the essence orb of a gold rank meteor fire wolf, which was his primary prize from the previous encounter. Normally, these orbs contain all the skills of the monster's former life, though what one actually inherits is usually left entirely to luck. But as he placed his hand on the orb, his eyes widened in genuine shock. He had achieved a perfect 100% skill inheritance. He could even transform into the meteor fire wolf itself, an incredible feat that was likely another hidden effect of his infinite devour talent. While the transformation could only be triggered once, it had no time limit as long as he didn't manually cancel it. A little later, we find him sitting at his computer entering a specific URL, as today was the final day to register for the underground boxing tournament. The champion of this particular tournament would receive the Essence Blood and Beast box of a silver rank monster, a prize he couldn't ignore. There was also a prize of 2 million Daxia coins. He was currently desperate for resources, and the Meteor Fire Wolf's power provided the perfect opportunity. It would allow him to perfectly hide his identity, so after registering, he found a wolf mask and chose a code name for himself. He chose Silent Wolf, as many participants in the underground boxing ring prefer using aliases rather than their real names. To be honest, seeing someone wearing a mask in a place like this was actually quite common. As passionate roars echoed through the arena, his name and information finally flashed across the electronic display screen. The first match, Bronze Rank 1, Silent Wolf versus Bronze Rank 5, Ghostface. The crowd was instantly taken aback, and a wave of skeptical chatter broke out regarding a Bronze Rank 1 entering the fray. They wondered if the organizers were joking, asking how someone of such low caliber could even be allowed on the stage. On the other side of the stands, Ling Susu excitedly told Xia Qingqing to bet on Ghostface, putting down 500,000 herself. She was certain a rank 5 couldn't lose to a rank 1, but Xia Qingqing seemed far less convinced by the odds. She frowned. While logic supported the crowd, a certain voice suddenly echoed in the back of her mind. She told Susu to go back and listen to her, deciding on a very different betting strategy for the match. She placed 10,000 on Silent Wolf and 10,000 on Ghostface, leaving Ling Susu's jaw dropping in complete disbelief. Susu reluctantly agreed, even as the rest of the audience continued to pour their money into a Ghostface victory. Lin Mo felt a bit helpless, thinking that if he had known, he would have found someone to bet more on himself beforehand. While he was lost in thought, his opponent stepped onto the ring and stared him down with clear disdain. The man taunted him, offering him the first move, which prompted Lin Mo to ask if he was truly looking for trouble. The opponent dared him to try and kill him, and in the very next second, the atmosphere in the arena shifted violently. Ghostface let out a roar and activated his transformation, turning into a scythe mantis over 2 meters tall. As the creature loomed over the ring, the audience erupted in excitement. It was quite the imposing sight, to be sure. The crowd was already celebrating, with one spectator shouting that his 50,000 coin bet was a guaranteed win. Ling Susu was equally ecstatic, flailing her arms and clinging to Xia Qingqing in a fit of pure excitement. But as the fight dragged on, she began to panic, jokingly threatening to bite Qingqing if they actually lost. Lin Mo, however, had his own plans. Rather than ending the fight instantly, he decided to play the long game. He wanted to drive his own betting odds even higher, and so, 10 full minutes passed in a grueling display. Finally, the curtain began to fall on the round, with both he and Ghostface lying battered on the canvas. Just as the referee's countdown was about to end, Lin Mo forced his aching body to stand back up. He gasped for air, putting on a convincing show of exhaustion that left the Ghostface bettors absolutely livid. While the audience hurled insults, Ling Susu was jumping for joy, her gamble having paid off in the end. She cheered at the top of her lungs, celebrating a victory that many had thought was impossible. She wasn't the only one surprised. Nearly everyone in the arena felt as though luck had taken a strange turn. Meanwhile, Lin Mo slipped toward the corner of the ring and beckoned a security guard over for a favor. He told the man to place a 1,000,000-coin bet on Silent Wolf for the next round, leaving the guard speechless. The guard stood there frozen, wondering if this fighter was actually serious about such a massive, risky wager. At that moment, the big screen flickered to life again, announcing the second match, Silent Wolf versus Magic Master. This Magic Master was a terrifying opponent who had bitten off his last challenger's head in a single strike. He was also one of the 3 top contenders for the championship in the high-level arena, a true predator. To Lin Mo, however, this wasn't a threat. It was simply the perfect time to make a lot of money. As the second match approached, Ling Susu turned to Xia Qingqing, eager to hear her thoughts on the odds. Qingqing suggested betting on Magic Master, noting that the gap between a rank 1 and a rank 8 was simply too vast. With a cheerful nod, Susu ran off to place her bets, while on the other side of the arena, something caught our hero's eye. He suddenly spotted a familiar figure passing by in the crowd. Wondering what she was doing here, he quickly pulled out his phone. He sent a message to Xia Qingqing, asking if they were watching the underground fights and if they had placed their bets yet. Susu had already bet 500,000 on Magic Master, but he warned her, don't bet on him. Trust me, bet on Silent Wolf. Realizing it was him, Xia Qingqing spun around and urgently told Susu to cancel the bet she had just placed on Magic Master. She told her to withdraw it all and put it on Silent Wolf instead, and to bet 50,000 for her as well, leaving Susu speechless. Susu was baffled, asking why the sudden change of heart, but Qingqing was firm. She had changed her mind and wanted Silent Wolf. And so, the bets were placed. Meanwhile, Magic Master and Lin Mo stepped onto the ring, the opponent's eyes filled with murderous intent. With a roar, Magic Master initiated his transformation, his body shifting and growing until he became a massive, 3-meter-tall beast. The giant mystic lion radiated a terrifying aura. Looking at that overwhelming pressure, one might think the match was already decided. To be honest, it looked like a sure win for the beast. The mystic lion suddenly lunged forward, charging directly at Lin Mo. However, in the next instant, a brilliant golden light erupted, engulfing the entire stage. As the glow faded, a golden 5-clawed dragon appeared. The dragon towered over the ring, and for a moment, the entire audience stood frozen in absolute shock at the sight. People began to whisper in confusion. Wasn't his awakening supposed to be a meteor fire wolf? Could he actually be a dual awakener? Susu covered her mouth in disbelief and turned to Xia Qingqing, asking if this person could really be who she thought he was. Qingqing gave a bitter smile and confirmed it. Yes, this was Lin Mo. It certainly explained his strange confidence earlier. The Demon Master watched this display of emotion with a cold, amused interest. To him, a bronze rank 8 facing a bronze rank 1 was hardly a fair fight. He unleashed his skill, a deafening Lion King's roar that shook the very foundations of the arena with its raw power. The sound waves transformed into a physical force, rolling toward Lin Mo like a crushing tide. It was a moment of extreme tension. But as Lin Mo's eyes narrowed, a thunderous dragon's cry erupted, instantly drowning out the lion's roar and leaving Magic Master's face pale with shock. He felt a terrifying pressure suddenly envelop him, and in an instant, his strength was suppressed by half. At that moment, Lin Mo stepped forward and directly pierced through the chest of the Mystic Master. He asked calmly if the man truly thought he could stand against him, noting that he only dragged out the previous fight to lower the odds. He wouldn't have worked so hard in the last round otherwise. With a swift movement, he struck out with his dragon claw. The Demon Master's body flew back uncontrollably, crashing heavily onto the ring until his breath finally left him. The entire arena fell into a dead silence before those who had bet on the Demon Master began to hurl insults. After that, Lin Mo returned to his human form and walked off the stage, intending to collect the 15 million he had just won. But as he moved to claim his prize, a middle-aged man suddenly called out to him, addressing him as Mr. Silent Wolf. The man introduced himself as the person in charge of this entire fighting arena. Lin Mo asked coldly if they simply couldn't afford to lose, but the man quickly offered a polite, apologetic smile. He asked if the gentleman would dare to play for even higher stakes, and we see that Lin Mo was instantly interested. He asked how the game worked. The prize money would be increased to 20 million, along with silver rank monster blood and cores. He offered to upgrade the reward to gold rank, asking if the gentleman was interested. It was a simple enough proposal. In the upcoming battle, the remaining 11 contestants plus the manager himself, 12 people in total, would all fight against him at once. He asked if Lin Mo dared to accept, but our hero had one condition of his own. He stated that if he won, he would forfeit his 15 million in exchange for an additional 1,000 monsters. He also demanded the 1 million bet as well. The middle-aged man shook his head, suggesting this wasn't quite right. Since the gentleman had added a condition, they would do the same. If he lost the fight, he would have to stay at the arena for the rest of his life as a permanent fighter. They wanted a money-making tool, essentially. Finding the proposal quite interesting, he directly agreed. And so, the announcement of the new challenge was made. The entire arena erupted in an instant, for the 12th contestant was none other than last year's champion. He was Yao Sanpao, the demon man of Bronze Tint Street. We might recall that back then, he had single-handedly torn through the entire arena, earning his fearsome title. He was, quite frankly, a genuine monster of a man. Everyone assumed Silent Wolf was finished, and the bets poured in. Meanwhile, on the stage, Yao Sanpao gave a cold smile and remarked that once upon a time, he had been just like Lin Mo, sweeping through the underground arena until he realized he couldn't fight the system. Even after achieving ultimate victory, he never received his prize money. Instead, he became the manager of this underground ring, losing his freedom. But now, Mayor Long had promised him liberty, provided he could defeat Lin Mo. As he spoke, a massive demonic turtle was the first to manifest on stage. Immediately after, a horde of grotesque monsters began their transformations, appearing one by one on the platform. Before this wall of beasts, Lin Mo looked as small as an ant, yet he didn't show a hint of fear. As he unleashed his dragon might, the combat power of all 12 monsters was instantly suppressed by 50%. Then, from the void itself, a massive golden sword slowly began to materialize. This true dragon sword is a life-bound treasure, nurtured by a dragon pearl. And although he hadn't fully mastered it yet, it was more than enough for these opponents. With a single swing, several divine dragons roared forth into the arena. The 12 monsters on the field were frozen in pure terror, wondering how they were supposed to fight such a thing. One monster screamed and tried to flee, only to be swallowed whole by a green dragon. A Rafflesia beast spat flames, but a red dragon's breath instantly turned it into charcoal. Another beast, relying on its high defense, tried to strike the black dragon, only to have its body crushed instantly by the dragon's claw. In just a single encounter, 11 of the monsters were either dead or severely wounded, completely losing their ability to fight back. The majestic aura they had before the match was gone, and trembling, the monster stammered that he surrendered. "I'm sorry," Lin Mo replied calmly, reminding him that he had shown no mercy to the challengers he killed before. In this arena, he wouldn't escape death either. The beast growled, warning Lin Mo not to push him to a mutual destruction. As those words fell, the demonic turtle that Yao Sanpao had transformed into began frantically condensing flames in its maw. We might expect this blast to be aimed at Lin Mo, but surprisingly, the beast suddenly changed its direction. He fired toward the sky and, without a word, leaped into the air in a desperate attempt to escape. Seeing this, Lin Mo didn't hesitate for a single second. The true dragon sword was suddenly pressed against the man's throat as Lin Mo coldly dared him to take another step. Yao Sanpao begged for his life, but Lin Mo raised his sword without hesitation. Just then, a sharp, resonant voice suddenly echoed through the arena, telling him to stop. An old man with silver hair appeared, followed by a group of men in suits who carried an air of extraordinary authority. Good heavens, it was Dong Anshan, the chairman of Quantum Technology. Just as everyone thought Yao Sanpao might be saved, Lin Mo ignored the interruption entirely and swung his blade, ending Yao Sanpao's life right then and there. He then looked up, meeting the gaze of the silver-haired chairman. The old man remarked that Lin Mo seemed like a typical arrogant youth, but his strength wasn't enough to justify such pride. He declared that today, Lin Mo would pay the price for his actions. Behind him, 2 bald bodyguards stepped forward. In the next moment, 2 tyrant dragons over 10 meters tall appeared on the stage, letting out earth-shaking roars. These were C-rank tyrant dragon beasts, and silver-level 5-star monsters at that. The chairman was certainly living up to his reputation. To think that mere bodyguards possessed such overwhelming power is truly staggering. It was rumored that Dong Anshan possessed an entire squad of these tyrant dragon guards. As the 2 beasts surrounded him, Xia Qingsheng watched with concern. The atmosphere suddenly turned cold and sharp. Lin Mo quickly pulled out his phone and first sent a brief text message to Qin Weibo. After that, he placed a call to Yi Chang'an, who was far away in the imperial capital. At the same time, Ning Susu also called her father, Governor Ning Yuan. Upon hearing the news, Yi Chang'an narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. He let out a chuckle, noting that the kids certainly had a knack for trouble, though he admitted he liked that fearless spirit. In his view, they should simply crush Quantum Technology entirely. Xia Qingcheng, listening in, felt a cold sweat break out. She reminded him that now wasn't the time for jokes, as Lin Mo was in immediate danger. Yi Chang'an waved a hand dismissively, his tone casual, yet filled with absolute confidence. He told her not to worry, even though he was currently grounded by the commander. Instead, he would have Uncle Tang make the trip. Since he owed the kid a favor, they would handle it by the old rules. Hearing this, Xia Qingqing's face was instantly filled with shock. To think that Uncle Tang was actually coming to Shanghai City. This was truly a massive turn of events. She glanced sideways at the imposing Dong Anshan with a new perspective. The look of amusement in her eyes grew deeper. Now, things were about to get truly interesting. Meanwhile, the 2 fierce tyrant dragon beasts had already surrounded Lin Mo. Yet, he didn't show even a hint of fear. Instead, he stood still and spread his arms as the light of dragon runes surged around him, emitting a terrifying radiance. Deep down, these 2 tyrant dragon beasts carried a very thin trace of dragon bloodline within their bodies. And the pure dragon pressure radiating from Lin Mo's body exerted a natural, absolute suppression over them. The two giant beasts let out low whimpers, circling him several times but, strangely enough, not daring to take a single step forward. Dong Anshin's face darkened instantly as he barked at them, demanding to know what those two useless things were doing. He demanded they attack, but the only response he received was the increasingly pathetic whimpering of the two tyrant dragons. They even began to instinctively back away. Dong Anshin, now completely losing his patience, ordered his two bodyguards to charge toward Lin Mo and the four white eagle-rank tyrant dragons surrounding him. Still paralyzed by the dragon's pressure, the beasts didn't even dare to approach. Dongdamu, Dong Anshin shouted, his eyes now completely bloodshot. We should note that Dongda was the leader of all the tyrant dragon beasts under his command, a top-tier, white eagle 9th Street monster. Upon receiving the order, this mountain of a beast let out a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. It opened its massive, bloody maw and lunged forward, intent on tearing Lin Mo to pieces in a single bite. Just as the crowd decided he was a dead man, a figure suddenly blurred through the air with incredible, wind-breaking speed. The man landed firmly in front of Lin Mo, shielding him. The newcomer was none other than the military leader, Qin Weigua. Qin Weigua moved with the ferocity of a silver wolf, his brilliant blade light tearing through the void in a single, blinding flash. In an instant, the lunging beast was sliced clean in half at the waist, its blood painting the floor. Lin Mo, are you alright? A second later, and this would have been a disaster. Don't worry, as long as I'm here today, justice will be served. Qin Weigua turned his head, his icy gaze locking onto Dong Anshin like a predator marking its prey. He demanded an explanation for the attack on a brave soldier, threatening to level the entire Quanon technology building if he didn't get one. Dong Anshin's expression turned utterly grim. He simply couldn't fathom how a kid using the alias Garo, or Feng Wolf, could possibly command the personal protection of a high-ranking official like Qin Weigua. Still, he braced himself and stepped out. But just as he opened his mouth to offer a defense, Qin Weigua decided that talking was, quite frankly, overrated. He charged forward with his long blade drawn. Qin Weigua, have you lost your mind? Dong Anshin screamed in terror. He scrambled back, shouting that the military's resource supply was at stake, all for the sake of one young man. He even revealed his backing. Wang Chun, the third young master of the imperial capital's Wang family, had personally ordered the hit. In his mind, this was a man neither of them could afford to cross, and apparently, the young master's authority was present right there. Hearing this, Qin Weigua did something unexpected. He started laughing. And here I thought I knew who was giving you such misplaced confidence, he remarked. It was only Wang Chun. He then asked the obvious question, why didn't the young master dare to show his own face? Qin Weigua turned his gaze toward the spectator stands and raised his voice, noting that Ning Yuan, the governor of an entire province, had been sitting there incognito for quite some time. He demanded the governor step forward. Now, Dong Anshin might have dared to argue with Qin Weigua, but facing Ning Yuan was a different matter entirely. In fact, he barely dared to breathe. If his company, Chenin Technology, wanted to maintain a foothold in Xinhai province, every single aspect of his business had to pass through Ning Yuan first. To be honest, Ning Yuan was the person he feared most in this world. Panicked, Dong Anshin scrambled to pull out his phone, claiming he would call young Master Wang so they could explain themselves to him directly. On the other end of the line, Wang Chun, who was still recovering in the ICU, flew into a rage upon hearing that his business was being interfered with again. He roared that he wasn't someone to be trifled with and demanded the phone be handed over. Dong Anshin hurriedly held the device out toward Qin Weigua and Ning Yuan. Wang Chen's arrogant voice immediately echoed through the line, asking them just who they thought they were to interfere with his business. He kept shouting, repeating his demands over and over as if his name alone should have been enough to end the confrontation. Meanwhile, we see Wang Zhou on the phone, asking what else needed to be done. The plan to play the charming host was going well enough, except for the fact that some bastard had ruined the game and cost him over 3 million. Wang Zhou waved his hand dismissively, acting as if 3 million were a mere pittance. It was a small matter, really. Dong Anshin immediately signaled his men, who brought forward 5 heavy cases. He explained that these 5 million were a small token of his appreciation, asking young Master Zhe to put in a good word for him with the third young master. Wang Zhe nodded with satisfaction, noting that Dong Anshin at least knew how to be sensible. At the same time, we see Ning Susu grabbing Xia Qingqing's hand in a panic. She desperately asked what they should do, but Xia Qingqing remained calm, telling her not to worry because Uncle Tang would be arriving shortly. When Ning Susu asked which Uncle Tang she meant, Xia Qingqing simply uttered 2 words, Yinhuang. Upon hearing this, Ning Susu nearly jumped out of her skin. The legendary Tang Yinhuang. She couldn't believe Xia Qingqing had such powerful connections. Xia Qingqing shook her head gently, admitting she didn't have that much influence. This was all thanks to Senior Ye's reputation. By now, Wang Zhe had already ordered Dong Anshin to capture Lin Mo immediately. Seeing this, Qin Weigua gripped his long blade even tighter. His murderous aura was almost tangible, and yet, Lin Mo simply reached into his pocket and gripped the token given to him by Yi Chang'an. The golden token he had been given held a secret. Within it was hidden the absolute power of the 9 Heavens Cloud Dragon Spear Strike. Just as Lin Mo prepared to activate the token, a stern-faced middle-aged man walked in slowly, wearing a badge on his chest. It was the unmistakable insignia of a military advisor general, a rank so prestigious that only 108 exist in the world. But what truly caused the crowd to gasp in shock was that this highly decorated general was actually following someone else. He walked with a respectful air, trailing behind another middle-aged man who had just entered the room. The onlookers were instantly paralyzed with fear, realizing that the newcomer was a figure at the very top of the global pyramid. He was Tang Yanhuang, founder of Yanhuang Technology and one of the top 10 richest men on the planet. Well, since I am here, this farce should probably come to an end, Tang Yanhuang said calmly, before walking toward Lin Mo with a faint smile. Who do you think you are? Who gave you the nerve to put on such an act here? Wang Zhe snapped, his face darkening as he cursed. Tang Yanhuang didn't even acknowledge him, continuing his steady walk forward. To be honest, Wang Zhe had no idea who he was dealing with. Muttering insults, Wang Zhe stepped forward and reached out, intending to grab Tang Yanhuang by the shoulder. But before his hand could even brush the fabric of the coat, the armored general by Tang's side looked up with a cold, piercing gaze. Before Wang Zhe could react, the general reached out and snapped his arm. A sickening crack echoed through the silent room. Wang Zhe let out a blood-curdling scream of agony. You dare touch me? Don't you know I'm from the Wang family of the imperial capital? Upon hearing this, Tang Yanhuang turned his head and smiled. Even if Wang Zhengcheng himself were here, he began. He wouldn't dare use the Wang family name to act so brazenly in my presence. It seems the younger generation has surpassed the old. You are certainly much more arrogant than Wang Zhengcheng ever was. At those words, Wang Zhe froze in sheer terror. He finally realized that the man standing before him was someone truly extraordinary. Open your eyes and look closely, the general barked. Wang Zhe's gaze fell upon the general's Medal of Honor, and in that moment, his soul nearly left his body from fright. His legs went weak, and he collapsed to his knees. Senior, please, may I know your name? I was reckless. Please forgive me. I am Wang Zhe, from the imperial capital's Wang family. My father is Wang Zhengyu, and Wang Zhengcheng is my uncle, he stammered, desperate to be heard. I don't care who you are, nor do I care who stands behind you. In the Wang family, I only recognize Wang Zhengcheng. Tang Yanhuang's voice remained flat as he continued. You should go and ask him right now if he recognizes the name Tang Yanhuang. Wang Zhe's mind went completely blank, feeling as though he had been plunged into an abyss of ice. Why don't you call me Old Deng? Those casual words from Tang Yanhuang made Wang Zhe tremble violently before he collapsed, his head hitting the floor in a frantic, desperate apology. I was wrong, senior. I was truly wrong. At that moment, Xia Qingqing arrived with Ling Susu, and Tang Yanhuang offered a faint smile. He looked toward them, and just as Xia Qingqing was about to offer some excuse, Tang Yanhuang raised a hand to stop him. I know what you're worried about. Qi Lai, bring it out, he commanded, turning to the general at his side. We see General Qi Lai immediately pull out a sophisticated, high-tech mechanical device from his gear. This is the latest memory modifier developed by Yanhuang Technology. Everything that happened here today, Tang Yanhuang explained calmly, will be erased from the minds of everyone irrelevant. Though it's a single-use item costing over $1 billion, it is a small price to pay. For the sake of our young prodigy, it's worth it. Tang Yanhuang then turned his gaze toward the deathly pale Dong Anshan. As for the cost, it will be deducted from your Chunin technology later. Dong Anshan stood frozen, not daring to utter a single word of protest. And this is where things get truly interesting, as Lin Mo slowly removed the mask from his face. The moment his features were revealed, the entire hall erupted in a deafening wave of shock. It was Lin Mo. It was actually Lin Mo all along. The top genius of Shanghai, the SSS rank awakener himself. Dong Anshan's legs gave out from pure terror at the sight. He finally understood why Qin Weigua and Ning Yuan were willing to protect this young man at any cost. To be honest, he should have realized sooner. This farce should come to an end now, Tang Yanhuang said softly, his presence dominating the room. The pettiness of the Wang family has certainly been eye-opening. I'll have a long talk with Wang Zhengcheng when I return. But just then, Dong Anshan and Wang Zhe exchanged a quick, panicked glance. Their hearts sank simultaneously, sensing that something was about to go very wrong. Wang Chun had also dispatched a military commander to this location, and by now, he was expected to arrive at any moment. The two of them prayed fervently in their hearts that he wouldn't show up, but a second later, their hopes were dashed. A figure descended from the sky with a thunderous crash, causing the entire underground platform to tremble violently upon impact. It was indeed the military commander, Sun Xingtian, who immediately demanded that Ning Yuan and Qin Weigua come forward and bow. In that instant, the last shred of hope in Wang Zhe and Dong Anshan's hearts withered away completely. And yet, things changed again. As soon as Sun Xingtian saw who was actually in the room, his expression shifted instantly, and he dropped to his knees with a heavy thud. Did Wang Chen send you, or was it Wang Zhengcheng? Tang Yanhuang asked calmly. Stuttering, the commander admitted it was young Master Wang Chen. Chang'an, my boy, did you hear that? Tang Yanhuang let out a soft chuckle, though his voice carried a bone-chilling edge. This Wang Chun is quite interesting. Yi Chang'an's voice rang out. I've said many times that I don't interfere in rivalries between the younger generation. But if someone uses power and background to bully the weak, I will step in. The Wang family just happened to walk right into my sights. Over the phone, Yi Chang'an's cold voice echoed. Tang Yinhuang shook his head with a trace of helplessness before turning toward Lin Mo. He's 30 years old and still so dramatic. Don't go learning that from him, he advised. Lin Mo simply replied not to worry. I usually just eliminate the evil directly, Lin Mo said. Hearing this, Tang Yinhuang paused for a moment before breaking into a loud laugh. Now I finally see why Yi Chang'an took such a liking to you. You really are an interesting kid. Meanwhile, back in the imperial capital, we see Yi Chang'an standing at his villa entrance, gripping his silver dragon spear as two powerful members of the Holy Regiment approach him. They politely informed Vice Commander Yi that he wasn't allowed to leave. I never said I was leaving, he replied. I'm just sending a delivery. With those words, Yi Chang'an raised his hand and hurled the silver dragon spear through the air. Do you know what express delivery means? The two experts shook their heads in complete confusion. Well, Yi Chang'an remarked, you're both about to find out very soon. He offered them each a cigarette with a faint smile before turning back into his villa. At that very same moment, the three brothers of the Wang family, including Wang Chun, had finally recovered from their injuries and were being discharged from the hospital. They were set to recover fully in time for the Yanhuang University assessment. Third brother, what's on your mind? Wang Ming and Wang Chong asked. Seeing Wang Chun looking so distracted, the two brothers couldn't help but frown. It's nothing, he replied, but my heart won't stop racing. Wang Chin's brow furrowed, feeling a sharp, needle-like pain in his back as if a disaster was looming over him. This unsettling sensation left him completely baffled. Stop overthinking, his brothers told him. Just focus on recovering for now. We have to support Brother Xiao Ao this time. The family gave him plenty of resources to settle the score with Lin Mo. The three brothers spoke with pure malice, certain that with Xiao Ao leading them, they would finally get their revenge. With Brother Xiao Ao there, Lin Mo won't even know what hit him. But suddenly, all three of them stopped and frowned. Something was approaching from the horizon with a whistling sound so loud it was unnatural. Is that a dragon's roar? One wondered aloud. You've been in that hospital bed too long, his brother scoffed. Now you're hearing things. I'm not lying. Just listen. But this was no joke. The roar was getting louder and more terrifying. The three of them looked up at the sky in shock. A silver spear was tearing through the heavens, descending from the distance with a draconic cry that shook the very earth. Like a silver dragon soaring through the 9 heavens, it whistled through the air, heading straight for the Wang family estate. Why does that spear look so familiar? One asked. Well, it should. It was Yi Chang'an's legendary weapon, the White Dragon Spear. The brothers felt their scalps go numb with terror. Why on earth was Yi Chang'an's spear flying toward them like a guided missile? They looked at each other in a blind panic. What are you standing there for? Run, they screamed, scrambling for safety. Chang'an, how has my Wang family offended you now? At that moment, the family head, Wang Zhengcheng, was calmly sipping tea. He had been waiting for his sons to return when he suddenly felt an overwhelming pressure and heard that unmistakable dragon's cry. His face turned pale instantly. In a flash, he appeared high above the manor, his body beginning a violent transformation. A massive purple lion manifested in the sky, his sole domain, the mad purple-scaled king lion, revealed in all its glory. The giant beast was covered in dark purple armor, which was intricately inlaid with countless shimmering crystals. The scene was one of domineering luxury as Wang Zhengcheng let out a corpse-like roar that shook the very foundations of heaven and earth. He intended to use the sheer force of that roar to deter the silver spear, but the weapon's momentum was utterly unstoppable. Despite his considerable strength, Zhengqing found himself completely powerless against this single strike. You bastard, he cursed in desperation. A flash of primal terror crossed the eyes of his purple-scaled king lion, and he was forced to scramble out of the way. The white dragon spear descended like a silver beast from the heavens, its metaphorical jaws wide open as it lunged toward the Wang estate. Dad, save us! The brothers screamed as the spear crashed down, its sweeping edge heading straight for Wang Chun and his siblings. The three of them felt their souls nearly leave their bodies, realizing with horror that they were likely headed straight back to the hospital. In an instant, the three figures were sent flying by the spear's impact, coughing up blood as most of the bones in their bodies shattered. As they lay on the ground wailing in agony, the white dragon spear stood tall, looking very much like a divine weapon sent from above. It had pierced the entire Wang manor from top to bottom. Zhengqing shifted back into his human form, his expression twisted with rage. His face was as grim as it could possibly be. Wait a moment, and bring my spear back to me. Yi Chang'an's voice suddenly rang out. The voice echoed slowly over the ruins of the manor. Zhengqing trembled with fury, his voice dripping with venom as he hissed. Yi Chang'an, you've nearly crippled my 3 sons and practically leveled my home, and now you have the nerve to tell me to deliver your spear? What do you take me for? A dog? He turned to his sons groaning on the ground and demanded, what on earth happened? Why would Yi Chang'an attack us without any reason? Which of you knows something? The 3 brothers could only lie there, shivering. They were trembling partly from the excruciating pain and partly from sheer terror. Just then, Zhengqing's phone began to ring. He answered it quickly. Xingtian, what's going on? Aren't you currently with the Crimson Blaze General? With him there, who would dare touch you? Zhengqing's brow furrowed even deeper. It is the Crimson Blaze General and Mr. Tang Yanhuang. Upon hearing that name, Zhengqing rubbed his temples in frustration. A massive headache was forming. First, Yi Chang'an attacks without warning, and now the most powerful figures in the region are involved. Immediately after, his disciple began crying for help, and Zhengqing knew something was deeply wrong. He wouldn't believe there wasn't a connection even if it killed him. Where are you right now? He demanded. I'm in Zenhezu. Zenhezu? What on earth are you doing running off to a place like that? Young Master Wang Qin called me here. Sun Xingtian sobbed, proceeding to explain the entire situation from beginning to end to a stunned Zhengqing. And then what? Why would Tang Yanhuang and the Crimson Blaze General both be in Zenhezu of all places? They came to help a young man named Feng Wolf. Feng Wolf? Which Feng Wolf? Suddenly, the phone in Zhengqing's hand nearly slipped to the ground. Lin Mo, that Feng Wolf is actually Lin Mo, Master. Are you kidding me? You absolute fool. Zhengqing looked down at Wang Chun on the ground, the murderous intent in his eyes practically overflowing as the pieces finally clicked into place. He finally understood why Yi Chang'an would attack the Wang family without warning, and why Tang Yanhuang would personally travel all the way to Zenhezu. It was all because of the trouble caused by these two wretched sons of his. You're going to be the death of me, he roared. Zhengqing was like a lion in a primal rage, screaming at Wang Chun, who could only stammer back. Lin Mo? No, wait. Wasn't he just Feng Wolf? Wang Chun was utterly dumbfounded. What Feng Wolf? That is Lin Mo, you idiot. Wang Zhe, you son of a dog. You've ruined me. Wang Chun realized the truth and began cursing his brother at the top of his lungs. Hello, Master? Are you still there? I'm here, Zhengqing replied, trying to steady his heart which felt like it might actually explode. What else? Well, Senior Tang was there too, and Wang Zhe. He called Senior Tang Old Deng. Old Deng? He called Tang Yanhuang Old Deng? Zhengqing felt his vision go dark, nearly fainting on the spot. To be honest, even he wouldn't dare speak to Tang Yanhuang with such casual disrespect. How did Wang Zhe, that little brat, have the nerve? It seemed each generation of the Wang family was becoming more recklessly brave than the last. I'm tired. Whoever wants to be the head of this family can have it, he muttered, hanging up the phone as his scalp tingled with pure dread. He was completely numb. One son offended Yi Chang'an, and the other called Tang Yanhuang Old Deng. They truly acted as if their father had a heart of iron. Dad, Wang Chun whispered timidly. Don't call me Dad. You're the impressive one here. From now on, I'll call you Dad. Dad, please don't be like that. Wang Chun cried, his heart consumed by a fire of regret as he shook like a leaf before his father's wrath. We see Wang Chong and Wang Meng staring at Wang Chun, their eyes burning with a murderous intensity for their incredibly foolish younger brother. It was one thing for him to seek his own ruin, but dragging them down right after their hospital release was quite another. Now, they had to make amends. They would have to apologize, accept their defeat, and start by respectfully returning Yi Chang'an's weapon with the utmost care. Zhengqing rubbed his temples, feeling a wave of utter helplessness wash over him. This entire disaster felt like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. His current mood was likely identical to the legendary Li Jing, peacefully drinking tea at home while chaos brewed elsewhere, only to find out his son had provoked a disaster of mythic proportions. Because of this, the three brothers completely lost their chance. The opportunity to enter Yanxia University was gone, and the Wang family suffered heavy losses. When Wang Zhe's father heard the news, the shock was too much. His heart gave out, and he fainted on the spot. Meanwhile, back in Zenhezu, the curtain was finally falling on this drama. Sun Xingtian, from this day forward, you are no longer a military commander. Your merits are reset, and you are stationed at the border. The Crimson Blaze General spoke coldly, leaving no room for negotiation. He was to start over as a common soldier. Yes, sir, Sun replied. Sun Xingtian's heart was filled with bitterness, feeling as though he had been thoroughly set up. As for Qinan technology, Tang Yanhuang narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly. My Yanhuang technology has been planning to expand into the 36 and 72 provinces. This first step begins right here in Zenhezu. Dong Anshan, I am acquiring your company. Is 1 yuan enough? Tang Yanhuang asked, pulling a single coin from his pocket and placing it firmly on the table. 1 yuan. Dong Anshan stood there, utterly stunned. Tell me, Tang continued, is it enough? Dong Anshan opened his mouth to protest. But the moment he met Tang Yanhuang's murderous gaze, a shiver ran down his spine. The sheer dominance in those eyes was terrifying. It was a look that rivaled the legendary war kings who fought in the ruins. To be honest, Tang Yanhuang's importance to the nation was perhaps even greater than that of a war king. It's enough, Dong Anshan whispered bitterly, taking the coin. He knew all too well that if he refused, the alternative would be far less civil. His company was gone, but at least his personal assets remained. He considered himself lucky to have kept that much. The trial is over, the command came. Clean up the mess here. Make sure their memories are wiped clean, Tang Yanhuang ordered with a wave of his hand, before turning his gaze toward the group. Qingcheng, Lin Mo, young man. And the rest of you, follow me. Dong Anshan, find us a room where we can talk. Dong Anshan nodded frantically, eager to comply. He didn't dare show even a hint of disobedience. Soon, in a magnificent conference room, Tang Yanhuang and our protagonist sat facing each other on leather sofas. Xia Qingcheng, Ling Susu, Qin Weigua, and Ning Yuan all took their seats nearby. This time, Tang Yinhuang began, breaking the silence. Young Chang'an asked me to come to Yinxia specifically to solve your troubles. He also entrusted me with a gift to give to you. He promised he would get this into your hands before the assessment began. Tang Yinhuang offered a faint, knowing smile. He placed a palm-sized capsule onto the crystal coffee table. This is the gift Chang'an sent. The spear-type combat weapon you asked for is inside. The moment Xia Qingqing saw the capsule, her eyes sharpened with recognition. Is this from number 13? Exactly, Tang replied. Tang Yinhuang nodded with a grin. After Yinhuang technology dissected and studied the remains of number 13, they made a breakthrough. They finally cracked the secret of its spatial abilities. This led to their latest development, capsule technology, and it was quite the achievement. We've launched 3 types of capsules, the monster capsule, the storage capsule, and the residential capsule, he explained. The one in front of you is a storage capsule. Its effect is essentially identical to the storage bags or rings you'd find in a cultivation novel. It could store a massive amount of items. As for the residential capsule, we can think of it as a house you carry in your pocket. It was designed to provide a stable, comfortable environment for resting during long expeditions into the ruins. After all, a good rest is essential. Only with proper sleep can one have the energy to keep fighting. But the final type, the monster capsule, was the true masterpiece of the set. Once a monster in the ruins is defeated, it can be drawn into the capsule. From that moment on, the creature changes completely. The beast will obey your every command, follow your lead, and serve you as its master, Tang Yinhuang said with a proud grin. His eyes shone with pride. This had been Yinhuang Technology's largest investment over the last few years, a project of immense scale. Fortunately, they had finally achieved a breakthrough and were starting mass production. Soon, this technology would spread across all of Yinxia. Our hero listened, completely stunned, unable to stop himself from thinking that monster capsules sounded suspiciously like a certain famous video game. He couldn't help but wonder if they'd be summoning giant heroes next. Nearby, Ling Susu stared at the capsule on the table, her eyes practically sparkling. The device was barely the size of a mobile phone. To her, this meant that during future shopping trips, she could buy whatever she wanted. She'd never have to worry about heavy bags again. Tang Yinhuang smiled, noting that he had brought a few samples along for them to try out. The storage capsule was the most affordable model, with a base price of 10,000 credits. A bargain, all things considered. Larger models would follow, with prices rising accordingly. While storage capsules were for the public, the other 2 types remained strictly controlled military assets. Nice, this is perfect, Susu cheered. Finally, she wouldn't need a butler to carry her things while she was out on the town. With lightning speed, Ling Susu snatched up a storage capsule and began turning it over in her hands, her face glowing with delight. Ning Yuan's face darkened instantly. Susu, in front of Mr. Tang, have you no sense of propriety? He barked, trying to maintain some dignity. I don't care, she replied playfully. You're just jealous because you didn't grab one first. It was a bold claim, but not entirely inaccurate. Susu stuck out her tongue and made a face, leaving Ning Yuan fuming in silence. As the saying goes, no one knows a daughter like her father. She had hit the mark. Ning Yuan was indeed quite envious of this unprecedented high-tech gadget. Tang Yinhuang simply chuckled at the family dynamic. Governor Ning, if you're interested, I'll have a few sent to you once mass production begins, Tang offered, smoothly smoothing over the tension. Then, he picked up the specific capsule containing the spear-type weapon and placed it directly into our protagonist's hand. Take a look, see if it suits you. As the capsule was opened, a streak of flowing light suddenly shot out from within. A long spear landed firmly in his grip. The weapon was a striking, deep crimson, looking both elegant and incredibly dangerous. The shaft seemed to pulse as if blood were burning inside it, while the intricate carvings across its surface radiated a gentle, steady heat. The entire spear glowed with an eerie blood-red hue, and the half-meter-long tip shimmered with a light that felt bone-chillingly cold. This was a masterwork forged primarily from purple jade and the bones of a high-level monster known as the Blood Frenzy Eagle. The tip was infused with rare blood-melting ore, and 3 top-grade beast jades were embedded within the carvings of the shaft. These jades held the essence of the Golden Rock's peak speed. This spear wouldn't just strike hard, it would grant its wielder incredible swiftness. When colliding head-on with an enemy, it grants terrifying power, and even if the spear is accidentally dropped, you can use your will to recall it at any time. Plus, it carries the innate elemental attributes of the Blood Frenzy Eagle itself. When this spear clashes with other weapons, it releases a chilling, bloodlust energy that can actually shake the enemy's very soul. So, are you satisfied? Tang asked. Young Chang'an went out of his way to custom build this specifically for you. This spear was far superior to the first weapon Chang'an ever owned. It was time, Tang suggested, to give this masterpiece a name. Shatian, he replied. It was a bold name, and Tang Yinhuang laughed heartily, noting that a hero finally had his divine weapon. But where was the hero? Wei Wei smiled, knowing full well that Tang Yinhuang wanted to see our protagonist's true strength with his own eyes. Senior Tang, please follow me to the training hall. Tang laughed, impressed by the boy's spirit, and gave a grand wave of his hand. Everyone present could see that this spear possessed incredible innate attributes, marking it as a truly unique piece of craftsmanship. It was a weapon that felt alive, vibrating with a power that seemed to demand a worthy challenge in the field. Tang Yanhuang was eager to witness that power firsthand, so he accepted the invitation to move toward the training grounds. "Good lad, let's go," Tang shouted. With that, the entire group began making their way toward the facility's inner sanctum. They headed for the Chunin Tech training room, a specially reinforced chamber designed to withstand the full might of a silver rank monster. The space inside was staggering, easily comparable to a full-sized athletic stadium. "Lin Mo, if you please," Tang invited. With a nod to Wei Wei, Lin Mo stepped forward, walking calmly toward the very center of the massive training hall. Suddenly, a surge of blood-red energy erupted from his body, completely enveloping him in a swirling mist of power. As the mist cleared, a crimson figure stood tall in the center, radiating a thick, suffocating aura of pure combat intent. He looked like a savage beast from ancient times, his explosive energy sweeping across the room. It was a truly fierce display. Tang Yanhuang's eyes widened in surprise. For a moment, he thought he saw the shadow of a monster king lurking within the young man. Lin Mo gripped the Shatian spear, his wrist flicking as the weapon became a blur of motion, the tip whistling through the air. The surrounding void began to tremble slightly. Even though he hadn't inherited the Tao Ye's innate skills yet, the moment he gripped that long spear, an incredibly familiar sensation surged through his heart, exactly like the feeling of holding the true dragon sword in his true dragon form. It seemed the spear was indeed the Tao Ye's exclusive weapon. As he swung it, the spear moved faster and faster in his hands. Gusts of wind shook the empty air without pause. This strength was simply too much, leaving Ning Yuan's face frozen in utter shock. This was the first time he had seen Lin Mo in action, and the combat power being displayed was, to be honest, absurdly powerful. "Chilian, go up there and test him out," Tang commanded, wanting to see what the boy was truly made of. A bolt of blue lightning shot out, charging straight toward him. With a roar, General Chilian's body began to swell instantly. A blinding red light completely enveloped him as the S-rank monster soul, the Sky Crimson Warrior, fully manifested. The ground shook. Thud, thud, thud. General Chilian beat his fists against his chest and lunged forward with primal fury. "Kid, let me test your strength," he shouted. "Give it your all. Don't hold back." The Sky Crimson Warrior's mountain-like fist swung through the air with terrifying force. Carrying a momentum that seemed ready to shatter the world, Chilian swung downward. Lin Mo's eyes brightened as he let out a low shout. "Bring it on." With one hand, he spun the Shatian spear and thrust it forward with a sudden, violent strike to meet that massive fist head-on. This boy, he actually intends to clash with Chilian directly without retreating an inch. A look of surprise flashed across Tang Yanhuang's face. Even though General Chilian was wearing a limiter that suppressed his power to the bronze 3rd rank level, the Sky Crimson Warrior was famous for its raw strength, and its physical body was at the purple jade level. Clashing head-on was, in any normal situation, the most foolish choice possible. Heaven-shattering, earth-slamming fist, the Sky Crimson Warrior roared. His crimson fur danced wildly in the wind. Standing before his 8-meter-tall beast form, Lin Mo's 3-meter Taotai form looked as small as an infant. Chilian was a power-type general, and his explosive attack power was naturally his greatest asset. This was the innate advantage of ape-type monsters. While the limiter could restrict his raw power, it could not limit his battle-hardened instincts or the indestructible toughness of his physical form. And yet, they collided. It truly wasn't a wise choice. Tang Yanhuang shook his head, already certain of the outcome in his heart. Suddenly, an explosion erupted. Fierce winds swept in all directions, nearly blowing everyone outside the field away. The entire massive training room shook relentlessly. The fluctuations were simply too strong, leaving Xia Qingqing's expression heavy with concern. He knew clearly that whether it was the Ice Phoenix or Fire Phoenix, he was no match for Lin Mo in this state. That wasn't just any ordinary SSS rank monster. Its overall quality was simply heaven-defying. "Good timing," Lin Mo shouted. With a low roar, the Shatian spear spun at high speed in his hands, the sound of clashing metal ringing out endlessly. Every time the general's fist collided with the spear, something like a black hole seemed to suddenly awaken within Lin Mo's body. It forcibly sucked away nearly half of the power behind the blow. Without that, he couldn't have blocked such a violent attack. It was almost time. Lin Mo's eyes flickered as he whispered to himself, "Tao Tai, you should be full by now. Open your eyes." As the words fell, the massive phantom of the Tao Ye's head on his chest began to stir. It slowly opened its eyes. Something was wrong. General Chilian felt a sudden chill shoot straight up to his skull. In the next second, Lin Mo swung the Shatian spear, smashing it down toward him with the force of the 100 Battle Emperor's fist. General Chilian roared, his massive body crouching low as his fists flew out like a rapid barrage of meteors. He aimed to intercept the sweeping spear. However, the moment that spear landed, the dynamic of the fight shifted entirely. A far more terrifying power suddenly exploded. This wasn't Lin Mo's own strength. It was the general's own power being returned. General Chilian's eyes widened in disbelief. His 8-meter-tall frame was suddenly sent flying like a literal cannonball. He soared across the void and slammed violently into the alloy wall over 100 meters away. He crawled up from the ground, rubbing his aching chest, his eyes filled with a shock he couldn't possibly hide. What kind of abnormal ability was this? To absorb an opponent's strength and then release it all at once at the critical moment? Returning it all to the sender. This was the ultimate nightmare for any melee fighter. Only his tough beast body had saved him. Had it been any other monster of the same level, that single spear strike would have shattered its core completely. General Qilian had lost. Both Ning Yuan and Qin Weiguo stared with wide eyes, their faces masks of pure disbelief. After all, this was a purple jade rank military general. In the entire Yinxiao region, there were only 108 such individuals, even with his power limiters active. It should have been impossible for a bronze rank boy to send him flying with one blow. Qilian, raise the limiter's control level. Tang Yanhuang suddenly commanded, to bronze rank 8. The room went silent. To be honest, everyone was shocked by his words. Bronze rank 8. Even with suppressed strength, we are talking about a battle-hardened general. He was on a completely different level compared to an ordinary bronze rank 8 monster. It simply wasn't a fair comparison. Was the goal to actually kill Lin Mo? Fine. General Qilian grunted, taking a deep breath as he adjusted the settings on his limiter. Suddenly, a far more terrifying power erupted from his body. With a furious roar, his physical form began to change once more. His stature grew until he reached a towering 9 meters in height. Just now, I was only using basic beast skills, he declared. I haven't even touched my own innate divine talents yet. Lin Mo, you are strong, truly. He warned that the intensity would now be extreme, and if he accidentally broke a few of the boy's bones, he shouldn't be blamed. Naturally, Yanhuang Tech would take full responsibility for the medical bills. Qilian braced his fists against the ground and began his approach. The aura surrounding him grew increasingly horrific. Heavenly Crimson Fist. With a boom, his massive body suddenly launched into the air. He looked like a burning meteor diving straight toward Lin Mo. He wanted to see exactly where the limit of that devouring ability lay. The massive fireball trembled in the void as it descended. In that instant, the sheer heat caused the ground below to warp and twist. In Lin Mo's eyes, that colossal fist grew larger and larger, moving with inevitable force. It continued until it occupied his entire field of vision. General Qilian, Lin Mo whispered, my next move might be a bit humiliating. He hoped the general wouldn't take it personally. His eyes flashed as the blood within his body began to boil with a frantic energy. At that moment, he seemed even more terrifying than the unleashed general. Then, he let out a roar that shook the very foundations of the world. A terrifying, demonic sound echoed throughout the training hall, carrying a tyrannical aura that felt as though it might suffocate everyone present. He unleashed the full power of his berserk state. Previously, he had to worry about the physical damage this technique caused to his body. He usually limited the boost to about 3 times his normal power, but now, with Yanhuang Tech covering the medical costs, he held nothing back. A 10-fold increase in strength exploded within the room, directed straight at General Qilian. This was a minute the general would remember for a lifetime. Lin Mo suddenly leaped upward, charging head-on toward the diving commander. With his spear held high, he soared into the air as the Crimson Giant laughed, throwing a punch that seemed to shake the heavens. In an instant, a crescent moon mark began to glow with a brilliant, blinding light as a defensive ring formed. Qin Weiguo drew a circle in the air with his long blade, creating a solid barrier to protect those nearby. He shielded everyone behind him just as, a second later, the two terrifying figures collided violently in midair. A deafening roar erupted as Lin Mo's energy surged, sending sparks flying as he entered a state of complete and total frenzy. At this moment, the energy in his body was draining at a staggering rate, but his desire for combat had reached its absolute peak. General Qilian, surprisingly enough, felt a sudden chill in his heart. This aura was simply too frightening to behold. In that single moment of distraction, he was sent flying by a spear strike, followed immediately by a heavy kick to the face. The general's massive body was swatted through the air once again, and this, we should note, was only the beginning. The 1-minute berserk mode had turned into a whirlwind of violence. Lin Mo gripped his spear and charged at Qilian again. A relentless tide of attacks began to rain down on the general, each strike more ferocious than the last. Qilian was completely overwhelmed by the blood-red aura, trapped in Lin Mo's rhythm and forced to struggle just to stay upright. He had gone from being a sparring partner to a literal human punching bag. To be honest, only his tough physique kept him alive. Otherwise, he might have been beaten to death right then and there. He couldn't help but complain inwardly. It had been many years since he had been treated this way, pinned down and pummeled by a young man the same age as his own son. He was, after all, a powerful general. Even with the power limiter active, we have to admit that if he were actually at the bronze rank, Lin Mo would have likely beaten him to death long ago. General Qilian let out a frantic roar, but Lin Mo simply wasn't listening, his spear vibrating as blood-red energy swept across the room. Another strike slammed down. The general shouted for him to stop, specifically pleading for the boy to stop hitting him in the face. General Qilian was forced to use rather colorful language as he was driven across the entire training hall by the sheer force of the assault. Pushed from one end of the room to the other, he was finally pinned into a corner and subjected to a frantic, relentless beating. The general used his massive arms like pillars to desperately protect his head, finding himself completely unable to strike back. Lin Mo had entered a state of pure tyranny. With every spear strike that landed, the very ground beneath them trembled violently. General Qilian was cursing inwardly with every breath, forced to endure this overwhelming pressure for a full, grueling minute. Finally, the berserk state began to fade. With a groan of relief, the general realized the onslaught had finally come to an end. He exited his transformed state, his red armor now in tatters, and slumped onto the floor without any dignity, gasping for air. Exhausted and swearing under his breath, he removed his power limiter, only to notice something quite alarming on the shoulder piece. The device was covered in cracks, having nearly been shattered by Lin Mo's raw strength. Nearby, Lin Mo's own transformation also subsided. The backlash of the berserk mode hit him instantly, bringing a wave of agonizing pain that felt as though every cell in his body was being twisted in a meat grinder. Yet, after only a single moment, that excruciating pain vanished as he was suddenly restored. He felt as vigorous as a dragon once more. Startled, he looked down to see the golden dragon tattoo on his skin, emitting a brilliant light, which was continuously nourishing and repairing his physical body. He realized then that the undying dragon's recovery ability had completely erased the side effects of his technique in an instant. This was a delightful revelation. It meant he could use his berserk mode whenever he pleased. However, an overwhelming hunger suddenly swept through his entire being. It seemed his inner glutton was starving, and his stomach felt as if it were tying itself in knots. At that exact moment, the leftover dragon blood residue in his body, which his physical form couldn't absorb, unexpectedly surged toward his abdomen and was instantly devoured. As for Lin Mo, he could clearly feel his physical body growing even stronger. He was utterly shocked. Good grief. This Taodai power really isn't a picky eater. It consumes everything, though he wondered if it had any limits. Qilian, Tang Yinhuang, and the others walked over. Tang Yinhuang asked to see the power level detector. General Qilian pulled out the device, but as he looked down, he froze. The others leaned in to look, and they were instantly stunned. The detector had been completely blown apart, even if it was a low-level model. A bronze-rank fighter should never have been able to shatter it. Kid, your strength has broken the limit. Tang Yinhuang's gaze fell upon Lin Mo with immense gravity. Lin Mo looked confused. What did breaking the limit mean? He explained that monsters with different talents have vastly different combat power, even at the same level. For instance, a rank 1 bronze level 3 monster can easily defeat a grade C bronze level 5 monster. That is common knowledge. Furthermore, even monsters with the same talent will differ in strength based on their specialties and equipment. A healing type certainly can't beat a power attack type of the same level. A monster's true strength depends on domains, weapons, and potions. But if we set aside those external factors and look only at raw power, the ceiling between the bronze and silver ranks is usually impossible to cross. However, if someone can leap over that ceiling, we call such a genius a limit breaker. Doing it with weapons or potions doesn't count. Only those who break the limit through their own physical body and skill are true limit breakers. For example, if someone at Black Iron level 10 can defeat a bronze level 1 monster, that is breaking the limit. But Lin Mo was only at bronze level 1, yet his explosive power was enough to slay a grade S silver level 1 monster. Tang Yinhuang took a sharp breath, admitting he had never seen such a terrifying level of limit breaking before. Tang Yinhuang recalled how, 7 or 8 years ago during the 100 Nations battle, Yi Chang'an used his gold rank level 7 strength to beat a diamond rank genius to death. That SS rank prodigy from the Lighthouse Nation had shocked the world, but the man before us now was something else entirely. Lin Mo was even more defiant of heaven than Yi Chang'an. At bronze level 1, he could already face silver level 1. What kind of monster was he? Tang Yinhuang's eyes practically glowed as he stared at Lin Mo's body. As a founder and chief research officer of a tech giant, his mind was racing. If Lin Mo weren't a top-tier talent being groomed by the Yinxia authorities, Tang would have likely dragged him off for a full dissection and study. Lin Mo felt a sudden chill run down his spine, sensing that Tang's gaze was becoming a bit too intense. Senior, he ventured cautiously. So, what did you think of my performance just now? Tang Yinhuang blinked, snapping back to reality after being lost in his scientific curiosity. He nodded with genuine approval, admitting that while he had seen many geniuses, none could truly surpass what he had just witnessed. In fact, he had never seen anyone even comparable to Lin Mo. Seeing this, a clever idea immediately began to form in our young hero's mind. I didn't realize you thought so highly of me, Senior Tang. In that case, shouldn't you give me a little reward? Well, talk about being bold. Tang was nearly speechless. He had met many shameless people in his time, but someone this brazenly confident was a first even for him. And what kind of reward are you looking for? Tang asked with a darkening expression. Lin Mo rubbed his chin and smiled, recalling a previous promise. Chenin Tech had promised 20 million credits, the essence, blood, and beast box of a gold rank fire spirit tree, and 1,000 bronze rank monster corpses. I'm not short on the other things, but I'm quite low on those bronze rank monster corpses. I don't suppose you could help, Senior? As Lin Mo put on his best impression of a greedy little miser, Tang Yinhuang felt a headache coming on. Fine, 3,000. I'll have them shipped. Lin Mo was overjoyed. How about I give you back the 20 million credits, and you just ship me 5,000 corpses instead? Tang took a deep breath. He squinted at Lin Mo for a long time, weighing the sheer audacity of the request before finally nodding. Deal. Nearby, Qin Weigua and Ning Yuan watched in silence. Their faces were twitching in disbelief. To be honest, Lin Mo's guts were astronomical. Who else would dare to scheme against a man like Tang Yinhuang? Such a move was unthinkable to them. Elder Tang, Lin Mo is young and doesn't know any better, Qin Weigua interjected, trying to smooth things over. But Tang waved him off, noting that a bit of liveliness in the younger generation was actually a good thing. Yes, very lively indeed. Qin Weigua's brain practically short-circuited. He wondered how anyone could call this lively when it was clearly the work of a cunning schemer. It seems that having talent truly allows one to do whatever they want. Anyone else would have likely received a swift slap from Tang Yinhuang. Normally, no one would dare bargain with him, but Lin Mo's eyes were crinkled like crescent moons, showing just how pleased he was with himself. Our young hero was in high spirits, knowing the second trial of the gluttonous Tao Dai required 10,000 bronze-rank monster corpses. If he had to hunt them down one by one, who knows how long it would take. But now, things were looking much brighter. With 6,000 corpses already secured, only 4,000 remained. The pressure had vanished. A little later, the scene shifted. Shunin Tech delivered every promised resource without missing a single credit, and Tang Yinhuang finally began his journey back to the imperial capital. However, he didn't leave empty-handed. He left the blazing general behind in Shanghai State, claiming it was for the region's safety. Qin Weigua knew better, of course. It was obvious the general was there to protect Lin Mo. Tang was clearly worried about his little prodigy. He feared what kind of trouble this ancestor might stir up in the 10 days before the assessment. After returning to his rented room, Lin Mo smiled as he took out the essence, blood, and beast box of the gold-rank fire spirit tree, a formidable level 1 monster. According to the monster records, this B-rank creature is born from flames. These trees are known to be social creatures that live in groves. Within every grove of fire spirit trees, there stands a king, the ancient fire god tree king, a truly majestic and dangerous entity. The core of such a king is the primary ingredient for the flowing fire star-scorching potion. Lin Mo flipped through his guide, his eyes gleaming. This particular concoction is widely regarded as the most luxurious and expensive potion available for those at the bronze rank. It allows for the comprehensive tempering of one's beast zone and elemental energy. To be honest, it is a rare treasure for any cultivator. If someone could actually use such a potion at the bronze level, the benefits would be immense. But there was a catch. The Tree King itself is a diamond-rank monster that lives deep within extremely perilous ruins. It is not exactly a stroll in the park to find one. One would have to be quite mad to hunt a diamond-rank beast just to craft a bronze-rank potion. But Lin Mo, he didn't mind at all. A mischievous glint flashed in his eyes as he pulled out his phone. Hello? Is this the senior blazing general? He asked playfully. It's like this. I have a small favor to ask, Lin Mo said. A moment later, he hung up and clapped his hands with a satisfied smile. He figured that having a resource and not using it would be foolish. Now, it was time to absorb the essence, blood, and the beast box. Meanwhile, in the wilderness outside Shanghai State, a 30-meter-tall crimson giant was currently rampaging through the desolate landscape. Before him stood a grove of ancient bronze trees burning with raging flames. At the very center of this fiery forest, there was a towering tree of immense size, its flames reaching a peak of crimson intensity. The massive giant continued his charge. We see him tearing through the wilderness, facing down the group of ancient trees that were engulfed in a fierce, eternal blaze. In the heart of the grove stood that colossal entity, a tree so large its fiery glow seemed to pierce the very sky. This was the ancient fire god Tree King. Tang had ordered the blazing general to stay in Shanghai for protection, but the general had doubts. He couldn't help but feel like he'd become a personal errand boy. The blazing general scratched his head, looking completely bewildered. Lin Mo had called claiming he had a rare illness that only a fire god tree heart could cure, sending the general rushing into the wild. Halfway there, the general realized he'd been played. To be honest, our young hero was proving to be quite the little rascal. The blazing general grumbled internally, but his hands didn't slow down. He knew he couldn't simply stop now. He didn't dare hold back any longer. With a single, earth-shattering punch, he brought his full power down upon the target. The fire god Tree King was defeated on the spot. The blazing general reached out and grabbed the scalding, glowing heart of the tree. Just as he prepared to turn and leave, a deafening roar echoed from the distance, sounding like the thunderous beat of war drums. The sound was so powerful the earth itself began to tremble. But wait, that wasn't the sound of drums. It was a heartbeat. The rhythm was steady and terrifying. It definitely wasn't a drum, nor was it any ordinary sound one hears in the woods. The sound persisted, shaking the very air. Then, from not too far away, another explosion of noise erupted. A deafening boom resonated like a localized thunderstorm, making the ground beneath the general's feet shudder violently. It was a heartbeat belonging to a super powerful monster, one whose strength was easily on par with the likes of Jin Yuji. The blazing general immediately burst into a string of curses, turning on his heel to flee frantically toward the military camp. A terrifying surge of energy, on par with Jin Yuji, swept across the world, originating from deep within the ruins. A massive city, towering like a mountain under the moon, slowly began to emerge from the shadows. Or rather, it wasn't a city. It was a structure that had been completely devoured and overtaken by a giant, parasitic plant entity. This was a superfusion monster found at the very top of the monster encyclopedia, the S-rank Forbidden King Beast, fused with an S-rank devouring flesh mushroom. This creature is known as the Royal City Devourer, a terrifying SS-rank threat. The Star Moon Beast nest had begun its outbreak, and the blazing general felt his scalp go numb with pure instinctual dread. This city devourer possessed strength that rivaled the legendary Jin Yuji, and it stood as the undisputed leader of the swarm. Under its command, it led an army of countless powerful monsters. To even think about entering that sea of beasts, to try and slay the city devourer, would be harder than climbing to heaven. One look from that thing could kill a man. Risking his life, the blazing general finally made it back to the military base, where he stood trembling atop the city walls. He gazed far into the depths of the ruins. The body of the royal city devourer was simply too massive to miss. Even from this great distance, it was clearly visible as the outbreak progressed through its initial, middle, and high stages. Soon, the final stage, the nest of destruction, would arrive at the walls, threatening to crush the nation of Yanxia. If these 4 stages were allowed to play out, the death toll would be unimaginable. Meanwhile, within the capital of Yanxia, at the ancient and prestigious Yanxia University, a bell suddenly began to toll, echoing through the city streets. As the Star Moon nest rose and the first wave descended, Yanxia University made a formal and grim announcement. The freshman entrance examination would be moved forward by 10 days, and the trial grounds were set in the ruins. Every student participating in the exam was to join the military immediately, fighting as reserve soldiers in the coming war. Once this news broke, it swept through the 36 districts and 72 provinces of Yanxia like a tidal wave. The news spread with terrifying speed through every city, reaching every student who dreamed of entering Yanxia University. Their faces were filled with a mix of awe and dread, for this was the top institution in the nation and the deadliest. To turn a life-and-death battle against the Star Moon nest into a freshman training ground was a truly staggering decision. We moved to the Qin Manor in the imperial capital, where Xiaowan was told that the entrance exam had been moved forward. If she could achieve great military merit in this battle, it would become the strongest possible foundation for her future career. Her 3 uncles held high positions in the military and would provide every possible advantage within their power for this exam. She was told she only needed to accomplish 2 things. A sharp, ruthless glint appeared in her eyes. First, take the top spot. Second, find an opportunity to eliminate Ling Mo. She assured her mother that with such backing, failure was impossible. Xiao Ao lifted her head, her face radiating absolute confidence. Qin Rushuang nodded, though a hint of worry remained. She turned her gaze toward the 9 warriors in black standing nearby with their hands lowered, waiting for instructions. She coldly ordered the 9 of them to protect the young master at all costs. They bowed in unison, voices respectful. Qin Rushuang's icy gaze settled specifically on the leader of the group, a young man in black, named Lu Cheng. She reminded him exactly who had given him his life. Lu Cheng kept his eyes down, his expression as wooden as a corpse. Without the Qin family, there would be no Lu Cheng. He answered without emotion, stating his life belonged to them. He vowed that he would die before the young master ever did. He was the only SS rank awakened among the 9. An orphan raised by the Qin family since childhood, he was their most loyal death warrior. With that, Xiao Ao was sent off. Qin Rushuang waved her hand, telling her she would wait in the capital for the news of her fame to shake all of Yanxia. Xiao Ao and her 9 guardians stepped out of the manor and boarded a private vehicle that had been waiting for them. They headed straight for the Imperial Teleportation Array, where top experts from Yanxia University were already stationed. This was the only path to the front lines. Inside the vehicle sat Xiao Xiao, a young woman of breathtaking beauty. The day had finally arrived, and for Xiao Xiao, the debt of blood Ling Mo owed her father would be paid in full. Beside her, Su Er's face was masked in frost as she gritted her teeth, remembering how Ling Mo's actions had sent her father to prison. It had forced the Su family to flee their home, and she vowed that if she didn't seek revenge, she was no daughter of theirs. Both women shared a single, chilling goal, to take Ling Mo's life during the Yanxia University entrance exam. Meanwhile, back in Xinhai Prefecture, we find Ling Mo preparing for his own departure from the mountains. He was heading toward the very same examination where so many others were already plotting his downfall. "Are you ready?" he was asked. Ling Mo stepped out of his room, meeting Xia Qingqing's gaze with a confident smile. She rolled her eyes at him, jokingly asking if his black iron rank strength would even be enough to survive the test. He simply laughed it off, asking who told her he was still at that rank, a narrow-minded assumption, to be sure. With a flick of her high ponytail, she led the way, and together they boarded the military off-road vehicle. We see their vehicle speeding toward the teleportation array, just as the scene shifts to the imperial capital's first central hospital. There, the three Wong brothers lay in their hospital beds, looking utterly defeated as the exam season began without them. I still have 8 broken ribs. Wang Chong sighed, his voice thick with despair. I can't even move. Wang Ming looked at him with equal bitterness, noting that both of his legs were shattered, making walking impossible. Their gazes finally fell on the middle bed, where their third brother, Wang Chun, remained unconscious. And so, the Wang brothers perfectly missed the exam that would have decided their fates. Meanwhile, Ling Imo and Qing Cheng arrived at the front. The candidates from the 36 and 72 prefectures each had their own designated gathering points. The main assembly for Yinxia University was set at the very heart of the front lines. Qing Cheng, a voice called out. As they stepped out of the array, a petite girl barely 5 feet tall began waving and running toward them. She was a lively sight, her slender legs clad in white stockings that reached up toward her skirt. Her stockings were even embroidered with white lace bows, and though she was petite, her legs were surprisingly well-toned. She was, in many ways, a picture of youthful energy, though, to be honest, her figure was as flat as a board. Momo, why are you here for the Yinxia University exam? Didn't your father already arrange for you to attend the Earth Beast University? Qing Cheng looked at the girl approaching her with a face full of surprise. I'm not going to that wasteland, the girl replied. I want to go to Yinxia University with you. Tang Momo pouted, clinging to Qing Cheng's arm and acting spoiled. Would your father really agree to this nonsense? Whether he agrees or not, he can't control me, Momo said, tossing her hair. With an air of pride, she suddenly stopped and began curiously sizing up Ling Imo. Her eyes lit up. Wait. Qing Cheng, who is this handsome guy next to you? This is Ling Imo. What? Momo's eyes widened instantly. She covered her mouth with her small hands, looking utterly shocked. You're the SSS rank awakened chosen by Senior Yi Chang'an? The same Ling Imo my Qing Cheng swore she'd never marry anyone else but you? No way. Ling Mo's mouth twitched at that. The first part of her statement was accurate enough, but that last bit was, well, a bit of a stretch, to say the least. He couldn't help but wonder why all of Qing Cheng's friends were so unique. Ning Susu was already prone to exaggeration, but this Tang Momo seemed to have no filter at all. Fortunately, Qing Cheng herself seemed to be the only normal one. While his thoughts were drifting, a sharp thwack echoed as Qing Cheng wrapped her fingers hard against Momo's head. Ouch, what was that for? Momo cried out in pain. For talking nonsense. Who told you to start making things up? Qing Cheng's cheeks turned a bright crimson, her expression both angry and fierce. Swore to marry him? What absolute rubbish. You students over there, come and gather here. While the two were bickering, a voice called out from nearby. A teacher wearing the official Yinxia University uniform was smiling and waving them over. We see them look toward the Yinxia garrison, where beast hunting patrols occasionally passed outside the massive city walls. And there, beneath the wall, stood a refined young man with round glasses, perched atop several large wooden crates. He was busy handing something out to the crowd of gathered examinees. Tang Momo flashed a bright smile and extended her hand toward him. Hello, Ling Imo of Shanghai. I know all about you. My Qing Cheng has mentioned you so many times. Before she could finish, Momo suddenly jumped into the air with a yelp. Xia Qingqing's face was flushed with embarrassment. If I don't show some teeth, you'll think I'm a kitten. If you keep talking, You'll what? Qing Cheng raised an eyebrow, looking quite intimidating. I'll cry right here in front of you. Momo's tone softened instantly, and Ling Imo couldn't help but chuckle. It was like watching a scene from a viral video. The group eventually made their way to the base of the city wall, where the young teacher with the round glasses waited. He stood atop the wooden crates, waving his arms energetically. Quiet. I am your instructor for this exam. I'm also the director of admissions for Yinxia University. Impressive, right? Only 30 and already a director. The teacher puffed out his chest with an air of immense pride, clearly waiting for the students to shower him with praise. The examinees below burst into laughter. All right, back to business, he said, waving his hands to settle them down. You've each been handed 2 items, a military merit recorder and a life-saving pill. You see them, right? This pill can save your life in the ruins. Now, swallow it immediately, or you might not survive the hour. Don't say I didn't warn you. As soon as he spoke, many students scrambled to grab the bright red pills. Most swallowed them without a second thought. Only Ling Imo hesitated, looking down at the pill in his palm. Thanks to his Taotai passive ability, his eyes could easily perceive the true composition of any object. In his eyes, this life-saving pill was nothing more than a ball of common mud, mixed with a bit of dung beetle waste. He looked up to see that more than half of the candidates had already swallowed theirs without the slightest hesitation. Good, you've all eaten? Excellent, the teacher said, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. But in the next heartbeat, his goofy demeanor vanished, replaced by a chilling aura that made every student shiver. A cold, sinister smile spread across his face as he spoke in a chilling tone. Now then, to all you examinees who swallowed that life-saving pill, I regret to inform you that you are all disqualified. The crowd erupted. Disqualified? By what right? He was the one who told them to swallow it. They felt like they were being toyed with. In an instant, the examinees exploded in a chorus of angry roars and indignant protests. Standing atop his wooden crates, the young teacher gave a disdainful sneer. I told you to swallow it, so you did? If I told you to go die, would you do that too? Think about where we are. This is the front line, the closest point to the monster ruins. At any moment, this place could be silently overrun, and we know the ruins are filled with monsters who specialize in illusions and transformation. What if I were a monster in disguise? I said I was a teacher from Yinsha University, and you just believed me. No verification, no doubt. You didn't even check what you were putting in your mouths. I'm sorry, but the exam began the very moment you stepped onto this land. That wasn't a life-saving pill at all. It was just a ball of mud. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the silent, stunned crowd. Then he spoke coldly. Those of you who still have the mud ball in your hands, raise them so I can see. As his voice trailed off, only a few scattered hands rose into the air. Xia Qingqing and Tang Momo were among them. Oh, not bad. The teacher spoke again, his voice turning even more frigid. Now, I will give you exactly 1 minute. After that minute is up, anyone still holding a mud ball will have passed the exam. The moment those words were uttered, the atmosphere shifted dangerously. 1 minute. This wasn't just a test of character anymore. It was an invitation to a robbery. Naturally, things turned ugly fast. A predatory light flickered in the eyes of many students. With a flash of red light, one student transformed into a massive, blood-colored bat. He lunged toward the nearest student holding a mud ball, and the rest of the crowd followed suit, finally showing their true colors. One by one, they triggered their awakened forms, charging toward the few who still held the prize in their hands. Xia Qingcheng, Tang Momo, and Ling Imo naturally became the primary targets. Over a dozen monsters of various shapes lunged toward them at once. Get the hell away from me. Momo screamed. You want to steal from me? You must be tired of living. Tang Momo stepped forward, shielding Ling Imo and Xia Qingcheng as her aura exploded outward with sudden, violent force. We see Ling Imo watching with curiosity, wondering what kind of monster she had awakened. Xia Qingcheng simply offered a mysterious smile, telling him he would see soon enough. Suddenly, a dazzling purple light completely enveloped Tang Momo. A second later, a massive purple butterfly emerged, hovering majestically in the void. Its wings were a striking mix of black and purple, radiating a mysterious and cunning aura that felt almost otherworldly. This was Momo's awakened SS rank monster, the Black Thunder Shadow Butterfly, currently at the 6th stage of the bronze rank. As Xia Qingsheng explained this, the giant butterfly shadow suddenly lunged forward, transforming into a streak of black and purple light. The purple wings granted her extreme speed, allowing her to move like a blur across the battlefield. Meanwhile, the black wings held the terrifying power of Black Thunder Judgment. To be honest, it was a frightening combination. Tang Momo's beast wasn't just a lightning-based speedster. It also possessed the natural wind attributes of butterfly-type monsters. Then, the air exploded. With a single flap of the Black Thunder Shadow Butterfly's wings, countless bolts of terrifying black lightning tore through the sky. Accompanied by the roar of destructive winds, the elements resonated, forming a massive tornado around her. The sound of thunder and howling wind was deafening. Even the teachers standing on the wooden crates couldn't help but look over in surprise. Following a violent explosion, the dozen or so figures who had lunged at them were instantly sent flying backward. They were forced back into their human forms mid-air before crashing to the ground unconscious. It was a total wipeout, pure and simple. No one expected the petite and cute Tang Momo to possess such overwhelming strength. Haha, well, what do you think? Reverting from her transformation, she patted her chest and looked at the two of them with a boastful, triumphant expression. Xia Qingcheng clapped her hands with exaggerated praise, but just as they were celebrating, the ground beneath them suddenly burst open. A figure shot out from the earth, lunging straight for Tang Momo's back. He had finally found the opening he was waiting for. It was an armored pangolin with hands that had transformed into power drills, its beastly eyes filled with pure excitement. There were only 3 seconds left until the minute was up. If he could just defeat this girl and snatch the mud ball now, he could pass the exam at the very last second. With that greedy plan in mind, he accelerated, aiming directly for Momo's heart. Momo, look out! Xia Qingqing's face paled as she realized that at this distance, Tang Momo wouldn't have time to transform. But just then, a figure beside her shot forward like a sword drawn from its scabbard, shouting a thunderous, "Get lost!" With the undying dragon body erupting at full power, he was shrouded in a dazzling, eye-catching golden light as he roared again. The faint sound of a true dragon's roar echoed from his throat, shaking the very soul of his opponent. Idiot, the attacker thought. The armored pangolin watched him charge, her eyes filled with mockery. To think a mere human would dare to challenge her directly. She had awakened the formidable armored pangolin, a bronze rank stage 3 beast known for having almost peerless physical defense. And yet, here was a human attempting to go head-to-head with her barehanded. However, in the very next second, everything changed. He appeared before her instantly, his golden light pressing down like a mountain, and the pangolin's expression twisted in pure shock. She couldn't understand how a human could possess such overwhelming strength. He simply whispered the words, "Dragon Combat Art, Elbow Strike." His elbow, carrying the weight of 10,000 soldiers, slammed into the pangolin's chest with a sickening, explosive crack. The sound of her armor shattering was clear to everyone. The pangolin was stunned. Her pride and joy, her impenetrable shell, was gone. It had been smashed to pieces by a human's bare flesh. She stared with wide eyes, her face a mask of utter disbelief. A moment later, she was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing violently into the city wall over 10 meters away. She fell unconscious instantly. "Time's up," the bespectacled instructor announced, clicking his stopwatch with perfect precision. The entire field fell silent. Everyone stared at him as if they were looking at a literal monster. Who on earth was this guy? He had just one-shot an S-rank awakened beast with his bare hands. And yet, he calmly walked back to Xia Qingqing's side. He casually smoothed the wrinkles in his clothes and looked at Tang Momo, asking plainly if she was all right. Tang Momo's mouth hung open, her eyes wide. For a long moment, she couldn't find a single word to say. Xia Qingqing patted her head, telling her not to daze off, though even she felt a flicker of urgency at how much stronger he'd become. Not bad at all, the teacher said, clapping his hands in satisfaction. It seemed this round's performance was quite acceptable. The instructor began to count them one by one, noting that 11 people had passed the preliminary exam. From this moment on, their status had changed. They were now officially part of the military's reserve militia, qualifying them for the next assessment. However, he felt the need to offer a small warning. In the military, the reserve militia has a nickname, the Fodder. He gave a wide, toothy grin that was anything but comforting. He introduced himself as Ma Yud, the director of admissions for Yinxia University, before gesturing toward the massive city walls ahead. Their true test was waiting for them up there, and with a simple good luck, he placed a hand over his chest in a polite bow. It was a standard, gentlemanly gesture, but to the candidates who had just survived his trial, the name Yud felt like a bit of a joke. To be honest, lacking virtue would have suited him much better. Our protagonist followed the group as they began the long climb up the wall. Before reaching the top, he glanced back to see a new batch of candidates arriving, with Ma Yud already putting back on his mask of innocence. He watched as the instructor began the exact same performance all over again. He couldn't help but chuckle. This teacher was truly something else. But as he turned his gaze back and finally stepped onto the top of the wall, the sheer cruelty and scale of the battlefield were revealed. A voice noted the arrival of the newcomers, remarking that 11 survivors was actually a better result than the previous round. The speaker was a middle-aged man with dark circles under his eyes so heavy he looked more like a panda than a soldier. He walked toward them with a lazy, sluggish gait, offering a half-hearted congratulations on becoming members of the glorious reserve militia. He let out a massive yawn, looking as though he might collapse and fall asleep right there on the cold stone floor. Muttering to himself, he introduced himself as Yi Buxing, a teacher from Yinxia University, suggesting they might meet again if they actually passed. He seemed desperate to stop talking, complaining about how exhausted he was and questioning why he had been assigned to this duty. He kept rambling about needing a bed, and as our protagonist watched him, a strange sense of familiarity began to wash over him. This was exactly how he used to look in his past life, a corporate slave forced into overtime by a demanding boss. It was identical. The man's resentment was thicker than a ghost's curse. Fortunately, in this life, he was no longer a slave to a desk. Poor Teacher Buxing. He offered the man a silent moment of pity, a small smile playing on his lips, though the sleepy instructor was far too tired to notice. Letting out a lazy yawn, he spoke up, asking if they noticed the military merit recorders on their wrists. He warned them to keep them on, as this was no drill. This was real, live combat. For every monster they managed to kill, the recorder would automatically log their military merit points. The words had barely left his mouth when one candidate scoffed, claiming that earning a single merit point sounded far too easy. "Is that so?" the teacher replied. Yi Buxing raised an eyebrow, adding lazily that he forgot to mention one small detail. Killing black iron rank monsters earns you exactly 0 merit. A bronze rank monster is worth a mere 0.1 points. Even a peak bronze rank creature only nets you 0.9. In other words, to scrape together even a single point, they would have to slay at least one silver rank monster. To put it simply, they needed the strength to take down a silver rank beast just to qualify as official soldiers. Buxing gave them a playful, mocking smile. He asked if they still thought that one little point was going to be easy to get. The candidate who had spoken up earlier shut his mouth instantly, his face turning pale with realization. Easy? It wasn't easy at all. These merit rules were designed to be an absolute bottleneck. Without killing a silver rank beast, no amount of bronze rank kills would ever add up to a full point. For a group of students who had just graduated high school, killing a silver rank monster seemed impossible. Merit, it seemed, was both hard and simple. Buxing scratched his head, looking genuinely confused as he wondered aloud how much merit he had himself, claiming he'd slept too much to remember. As we watch, he casually tapped his own recorder, and a string of numbers flashed before the eyes of the stunned crowd. Every student's pupils contracted in shock as they let out a collective gasp. The screen displayed 38,765.7. That level of military merit was undeniably at the rank of a military general. "Oh, I remember now," he muttered casually. He recalled that just last month, he had bumped a general out of their ranking. He sighed, remarking that memory is a fine thing to have. Too bad he lacked it. He scratched his messy, bird nest hair, looking more lethargic than ever. And yet, the way everyone present looked at him was now filled with pure shock and admiration. This man was a general, a genuine, battle-hardened general of the military. The fact that such a man was serving as their examiner spoke volumes about the prestige of Yinxia University. Looking at his disheveled appearance and that forever sleepy face, who could have guessed he was one of the top 108 generals in the military? All right then, he said. Deciding he had talked enough, Yi Buxing pointed toward the edge of the city wall and told them that once they jumped, the exam would officially begin. The candidates followed his gaze, looking out past the wall where an endless expanse of ruins stretched as far as the eye could see. Smoke rose from every corner of the battlefield, where countless giant beasts carrying spears and shields were charging across the earth. Terrifying monsters of every shape and size were roaring and snarling, locked in a bloody, desperate struggle against the human soldiers. It was as if they had been transported back to a primal, prehistoric era. Suddenly, a shocked student pointed toward the distant horizon. High within the clouds, the silhouette of a massive black castle flickered in and out of view. That, we learn, was the leader of this monster tide. It was the SS rank monster known as the City Devourer. As Buxing looked at that dark fortress hidden in the sea of clouds, his lazy expression flickered with a rare moment of gravity. He told them not to worry, however, as the beast wouldn't make a move during this early stage. That was a monster meant for the elites of the 4 great holy sects or the war kings of the military, the only ones qualified to hunt it. It was terror in its purest form. As his voice trailed off, the candidates exchanged glances, their bodies beginning to glow with the light of awakening. After transforming, they leaped from the wall one by one, charging into the ruined battlefield. But just as it was the protagonist's turn, a loud roar suddenly echoed from the distance. A voice commanded Buxing to stop that boy, and on a nearby section of the wall, a giant red ant was charging toward them with incredible fury, kicking up clouds of dust and making the sturdy stone wall tremble. Buxing blinked in surprise, reaching out to grab the young man before he could jump. He asked with genuine curiosity what the boy had done to make Chili so incredibly angry. The red ant leaped into the air, cursing about how he had barely made it in time and was exhausted. In midair, he transformed into a middle-aged man clad in crimson armor and landed heavily in front of the boy. He growled at the youth, accusing him of tricking him into hunting for a Vulcan drum tree heart, a task that had nearly cost him his life in the ruins. He grumbled as he shoved a vial filled with a liquid that looked like flowing red lava into the boy's hand. It was a special gift from Mr. Tang. The flowing fire heart-burning potion had finally been delivered. Chili sighed, remarking that the boy was truly a handful to deal with. The young man's eyes lit up with joy as he thanked both seniors Chili and Tang. Chili just scoffed, wondering where the boy learned to be so persuasive. He muttered that only an idiot would believe someone would die without a Vulcan drum tree heart, but mid-sentence, he suddenly froze. He realized, with some annoyance, that the idiot in question was himself. He sighed, telling the boy to just take the potion already. He mentioned that both Vice Commander Yi and Mr. Tang had high expectations, urging the youth to work hard during this exam. If he succeeded, he could become an official war consultant. Chili patted his shoulder, though he was secretly plotting a little scheme. Once the boy turned professional, Chili planned to transfer him to his own unit, where he could finally keep the kid under his thumb. The young man promised not to let them down. Without a second thought, he pulled the stopper and downed the entire potion at once. Chili's face turned pale as he shouted, asking who told him to chug it all. He was supposed to find a safe place to absorb it slowly. Suddenly, a crimson light exploded from the boy's body, shooting into the sky. He was determined to complete the Taoyia's second trial. He grinned, remembering the massive energy he had already gained from devouring the monster carcasses sent by Tang Yonghuang and Dong Anshan. His myriad beast stone had already accumulated over 60 million points. Now he only needed to kill a few more beasts to finish the job. A thunderous roar of the Tao Tai echoed through the heavens as he transformed, a pillar of red light erupting from the city wall. At bronze rank 6, he felt ready. With a boom, the blood-colored figure carrying the heaven-piercing spear leaped down from the wall. He descended like a hungry tiger into the monster swarm. Meanwhile, Xia Qingqing and Tang Momo looked around, wondering where Lin Mo had gone. The two girls landed and exchanged confused glances. It was strange, considering they had all jumped together just a moment ago. And yet, the boy was nowhere to be seen. Right then, a massive roar erupted from nearby, shaking the very ground beneath them. A giant beast resembling a lizard lunged toward the two girls, its crimson tongue flickering with a terrifying, predatory hunger. Its eyes were full of greed. Qingqing's expression shifted as she instantly gathered her icy power, preparing to strike the creature down. But before she could move, a massive boom echoed as a giant black axe blade tore through the air from above. A pitch-black minotaur carrying a colossal axe crashed down from the sky, slamming his weapon directly into the lizard monster. The beast was split clean in half. The newcomer just chuckled, unimpressed by such a low-level bronze rank 1 piece of trash. The Minotaur spat on the ground, his crimson eyes filled with pure disdain as he casually deactivated his transformation. He revealed his human form, a sturdy, blond man wearing a yellow jacket that hung open, revealing quite a bit. He showed off his well-defined 8-pack abs and grinned, asking the two beauties if they were unhurt while flashing his white teeth. He introduced himself as Zhou Hong, an S-rank Azure Bull Soul Awakener currently at Bronze rank 5. He asked if they were interested in teaming up, already celebrating internally because, to be honest, these two were exceptionally beautiful. He noted that the tall, long-haired girl was flawless in every way, while the smaller, more delicate one beside her, well, she was incredibly cute, but he cruelly thought she was so flat that his own pectoral muscles were likely larger. Xia Qingcheng replied with a cold, not interested, her tone dripping with enough distance to freeze the air around them. Zhou Hong persisted, arguing that the ruins were dangerous for solo fighters and that they should look out for one another. He tried to convince them that having a helper would be vital if things went wrong, refusing to give up just yet. But right then, a series of earth-shattering roars erupted nearby, followed by the collective gasps of many startled onlookers. People began shouting in disbelief, wondering who this person was that killed monsters as easily as one might slaughter chickens. One observer felt that even a graze from that massive spear would be fatal, marking the stranger as a top-tier expert. Someone joked that teaming up with him would lead to a massacre, though they'd likely just be the ones watching from the sidelines. The ground shook violently as trees collapsed and rose, and one monster after another was sent flying backward by a hidden force. The beasts exploded into bloody mists mid-air as a blood-colored beastly figure began to stride forward from the distance. The figure wielded a massive crimson spear with blinding speed, and every monster touched by its tip fell instantly. He moved like an unstoppable bulldozer, leaving a path of destruction where no one and nothing could stand in his way. We see that this single warrior was pushing back the entire battlefield alone, a sight that was, frankly, terrifying to behold. Zhou Hong watched the approaching blood-red silhouette with a trembling face, certain this was a top genius from a great imperial clan. The power was overwhelming. Even the mere aura radiating from the figure made it difficult for Zhou Hong to breathe. Was this an SS rank? No. He was certain this was an SS rank genius. Zhou Hong's body tensed instantly, his face filled with a wary, defensive look as he watched the approaching figure. Suddenly, someone in the crowd cried out in shock, claiming they knew exactly who this was. It was Lin Mo. He was the SS-rank Genius Awakener from Xinhai Prefecture, Lin Mo. That single exclamation sent a ripple through the entire area. In an instant, every eye on the battlefield was drawn to him. An SS-rank genius? Good heavens, it certainly explained that terrifying display of strength. Others began to recognize him too, confirming that the blood-colored silhouette was indeed Xinhai's famous Lin Mo. The realization left them speechless. It was no wonder he had been personally handpicked by the legendary senior Yi Chang'an, the Nine Heavens Silver Dragon. He was simply too strong. He was a literal killing machine on the battlefield. Compared to him, the other geniuses from various regions felt like little more than useless trash. Without a single moment's pause, Lin Mo swung his spear again, the Taotai beast head on his chest armor glowing with a dark hunger. The beast's maw opened wide, and every monster he struck down, their corpses and blood, was transformed into pure, elemental energy. The Taotai devoured it all. He had reached 500 kills, with 3,500 to go. It wouldn't take long, he noted coldly. The murderous intent surrounding him grew even thicker. At that moment, the surrounding monsters seemed to sense a fatal, primal fear. One by one, they began to let out mournful cries and scatter in a frantic retreat. Within seconds, the monster horde was in a full-blown panic. He scoffed, noting that monsters were just living things that felt pain and fear too. To him, they were hardly the super beasts they claimed to be. With a casual flick, he cleared the blood from his spear, shouldered it, and began walking towards Xia Qingcheng and her companion. Zhou Hong tried to strike up a conversation, but Lin Mo walked right past him without even sparing the man a single glance. Why was he just standing there? Lin Mo looked at Xia Qingcheng and Tang Momo, telling them simply that it was time to go. He noticed, of course, that they were still a bit shaken. Xia Qingcheng brushed a stray lock of hair from her forehead and smiled, admitting that Lin Mo's performance had been truly incredible. Tang Momo's eyes were practically sparkling with exaggerated admiration. She then turned her gaze toward the stunned Zhou Hong, who was standing frozen nearby. She teased the handsome guy, asking if he still wanted to team up with them and play the role of their brave protector. Li Wenyan glanced at Zhou Hong and stepped forward, asking with a playful smirk if he was still joking. Zhou Hong quickly stammered that it was all just a misunderstanding. He waved his hands frantically, laughing nervously as cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Deep down, he was cursing his own luck for being so bold earlier. It was only when facing Lin Mo head-on that he realized how suffocating the man's pressure truly was. With strength like this, Zhou Hong had no doubts left. He then mentioned that he knew a specific location where a silver-rank prime beast was hiding. Apparently, all the smaller monsters roaming nearby were actually fragments split off from that single creature. He paused, adding with some hesitation that the prime beast had already been targeted by someone else. The other party was incredibly powerful and had already driven away all the other examinees in the area. This, naturally, caught Lin Mo's interest. Lin Mo raised an eyebrow, curious to know who it was. Zhou Heng quickly replied that it was Xiao Ao, from the prestigious Qin family of the imperial capital. Meanwhile, we shift our gaze about 10 kilometers away into the dense forest. There, Xiao Ao stared at the silver rank prime beast, deeming it barely acceptable. He told his companions that together, they were more than enough to take it down. In his hand, he held a map clearly marking 3 specific locations. This was classified intelligence provided by his 3 uncles serving in the military. They had leaked the exact coordinates of 3 silver rank prime beasts just for him. If he could secure all 3, the military merit he would earn would be enough to suppress every other genius in the competition. Not only would he secure the top spot in the assessment, but he would also bypass the usual requirements to become a formal military warrior immediately. We learned that the vanguard general leading this crescent beast tide was a terrifying gold rank, 3rd-tier monster. The military expert assigned to hunt that beast was none other than Xiao Tianba's brother-in-law, who was also Qin Rushuang's younger brother. He was a genuine military general. To be honest, this was a case of blatant nepotism, plain and simple. Just then, a subordinate named Su Air approached. Su Air reported respectfully that a powerful blood-colored energy had just erupted near the city walls. He suspected that Lin Mo had finally entered the ruins. Xiao Ao let out a cold laugh, noting that Lin Mo had finally arrived. It seemed his rival was right on schedule. A thick murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He told himself that once he finished off this prime beast, Lin Mo would be his next target. In these ruins, monsters are divided into 4 distinct categories to keep things organized: prime beasts, war beasts, auxiliary beasts, and fusion beasts. The auxiliary beasts are merely secondary creatures split from the prime beast's body. Generally speaking, their individual combat power isn't particularly impressive. Most of them range from black iron to silver rank, acting essentially as the common soldiers of the monster legion. The prime beasts, however, are far more formidable. Starting at silver rank and reaching much higher, they can continuously split off auxiliary beasts, serving as a mobile production base for an entire army. The fusion beasts are the most terrifying of all, born from the merging of 2 or more powerful monsters of high rank. They possess the combined abilities and traits of multiple monsters, making them nearly invincible within the red rank, much like the Royal City Devourer. Such creatures hold the status of kings or marshals within the monster legion. Besides them, there are numerous individual war beasts. These are the fierce generals of the battlefield, possessing incredible solo combat strength. Xiao Ao turned to his team, telling them to move out. He ordered them to draw away and clear out the surrounding auxiliary beasts while he handled the prime beast himself. He spoke firmly to his 9 guards. The 9 men immediately accepted the command. In an instant, their figures blurred as they dashed forward together. Like arrows released from a bow, they lunged toward the location of the prime beast. Xiao Ao then told Su Air to stay on high alert. He wanted to ensure no one could launch a sneak attack. Crouching in the tall grass, Xiao Ao tightened his grip on his twin crimson flame blades. By now, his 9 subordinates had already engaged the swarm of auxiliary beasts in a chaotic melee, intentionally drawing them away. They slowly lured the smaller creatures away from the prime beast's side. It was a bone-faced ghost lizard, a 1st-tier silver rank creature. Xiao Ao let out a cold laugh, deciding that this beast would be the perfect sacrifice to christen his twin blades as his killing intent surged. A second later, his body shot forward like a falling star, charging directly at the prime beast that was currently resting on the ground. His twin blades left their sheaths like 2 streaks of fire, the scorching energy tearing through the air as he slashed at the bone-faced ghost lizard. The lizard was startled and jerked its massive, bone-masked head upward, its eyes filled with a sudden, golden flash of alarm. In the next heartbeat, it swung its massive tail with immense force, aiming a crushing blow directly at Xiao Ao. Xiao Ao leaped into the air, letting out a thunderous roar as he commanded his white hunter spirit beast to transform. A dark golden light instantly enveloped his entire body, and his silhouette began to expand rapidly while suspended in midair. He transformed into a humanoid beast nearly 4 meters tall, his limbs and torso becoming as thick and powerful as a predatory tiger. His dark gold body was covered in black tiger stripes and bronze armor, while his head resembled a mix between a bear and a lion. 2 dark gold dragon horns sprouted from his head, and his neck was protected by layers of shimmering dragon scales. This beast combined the traits of a corpse, a dragon, and a tiger, and we would certainly notice something familiar about it. It bore a striking resemblance to the mythical Qiongqi, though its bloodline was impure. Even so, it was a terrifying sight to behold. Xiao Ao's combat power was staggering. His white hunter spirit beast was a perfect all-rounder with top-tier close-quarters combat abilities. With a thunderous crash, Xiao Ao descended from the sky, swinging his twin crimson blades with devastating force. He aimed a crushing blow directly at the lizard's head, shouting for the creature to die as his blade struck home. The very earth cracked and shattered under the sheer weight of his power, a testament to his bronze-rank 10th-tier strength. Having consumed an energy potion beforehand, Xiao Ao's physical body and combat strength had both surged to match a silver rank monster. Combined with his twin blades, an ordinary first-tier silver rank beast simply stood no chance against him whatsoever. Unless, of course, it was an S-rank talent beast. Deep down, the bone-faced ghost lizard felt a wave of pure terror. This human who had appeared out of nowhere was far too strong, prompting the beast to let out a deafening, desperate roar. It tried to summon its auxiliary beasts back for protection, but they were already pinned down by Xiao Ao's 9 guards. They were completely unable to break away. Xiao Ao felt a surge of joy, believing victory was finally within his grasp. But at that exact moment, a streak of blood-red light tore through the forest from a great distance like a bolt of crimson lightning. It shot directly toward Xiao Ao. Su Wanner's face turned pale as she cried out in alarm, wondering who would dare to attack. Xiao Ao's expression twisted in fury, but the suddenness of the assault left him with only one desperate option. He swung his twin blades with everything he had to intercept the incoming streak of blood-red light in a violent collision. The impact sent Xiao Ao reeling back through the air for over 10 meters before he could finally steady his trembling body. The projectile was knocked aside as well. It was a massive blood-red spear, wreathed in raging, crimson flames. A large hand gripped the spear shaft firmly as the figure slammed a single foot into the ground, soaring into the air with explosive force. With the crushing power of 10,000 soldiers and the roar of rolling thunder, he swung the spear downward toward Xiao Ao's head. Xiao Ao's face turned deathly pale the moment he recognized the blood-red figure, his eyes nearly bursting with rage as he recognized Lin Mo. He roared that he hadn't even gone looking for Lin Mo yet, but since he dared to show up, he would surely die. Xiao Ao danced his twin blades into a whirlwind of shadows to meet the attack, but Lin Mo simply dismissed it as a parlor trick. Lin Mo pivoted in midair, spinning his body rapidly to deliver another devastating strike, just as his tyrannical king aura fully ignited. The blood surrounding Lin Mo's body surged and evaporated into a mist 10 meters high, a truly terrifying display of raw power. The runes on the Heaven Spear flickered wildly as the two great talents, Army Breaker and Peak Speed, were pushed to their absolute limits. The speed of his spear swings increased tenfold in an instant, each strike carrying enough power to shatter mountains and split stone. Xiao Ao's eyes were filled with pure shock. He couldn't understand how anyone could possibly be this strong. It made no sense. He told himself it was impossible for Lin Mo to have reached such a level. Surely, he was only winning because of a lucky surprise attack. If he had only been prepared, he was certain he wouldn't be losing. At least, that is what he desperately wanted to believe. He swung his blades in a frantic, passive defense, but the relentless waves of spear strikes left his hands numb and trembling. Blood began to seep from between his fingers, and Lin Mo mockingly asked if he thought shouting louder actually made him stronger. With a cold laugh, Lin Mo flicked the spear shaft to bypass the twin blade's guard, creating a sudden opening in Xiao Ao's defense. He pressed down on the base of the spear and delivered a brutal kick directly into Xiao Ao's chest, sending him flying backward. Xiao Ao's body shot through the air like a cannonball, crashing violently into the depths of the dense forest. It was quite the landing. The 9 guards turned pale at the sight of their fallen leader and immediately realized that a tactical retreat was their only option. As the guards scrambled to protect their master and flee, Su Wanner quietly crouched down and began to slip away into the shadows. Lin Mo held his spear and watched the pathetic group scramble away, shaking his head in disdain. If you're weak, you should practice more. Lin Mo watched them flee, noting that if one can't handle losing, they shouldn't play the game. This was a battlefield, after all, not a private garden for spoiled heirs who need a dozen bodyguards to step outside. He suggested, with a voice that cut through the dense forest like a cold breeze, that Xiao Ao should probably just go home and find his mother for a bottle of milk. The words reached Xiao Ao's ears with humiliating clarity, and for a moment, he nearly lost his mind and charged back out in a blind rage. However, his guard Lu Cheng held him firmly to the ground, urging Su Wanner to retreat so they could find a safe place to treat the young master's wounds. Lu Cheng insisted that Lin Mo's strength was too great and they needed a better plan, while Xiao Ao could only scream that he would kill Lin Mo no matter what. Deep in the forest, Xiao Ao looked like a madman as he roared in fury, though the sharp pain in his chest served as a constant, agonizing reminder of his defeat. The pain only seemed to fan the flames of his anger, forcing Lu Cheng to hold him down even tighter while begging him to stay calm. Xiao Ao responded with a vicious backhand slap across Lu Cheng's face, screaming that they were all useless cowards. Yes, a very dignified reaction, indeed. He demanded to know why 9 men were too afraid to kill one person, while Lu Cheng silently wiped the blood from his mouth without showing any emotion. The handprint on Lu Cheng's face was clear, yet he didn't react, simply turning to Su Wanner and noting that the young master's injuries were quite severe. He asked her to begin the treatment, and Su Wanner nodded, a bright emerald light beginning to glow above her head as she summoned her power. The intense, burning pain made Xiao Ao tremble, and he cursed Lin Mo, calling him a dog who only won by launching a sneak attack while he was busy hunting beasts. He spat out insults about Lin Mo's lowly birth, his face twisting into a hideous mask of resentment as he ground his teeth in frustration. But as he calmed down, he had to admit to himself that Lin Mo's sudden appearance had caught him completely off guard, leaving him no room to breathe. He realized he had been suppressed the entire time, unable to even use the special skills of his twin flame blades or his strongest innate talents. He told himself that in a fair one-on-one fight, the outcome would surely be different. To be honest, he was desperate to believe he wasn't actually inferior. Lu Cheng pointed out that Lin Mo wasn't alone either, as he was accompanied by Xia Qingcheng of the Xia family and Tang Momo of the Tang family. There was also an unknown martial sovereign with them, meaning a full-scale battle wouldn't have ended quickly or easily for their side. He argued that delaying medical treatment would have been a disaster, especially since they were still in the early stages of the assessment. And we must remember that many top-tier geniuses have yet to show their faces, including the elites from the other two of the 5 great clans. Lu Cheng reasoned that if they had stayed to fight Lin Mo, both sides would have suffered, only for someone else to swoop in and take the prize. Xiao Ao, however, was consumed by a singular thought. He had to kill Lin Mo with his own hands to settle every old and new grudge. Watching him, Lu Cheng let out a silent, heavy sigh, knowing all too well that his young master had been pampered and sheltered since birth. Raised amidst endless affection, Xiao Ao had become far too arrogant and naive, a dangerous combination in a world like this. He feared that if Xiao Ao continued down this path, he would eventually meet his end in a petty argument. But what could Lu Cheng do? Coming from a humble background, he was merely a sworn shield for the family, with no right to make decisions for his master. The only thing he could truly do was remain the final shield standing in front of the young man. "Master, once your wounds are healed," he began. Meanwhile, Su Wanner was busy calculating. If she could use this assessment to get closer to Xiao Ao, perhaps even start a romance, her future would be set. She imagined becoming the young mistress of the Imperial City's Qin clan, which would allow her to transform her life and use their power for her own ends. She could get her father out of prison early and take her revenge. To her, Xiao Ao wasn't a person. He was a lifeline she had to grasp. Xiao Ao nodded, a murderous glint flashing in his eyes as he swore that Lin Mo would eventually die by his hand. He gripped the handkerchief Su Wanner offered him, struggled to his feet, and then tossed it aside like trash before walking away. As the group followed him deeper into the forest, we returned to Lin Mo, who was being scolded for moving far too quickly for his allies. Xia Qingcheng, Tang Momo, and Zhou Heng finally caught up, breathless, just as Lin Mo was deactivating his transformation. Tang Momo bounced around, peering curiously into the dense thicket of trees to see where the enemies had gone. When she asked where Xiao Ao was, Lin Mo calmly replied that he had already fled. That brief exchange had told him everything he needed to know. To Lin Mo, Xiao Ao was nothing more than a greenhouse flower, pretty to look at, but ultimately useless in a real storm. Tang Momo was utterly incredulous, unable to believe he had just chased off the future heir of the prestigious Qin clan so easily. Lin Mo simply remarked that the boy was quite weak, before asking why the family succession had fallen to Xiao Ao in the first place. And this is where things get interesting. As it turns out, there is a secret regarding the old master of the Qin family that few people know. Tang Momo explained that the Qin family had 3 sons and 1 daughter, a fact that everyone in Yinxia was well aware of, starting with the eldest son, Qin Heori. He was known as the King of Zhan, and he actually had a son of his own. If that boy were still alive today, he would be quite grown by now. However, after a duel with the senior Yi Chang'an years ago, he was left crippled. As for the second son, Qin Haoyue, he only had a daughter. She currently teaches at the Demon Capital Monster University, but in their eyes, she is just a woman and lacks the standing to inherit the family headship. Then there is the youngest, the third son Qin Haoran, Qin Rushuang's brother, who remains unmarried because the woman he loves wants nothing to do with him. Her heart is entirely set on Yun Tianjia, another deputy commander of the Crimson Holy Regiment. A classic case of unrequited love, it seems. When you add it all up, Xiao Ao is the only male heir left in the 3rd generation of the Qin family with the right to inherit the throne. So you see, Brother Lin Mo, Tang Momo started to say, reaching up to pat his shoulder, but his 6'1" frame made that a bit difficult. Realizing she couldn't reach the proper angle, she simply hopped up and gave his shoulder 2 performative little pats anyway. She warned him that Xiao Ao is the family's precious golden boy. If he were to actually die, the Qin family would absolutely lose their minds. Lin Mo nodded with a remarkably serious expression, telling her not to worry, as he wouldn't let the family trace the kill back to him. He seemed quite sincere about it, too. Just then, Xia Qingqing walked over, interrupting their chat to ask how they should handle the boss monster. While the two of them had been gossiping, she had been busy. We see that she has already frozen the bone ghost-faced lizard solid. "Kill it, let me do it," Tang Momo shouted, suddenly finding her second wind as she raised her hand high in the air. "Kill it, not a chance." Lin Mo walked right up to the beast and immediately began undoing the icy seal he had placed upon it. He noted that since the beast can produce bronze-level submonsters, they should let it spawn 4,000 of them before they even think about killing it. Xia Qingqing's eye twitched at the suggestion. To be honest, treating a high-level monster like a common laborer was a bit extreme, even for him. Even the most ruthless capitalist would probably bow to his efficiency. He then turned to Zhou Hong and told him to start moving the submonster corpses. He pointed toward the pile and gave the order, and Zhou Hong was quick to nod and get to work without a single complaint. After witnessing the battle with Xiao Ao, he had developed a profound respect for Lin Mo, the greatest genius in the history of Qinghai province. He was utterly awestruck, realizing that this was true, raw power, even more terrifying than the rumors suggested. Previously, he suspected the stories were just marketing hype, but now he saw the rumors were actually quite modest. He immediately transformed into his minotaur form, hoisting a corpse on each shoulder and tucking 2 more under his arms. After several trips, he finished moving the submonster corpses, and we see Lin Missouri place a hand upon the remains. In the blink of an eye, the bodies of these submonsters began to wither and shrink at a visible speed. Soon, nothing remained but thin skins, a sight that left the bone ghost-faced lizard watching in absolute, wide-eyed horror. Lin Mo frowned and delivered a sharp backhand slap to the beast, telling it to stop staring and start spawning. He warned that since ruins are full of monsters, if it continued to dawdle, it would be the next one turned into skin. That single slap sent a shiver through the bone ghost-faced lizard, nearly scaring the poor creature half to death. About 2 kilometers away from where the battle with Xiao Ao had taken place, there stood a small hill of yellow sand. Atop that hill, we find a man and a woman standing side by side, gazing toward the distant battlefield. The woman, her long hair tied in a high ponytail that brushed her shoulder, asked his opinion on the fight. A playful, slightly mocking smile rested on her fair face, her eyes carrying a hint of lingering charm. She possessed an elegant figure with long, slender legs that approached a nearly perfect golden ratio. She was a beauty whose temperament rivaled even Xia Qingqing's. She glanced at the man beside her and continued with a chuckle. She noted that while he considered himself an expert, he had dismissed the great Xiao Ao as not even worth mentioning. She remarked that Zhao Yiran was truly arrogant to his core, yet Zhao Yiran remained expressionless, his voice calm and cold. He stated that the Xiao family was finished if their best heir, Xiao Ao, only possessed such disappointing skills. She crossed her arms and shook her head with disdain, agreeing that if one is weak, they simply need more practice. To be honest, she felt that if he couldn't handle losing, he should just go back and start his life over. In her eyes, Xiao Ao didn't even have the right to fight her. Clearly, this so-called pride of the Xiao family was beneath her notice. It is often said that of the pride held by the 5 great families of the imperial capital, the Zhao family claims 80%. But looking at Zhao Yiran, she seemed to embody that entire 80% herself, prompting Chu Qingming to let out a cold, slightly bitter laugh. To be honest, Yiran's words were incredibly arrogant, considering Xiao Ao had awakened an SS-rank monster and was a powerhouse among his peers. Yet here she was, claiming he wasn't even worth her time. Yiran simply took 2 steps forward toward the edge of the hill. Gazing out over the yellow sands toward the lush, sprawling spirit sea, she spoke calmly, telling Chu Qingming that she was mistaken. She declared that as the top genius of the Zhao family's 3rd generation, she represented the family's entire legacy and all its pride. Naturally, she intended to claim every bit of that glory for herself, and the moment she finished speaking, she took a bold step forward. She leaped directly down toward the spirit sea, her cold voice drifting back on the wind, stating that the top spot in this exam was hers. She issued a chilling warning. Anyone who dared to compete with her would die, and with a flicker of movement, she vanished. We see her disappear into the depths of the spirit sea, leaving Chu Qingming to muse on how interesting it was that everyone was so conceited. Chu Qingming smiled, her eyes shimmering with intent as she decided that she, a so-called mere woman, also wanted to fight for that first-place rank. Before her voice even faded, her high ponytail whipped around as she turned and sped off in the opposite direction to continue her hunt. Meanwhile, back at the ruins, 2 sharp cracks rang out as Lin Mo delivered 2 more backhanded slaps to the bone ghost-faced lizard. The beast let out a miserable, shrill cry while nearby. Zhou Hong remained in his minotaur form, leaning on a massive bone weapon. He hadn't slacked off for a single second. For half a day now, every time the lizard split off a bronze-level submonster, he was ready. He had gone from being breathless with exhaustion to looking utterly bored, killing each new creature with a single, practiced swing. As for the bone ghost-faced lizard, it now looked completely drained, slumped on the ground like a squeezed lemon. It couldn't squeeze out the strength to spawn even one more monster, and Lin Mo rubbed his chin, looking at it with pure disappointment. Noting they were still 200 short, he glanced at the lizard and decided that since it was so unreliable, he might as well just kill it. Lin Mo turned to Xia Qingqing and told him to finish it off, causing the young man's mouth to twitch in disbelief. Deep down, Qingqing was cursing him, thinking Lin Mo wasn't even human for squeezing out every drop of value before showing no mercy. It was a ruthless, textbook display of cold efficiency, and nearby, Tang Momo couldn't help but shiver at the sight. She felt that Lin Mo was truly a wicked man, while he simply shook his hands and rested his spear on his shoulder with a sigh. In that moment, he finally understood exactly how it felt to be a demanding boss in his previous life. And so, the bone ghost-faced lizard, having been drained of everything it had to offer, finally met its end at Ching Ching's hands. With this kill, his military merit officially broke 1 point, making him a registered soldier in the eyes of the department. Lin Mo glanced at the numbers on the record and decided they would kill 2,000 more bronze-level beasts before truly starting. His face remained perfectly calm, showing no emotion at all, while meanwhile, high atop the walls of the assessment area's base, an official asked if all the candidates had entered, receiving a confirmation that all 282 were inside. Mayad pushed up his glasses and let out a cold laugh, noting that only the top 80 would be selected anyway. He remarked that the other 200 would be lucky to survive until the end. If they couldn't, that was simply their misfortune. He gave a playful whistle, looking quite amused, as the death rate for the Yinxia University entrance exam was always notoriously high. With the new moon beast tide approaching, he figured they should have been mentally prepared for the risks before coming here. The Lion Hunter General suddenly spoke up, sounding quite tired, and asked if they could pull up the current rankings to see. A colleague handed over the data, pointing out that the current leader was Zhao Iran of the Imperial Capital's Zhao family. She had already hunted several White Eagle-level monsters, bringing her military merit to a leading 3.6 points. In second place was Chu Qingning with 2.8 points, followed by Xiao Ao of the Xiao family with 2.2. Xia Qingcheng held the 7th spot with 2 points, as the staff displayed the rankings for everyone to see. They explained that essentially everyone with a score in the single digits was a genius capable of fighting White Eagle-level threats. In the entire assessment, there were only about a dozen such geniuses. As for those stuck at the 0.9 mark, well, there were plenty of those. The Lion Hunter General suddenly spoke up again, asking if they could find Lin Mo's ranking, though he seemed a bit skeptical himself. Mayad scanned the top 10 and didn't see the name at all, so he scrolled down further until he finally found him at rank 119. His military merit was exactly 0.99 points. Mayad was stunned, wondering just how many bronze-level beasts this kid had actually killed. We should note that everyone knows the rules for calculating merit. As long as you haven't slain a White Eagle-level monster, the points remain fractional. The merit simply stacks behind the decimal point. For instance, a level 10 bronze beast gives 0.9 points. 2 kills make it 0.99, and 3 make it 0.999, and so on. A rather tedious way to climb the ranks, to be honest. Lin Mo's score was essentially a 0.9 followed by a long string of 9s, proving he hadn't touched a single White Eagle-level beast yet. It seemed the boy had gone on a complete rampage against the bronze-level monsters, which left the officials wondering why he wasn't aiming higher. Mayad frowned in complete confusion, and the Lion Hunter General's expression wasn't looking much better either. With Lin Mo's strength, there was no reason to be ranked so low, leading the general to wonder if he was simply playing around in the zone. He hoped the boy wouldn't suffer an unexpected failure, as his gaze shifted to the top-ranked Zhao Iran, thinking about the competition. This time, Lin Mo's rival was the Zhao family's genius, often called the second Yi Chang'an. Meanwhile, we return to our protagonist. He was indeed playing, and he had gone quite wild with it. Suddenly, a massive boom echoed through a distant valley. Nearly 50 students were huddled together in a tight group, having been targeted by a monster of formidable strength. Countless beasts were pouring into the valley from every direction, pinning the 50 students into a desperate corner. Everyone was fighting with everything they had, yet they could only barely manage to hold their ground against the onslaught. They cried out in despair, realizing these monsters were endless. If the fight continued, they would all surely die of exhaustion. A student who had transformed into a black bear swung his iron fists and roared, unable to understand where this infinite tide was coming from. No matter how many they killed, more kept coming, leading to desperate screams for help from those who didn't want their journey to end here. Screams of agony echo one after another as several students are completely swallowed by the surging tide of the monster nest. We see the horrific end of those bitten to death and torn apart, including the young man known as the Black Iron War Bear, Xiong. He is forced to watch his best friend of 7 years have his limbs torn away by monsters and swallowed whole right before his eyes. His eyes are bloodshot with a rage that borders on madness as he swings his frozen iron staff with desperate, whistling speed. Yet he can barely hold them back, roaring in frustration at how nonsensical and cruel this situation has become. Back in their respective hometowns, these youths were all one-in-a-million geniuses, admired by peers and praised by every teacher. They carried the high hopes of their parents and the future of their lands. But the Yinxia University entrance exam is a different world. Here, they suddenly realize they are merely ordinary faces in a vast sea, surrounded by countless geniuses of the same caliber. Those superior to them are as numerous as grains of sand. In the vastness of Yinxia, talent is the one thing never in short supply. And a genius who hasn't truly grown up yet is worth nothing at all, a harsh reality, to be perfectly honest. We see a silver-level Wuni beast, a creature resembling a black slime, whose greatest trait is its terrifying ability to multiply. Xia Qingqing stands by Lin Mo's side, explaining that this creature could easily fulfill his requirement to hunt 2,000 bronze beasts. Lin Mo gives a cold laugh, a flash of ruthlessness appearing in his eyes as he decides that this monster will be his target. He declares he will fight his way out of the valley and shove his Shirtian spear right where the sun doesn't shine. Crude, but effective. Xia Qingqing blushes slightly at his rough language, asking if she and the others should wait there or follow him down. She shakes her head, deciding they will stay behind and wait for him, to which Lin Mo simply nods in agreement. Standing at the edge of the valley, he bites his lip with a smirk and whispers to the power within him, Tao Tai. He can feel the entity's excitement as he prepares to complete the second trial. Then, without a word, he leans forward and leaps. He dives straight from the towering mountain peak, hurtling toward the dense, tide-like swarm of monsters in the valley below. With a thunderous boom, a massive red light explodes, dyeing the entire sky the color of blood as the real battle begins. He tells himself he can't hold on any longer, ready to join Jingtao, as more students collapse from exhaustion after the long battle. Guoxiong, the Black Iron Warbear, has been one of the few to endure the longest, but even he has finally reached his limit. His frozen iron staff is knocked away by a monster, and the slime-like creatures begin to pounce on him one after another. As they prepare to swallow him whole, he realizes his journey ends here, despite all the hard work he and Jingtao put in. They had overcome countless dangers to get this far, dreaming of a vast future and a grander path ahead of them. He never imagined he would die in a place like this. Suddenly, a Wuni beast latches onto Guoxiong's head with a wet thud. His world instantly turns pitch black as his vision is cut off, while the giant Wuni beast guarding the valley entrance watches on. The creature lets out an excited, eerie laugh, having set its sights on these 50 talented human powerhouses long ago. To the beast, they are nothing more than delicious delicacies, and now it is finally time for it to enjoy a magnificent feast. The giant beast trembles with excitement, its multiplication speed increasing rapidly until a thunderous boom echoes through the valley. An overwhelming red light descends from above, and a blood-colored figure drops from the sky with the force of a falling star. Lin Mo laughs toward the sky, telling the beast to multiply even more, or there won't be enough for him to kill. The massive aura of Tao Tai surges out like a tsunami in every direction, carrying a ferocity that feels almost suffocating. Even the giant Wuni beast feels a chill run through its body, letting out a subconscious cry of pure terror as the air vibrates. The Shirtian spear dances in Lin Mo's hands at high speed, sending out arcs of crimson light that sweep through the monsters. 1, 2, 3. Countless Wuni beasts are instantly obliterated by the spear's glow as Lin Mo lets out a fierce battle cry. He slams the great spear down with devastating force, and in an instant, dozens of monsters are shattered into nothingness. The surviving students are stunned, watching as this one man begins to push back the nest that 50 of them couldn't stop. Guoxiong, having just dragged himself out of the slime, stares at the scene in complete disbelief at Lin Mo's sheer power. They had been trapped here for nearly a day, pushed to the brink of death, yet now this surging nest of monsters is being dismantled. He watched in awe as this one man single-handedly pushed back the tide, wondering what kind of monster could possess such power. Guoxiong gave a self-deprecating smile, realizing that while they were called geniuses, Lin Mo was the only one who truly earned the title. To be honest, he felt they were like the disposable soldiers of legend, perhaps not even worthy of being called foot soldiers in this battle. He shook his head as his remaining pride vanished. Meanwhile, on a nearby ridge, a figure watched the carnage with a cold, unimpressed sneer. We see Zhao Iran, the supposed genius of the Zhao family, looking down at the valley where Lin Mo continued his frantic assault. He noted that the giant beast was a silver second-rank creature, worth exactly 2 points of military merit, a prize he wanted for himself. Just as Iran prepared to dive into the fray to claim his kill, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly froze. With a thunderous boom, a massive dark shadow rose from the distance, instantly blotting out the sunlight above his head. He pulled back his step as he recognized the newcomer, Xiao Ao, the arrogant young master of the Xiao family. Deciding to wait, Iran crossed his arms to watch the show, figuring he would let the two of them tear each other apart first. A world-shaking roar echoed from the horizon, declaring that this time, there would be no escape for Lin Mo. Xiao Ao, now transformed into the 100-rending golden beast, plummeted from the sky while wielding his twin blades with lethal intent. He completely ignored the surrounding monsters, his eyes locked onto his target as his blades carried an overwhelming, crushing pressure. As he swung downward, 9 other distinct monsters launched a coordinated strike from the opposite side, led by a truly magnificent creature. This leader was a majestic steed with hooves burning with fierce blue flames, its body covered in armor that shimmered like crystal. It was a massive, imposing sight, sporting the head of a dignified dragon, clearly no ordinary beast of burden. This was the Blue Sky Dragon Horse, the SS rank beast transformation belonging to the formidable Ruchung. Leading 8 other S-rank monsters, he and Xiao Ao closed in from both sides, forming a deadly pincer movement around Lin Mo. Up on the ridge, the faces of Xia Qingqing and Tang Momo paled as they realized Xiao Ao had been lying in ambush this entire time. They saw that the trap was finally springing. With eyes full of worry, the two of them prepared to jump down and offer their support. Suddenly, a streak of white light like a soaring goose sliced through the void, blocking their path. We see a snow-white seven-tailed fox standing atop the clouds, its 7 fluffy tails swaying gently. Trailing sparks of pink light, she watched the young king of Qin in distress, and she felt a pang of pity. The 7-tailed fox spoke with a cold, mocking sneer, surprised that the icy Miss Xia could actually feel such passion. Her voice carried a seductive charm so deep that Zhou Hang's legs nearly gave out right then and there. This was Chu Qingning in her beast form. Xia Qingqing's gaze grew even colder as she recognized her rival. As the eldest daughter of the Chu family, Qingning had awakened the SS rank 7-tailed demon fox. This beast possessed immense potential, with the future possibility of evolving into the legendary 9-tailed sky fox. She declared that as long as she was there, neither Miss Xia nor Miss Tang would be leaving that spot. Qingning giggled, her eyes shimmering as she noted that the task of hunting those two belonged to someone else. Her enchanting fox eyes flickered with a soul-stealing light, prompting Tang Momo to scream at the vixen to get lost. To be honest, Momo was absolutely fuming at the blatant provocation. Qingning challenged them to try and defeat her if they wanted her to move. Then, a low hum filled the air. As her words fell, the azure phantom of an ice phoenix instantly manifested behind Xia Qingqing. Beside her, Tang Momo summoned a blackened purple butterfly phantom, threatening to freeze Qingning into a permanent statue. Qingqing spoke coldly, and before her voice even faded, the two of them lunged forward in a blur of speed. They charged straight at Qingning, while back in the valley, Lin Mo found himself facing an endless tide of monsters. With Xiao Ao and Ru Cheng closing in from the flanks, he was surrounded, and finally, he decided to stop holding back. Deciding on a change of tactics, he put away the sky-piercing spear and shook out his wrists. Then, a brilliant golden light erupted. The radiance exploded from within him, drowning out the surrounding gore as the world-shaking roar of a dragon echoed. The roar echoed through the clouds, and Lin Mo realized there was no longer any need to hide his true power. We see a pillar of golden light soaring upward, instantly drowning the entire valley in a blinding, celestial radiance. Ru Cheng stared at the light illuminating the heavens and earth, frozen in place as his soul nearly left his body from pure terror. The divine golden glow expanded until it covered the sky, filling every corner of the valley with an endless, shimmering brilliance. It felt as though a golden mountain from ancient times had descended. He was finally going all out, it seems. Xia Qingqing glanced toward the depths of the valley, immediately recognizing that earth-shaking draconic pressure. That power held an absolute, innate suppression over every living being in the world as the golden light continued to explode. And within that light, an even more terrifying presence was slowly beginning to awaken.